that, and Sohan throws away his body. The body of the Alliance leader lands on the ground and everyone can see the insides of his head. Inside Mason Pavilion, Sohan Jin tells his masters Dogma, who is also one of the 4 great Fiends, and his twin brother Iseon, that he is going to return to his clan of sword dancers. He has been training for 10 years under both of his masters, and Dogma is curious to know why he wants to return to the sword dancers, because the dark faction was after the clan and chances of their survival are pretty low. Sohan Jin tells his master that the clan took him in when he was an orphan, and they took care of him for 14 years. He is going to return to the clan to repay their favor in full by taking revenge for them. Dogma reminds Sohan Jin that his martial prowess is not completed yet, and taking revenge can be a bit hard for him. Dogma gifts Sohan with dual crescent that Dogma used to wield. His brother Iseon gifts Sohan with his white shan. Before Sohan could leave, his masters give him the last piece of advice that the martial world is a dangerous place, and even the strongest person can fall at any given moment. After listening to their advice, Sohan bids farewell to them. Sohan reaches the city of Sohokro in the middle of the night. He stops outside House of Moonlight where the Dancer clan was used to be. Standing in front of the House of Moonlight brings back memories of when he and other clan members used to play there. He wonders where everyone went, and the geography of the surroundings have also changed a lot. The only place which looks unchanged is the Roster Inn. Sohan goes inside the inn to gather information. After entering the inn, he realizes that the interior of the Roster Inn has not changed as well. Everyone present inside looks at him with suspicion, but he ignores them and sits on an empty table. Sohan recognizes the waiter as Dogon, but Dogon can't recognize him. Sohan orders 1 chicken head noodles, and Dogon goes to the kitchen to prepare it. In the distance, some martial artists ask Sohan that he is wearing black sheaths and black clothes. Everyone around that area already knows that wearing black is a symbol of hostility. Sohan asks for forgiveness as he had no idea about the ban on black color. The leader of the martial artists asks Sohan why he came to this town, to which Sohan replies that he used to live in this town, just across the inn, where House of Moonlight is right now. The leader thinks that he is from the Moonlight Brothel, but Sohan further elaborates and tells him that there used to be a sword dancer clan where a current brothel is situated. He further invites the leader of martial artists to his table and treats him to wine, to which the leader agrees. Sohan asks the leader about what happened to the sword dancers. It turns out that 10 years ago, the Ashblood clan took an interest in the sword dancers clan. The sword dancers fiercely resisted their advances, but the Blood Ash clan created a false pretext to attack them. They poisoned one of their own men and blamed the sword dancers clan for his death. That's how an all-out war began, and the sword dancers succumbed to their attack. The leader of the Ashblood clan took the women he had his eyes on to his stronghold, and it's hard to tell even if they are alive right now. The leader is a bit afraid of Sohan and tries to slip away, but Sohan asks him if he is also part of the Ashblood clan. The leader replies neither him nor his companions have any kind of affiliation with Ashblood clan. The leader is about to leave, but one of his idiot underling, Jie Guang, who cannot read the atmosphere, spills the beans that he and his friends caught one of the members of the Sword Dancers clan, Du Yang, during the conflict. Sohan remembers that Du Yang was a good sister of his. Sohan kills 2 of the sidekicks of the leader with chopsticks. He kills the leader of the martial artists by throwing the sword at him, which goes right through the leader's chest. Sohan now thinks that the Dark Faction is to blame for everything. When Hogon returns from the kitchen, he finds 3 dead bodies. He's amazed by the skills of Sohan. Sohan tells Hogon that they used to play together as kids, and Hogon remembers him as Dopey, which was his name at the Sword Dancers clan. Sohan tells Dopey that he was kidnapped by 2 masters who were amazed that their poison had no effect on him, and he was training under them till now. Hogon tells Sohan that the Sword Dancer clan looked for him everywhere after he went missing until the day they were destroyed. Sohan bids farewell to Hogon after tipping him a silver nyang. Sohan heads in the direction of the House of Moonlight. He starts heading towards where the current leader of the house is, but he is stopped by Sahyuk, the head of the mercenaries of the House of Moonlight. After hearing the ruckus, the leader invites Sohan to meet him. After sitting down in the room of the leader, everyone is asked to drink some wine. The wine which Sohan drank had poison in it, and he knows about it. He asks the leader why he poisoned his wine, to which the leader replies that he will give him an antidote if their conversation goes well. So-han gets pissed and uses his master's fan to poison the leader of Moonlight House and knock out all of his henchmen. The leader of Moonlight House is confused on how he got poisoned. While So-han is talking to the leader of the house, Sahyuk tries to attack So-han, but he gets pushed back without any effort from So-han. The leader of the house seizes this opportunity to attack So-han, but So-han cuts him in half with one strike. So-han is pissed at Sahyuk, but he spares his life and gives him a blue poison pill. Sahyuk swallows it in an instant because he knew he will be dead if he didn't cooperate with So-han. So-han inquires about the keys to the treasury from Sahyuk. Inside the treasury, So-han finds 4 100-year-old ginsengs and consumes them. He orders Sahyuk to address him as clan leader and tells him to let anyone leave if they want to, and give them 20-fold of the money from their usual salary as a farewell gift. The next day, everyone is packing to leave for their homes. Sahyuk reminds So-han that he has given them money as he was ordered, but he fears that someone from these workers will report what happened here to the Ashblood clan. So-han is not worried about that, but Sahyuk reminds him that Ashblood clan is quite large, and they have 4 brothels and 3 legions under their control. They even control 2 merchant syndicates and transport cartels. They have an ability to mobilize hundreds of men. So-han is confident that he can simply win by killing their leader, just like he killed the leader of the Moonlight House. So-han also tells Sahyuk that he can leave, but Sahyuk is afraid that he will die without the antidote of the blue pill. So-han pulls out a small box with blue pills, and without thinking much, Sahyuk quickly swallows one. So-han is shocked because the blue pill he gave Sahyuk before wasn't real, but this one is. Sahyuk breaks down and sits with So-han to drink wine without his permission because he knows he's gonna die either by sword or poison. Meanwhile, in the Blood Ash clan, someone reports about the loss of the Moonlight Pavilion to the warlord of Blood Ash clan. The leader of the Northern Wind Legion, Gildo Jung, asks for permission from the warlord to destroy the new guy who took over the House of Moonlight. The warlord agrees, and Gildo Jung seems to be very happy with his decision. So-han is strolling in the market with Sahyuk. They spot the Wind Legion heading towards the Moonlight House. So-han heads back to the Moonlight House to receive his new guests. After arriving at the House of Moonlight, Gildo Jung orders his men to search the Moonlight House. They couldn't find So-han anywhere and think that So-han left Moonlight House in a hurry without taking any money because he was afraid of Ashblood clan. They were all happy because House of Moonlight now belongs to them. Meanwhile, So-han steps inside the House of Moonlight and asks Sahyuk to lock the door behind him. After Sahyuk locks the door, Gildo Jung becomes furious and orders his men to get rid of So-han. All of them start rushing towards So-han. The first minion plunges towards So-han and tries to strike him head-on with his sword. So-han breaks the arm of the first attacker and strikes him with his hand, which leaves a handprint on the ribcage of the attacker, sending him flying towards the wall. He breaks the hands or legs of some of the other henchmen with just one strike. Other remaining minions of Gildo Jung try to charge So-han together, but their resistance is futile, because So-han uses a single technique to blast every single one of them. Sahyuk and Gildo Jung are both amazed by So-han's prowess, because So-han hasn't even used any of his weapons yet. Gildo Jung becomes afraid after witnessing the power of So-han. He tries to get away after making some excuses, but So-han is not a naive kid. Gildo Jung now knows that he has to put his life on the line because he can't get out of this mess. Gildo Jung starts charging towards So-han and throws one of his unconscious minions towards So-han. So-han blows the unconscious minion back at Gildo Jung with his hand, setting Gildo Jung into the wall. So-han jumps towards Gildo Jung and finishes him off with just a single powerful kick. After seeing how powerful So-han is, every single man in the room becomes amazed. After the death of Gildo Jung, the fighting stopped and the House of Moonlight is now a bloody mess. All of Gildo Jung's remaining lackeys are scared. So-han orders Sahyuk to open the door and let survivors go back. He also passes on a message that if the warlord of Blood Ash clan wants to get rid of him, he has to come in person. After that, So-han sits down drinking wine. The attitude of Sahyuk has also changed because he has witnessed the martial prowess of So-han firsthand. So-han tells Sahyuk to hide somewhere because once the whole Ashblood clan comes to take revenge, he cannot guarantee his safety. The warlord of Blood Ash clan is pissed after hearing the defeat of Gildojung. He orders his henchmen to gather up all men who can hold up a weapon, and they are also gonna behead the survivors of Gildojung's unit. This will serve as an example to everyone. Next night, the whole Ashblood clan is assembled outside the House of Moonlight, and Sohan wears a red robe, which sword dancers used to wear during their performances. He wants the Ashblood clan members to know that they are gonna get slaughtered, because they messed with the sword dancers clan. He asks Sohyuk to stay inside because he will be a nuisance to him. He goes outside, where the leader of the Ashblood clan recognizes him by his childhood name, Dopey. Sohan confirms that he's the Dopey of the Sword Dancers clan and he is back for revenge. Sohan gets a flashback of his childhood. He remembers that his sisters took really good care of him and taught him sword dancer techniques. He becomes furious and lunges at the center of the Ashblood clan members and starts massacring them with the crescent blades he received as gifts from his master. Sohan killed a lot of members of the Ashblood clan, but there are still a few hundred alive. They try to overwhelm him with their numbers, but it is of no use because Sohan easily kills every single person who attacks him. The warlord of Ashblood clan is a cunning man. He knows that Sohan is quite powerful and he's only using techniques from the Sword Dancers clan to finish his minions. Soon, Sohyuk, who is watching from the window, thinks the way Sohan is killing his opponents is elegant. Sohyuk and the warlord of Blood Ash clan both realize at the same time that Sohan is using poison at the same time. Ashblood clan members start dropping off like flies, either by poison or by Sohan's swords. The warlord of Ashblood clan is afraid that Dopey of Sword Dancers clan has returned as a demon. Sohan gives a chance to all members of the Ashblood clan to step aside if they want to live, and he only wants the head of the warlord of Blood Ash clan. Everyone steps aside to give way to Sohan. The warlord of Ashblood clan starts offering money and other luxuries to Sohan, but Sohan walks up to him and tells him to stop talking bullshit. Sohan is about to kill warlord of Ashblood clan, but he tells Sohan that he knows about the whereabouts of the remaining Sword Dancer clan members. Sohan hesitates a bit and warlord uses this chance to sneak attack Sohan. Sohan dodges it very easily and gets behind the warlord. He tells the warlord that he knew that the warlord is a scum and he will use underhanded methods. Sohan attacks the warlord using his swords, but the warlord manages to deflect them. Even though warlord deflected Sohan attacks, he still got poisoned somehow. Warlord orders his elite members to attack Sohan, and they start attacking him together in unison. Sohan seems to be struggling against the elite members of the Ashblood clan. He cannot attack them and only manages to deflect their attacks. This gives the warlord confidence, and he tells Sohan that they prepared expensive poison counters and Sohan cannot harm them now. Sohan is not faltered by this and uses a single strong poisonous wave which successfully poisons the warlord and his elite members in an instant. Sohan tells the warlord that the antidotes they took cannot save them from the poison of his masters. Sohan finishes off all the elite members of the Ashblood clan. The warlord becomes really afraid and starts offering many benefits to Sohan if he leaves him alive. But Sohan sees this last-ditch effort of the warlord to save his life as disgusting, which breaks the warlord from inside, and he starts telling the truth that he killed every single member of the Sword Dancers clan after he got tired of them. Sohan becomes furious and chops the warlord into many pieces. Now that the warlord is dead and his revenge completed, Sohan asks the remaining members to step forward if they want revenge for their leader, but no one steps forward. Sohyuk is amazed after witnessing the end of the Ashblood clan. Now that Sohan has taken his revenge, he is ready to move on to the next phase of his journey. Next morning, Sohan ordered Sohyuk to change the board of House of the Moonlight to the House of the New Moon. Sohyuk has also spread the word that House of the New Moon summons anyone who either knows or have met a member of the Sword Dancers clan. Sohan remembers that the leader of the Ashblood clan said that he killed every single member of the Sword Dancer clan, but there must be some members who were not present during the conflict. Sohyuk informs Sohan that everyone in Sohukro is glad that he took care of Ashblood clan. They are also giving him praise because the Ashblood clan did a lot of bad things in Sohukro. Sohan reminds Sohyuk that he is also a part of the Ashblood clan and he must also have done bad things. Sohyuk becomes ashamed after hearing it, and Sohan warns him to live virtuously from now on, and Sohyuk says that he will repent on his past mistakes. Sohan is glad that his revenge also freed many people from the tyranny of the Ashblood clan. Sohyuk informs Sohan that the heir of the West Gold Transit Cartel wants to meet him. Previously, their transit cartel was stolen by Ashblood clan, and they were laying low until Sohan took over Ashblood clan. Now they have come forward to express their gratitude. Sohan orders Sohyuk to look into this matter and return everything Ashblood clan took. Sohyuk now knows that Sohan is an upright man and he doesn't want any of the Ashblood clan's riches for himself. Dogon from the Rooster Inn arrives to meet Sohan. Sohan asks him about his father's health and he tells Sohan that his father makes excuses and stays at home so he doesn't have to do any work. Sohan tells Dogon to work for him as the head cook of the new House of Moon, but Dogon is a bit hesitant because he thinks working in the House of Moon can be dangerous for him, because he thinks even if Sohan doesn't start a fight, the neighboring powers will not leave him alone. Sohan tells him not to worry and is quite confident about his ability because he learned from one of the 4 great fiends. The Dark faction respectfully calls them the Noble Princes and the Light faction considers them the greatest threat to humanity. Dogon becomes a bit afraid after hearing it. He tells Sohan that he is glad that he is alive. He further warns him to be careful because other dark factions are gonna try to conquer Sohokro. Sohan asks if there are any notable sects he needs to be wary of. Dogon tells him in north of Sohokro there is a Northern Wolf Blades and in the south Great Dragon Sect. Both of these sects are quite formidable and they are around the level of the Ashblood clan. Dogon asks what will happen if both of these clans make an alliance to take down Sohan, and Sohan replies that he is not the one who should be afraid of them. After that, Dogon's mood lightens up a bit, and they both continue drinking. General Ji Nang reports about the events that happened in Sohokro to the leader of the Great Dragon Sect, Ha Song-im, but they are not aware of the exact identity of the guy who killed the leader of the Ashblood clan. General Ji Nang suggests that Sohokro is now free for the taking and they should send Shadowless Rogue Assassin. He also suggests that they should send a female assassin in as well, because he heard that the killer of the Ashblood clan warlord is a young man. Next morning, Sohyuk arrives with the fighters of the Kwido clan. They were his comrades and were merged into the Blood Rush clan. Sohan looks at them and tells Sohyuk that he can do as he wishes and the fighters leave after thanking him. Sohan inquires about the matter of the West Gold Transit cartel and Sohyuk replies that he took care of it. He further informs Sohan that he placed poison and medicine in one room and money in another, just like he ordered. The books and document they brought back from Ashblood clan are also stored separately. Sohan informs Sohyuk that from now on he will be using 3 whole floors and he needs Sohyuk to stop anyone from entering the rooms which Sohan is using. Sohyuk is a bit taken aback and he asks why he needs to stop everyone from going into his room. Sohan replies that it will be unfortunate if someone enters his room and dies after coughing blood. Sohyuk tells Sohan that he needs guards in case neighboring clans plan an assassination. Sohan tells him that he will use the guards that Sohyuk recommended. Sohan goes to the training grounds to test the skills of the new guards. Sohan tells the guards to not hold back against them, and one of them steps forward to spar with Sohan. The guard plunges towards Sohan and tries to do a stab attack, but Sohan easily changes the trajectory of his sword. Sohan breaks the sword of the guard and hits him in the side of the head with the handle of his sword, which knocks him out. Other guards become shocked after watching it. Sohan asks the next guard to step up, but no one dares to fight him. Sohan asks Sohyuk to fight him and he hesitantly agrees. After some time, Sohyuk and the other guards are defeated by Sohan and he tells them that they are going to have some sparring sessions every morning. Sohyuk tells Sohan that they will die at this rate, and Sohan replies that they don't need to worry about it because he will give all of them elixir that he picked up from the black market, which will quickly heal their injuries. He further tells Sohyuk that mostly dark faction martial artists don't live longer than 30 years, and Sohyuk in his current situation isn't even gonna make it to 30 years. Sohyuk agrees with Sohan and tells him that he will follow Sohan's teachings. While Sohan is strolling in the market, he is confronted by 2 shady men. The man with the sword tells Sohan that they are sent by the Northwind Wolf Blades and their leader sent a gift for Sohan. One of the guys presents Sohan with a letter. In the letter, it is written that the leader of the Wolf Blades wants to form an alliance with Sohan. After that, the short guy takes out a packet and tells Sohan that there are 100,000 yangs in it. A snake rushes out of the packet and bites Sohan. Both assassins are happy after watching it, but Sohan's face doesn't show any signs of worry. The assassin with the sword tells Sohan that he knows Sohan has some knowledge of poison, that's why he used the Blue Viper's venom, and he will only give the antidote to Sohan if he accompanies them quietly. Sohan simply grabs the snake and squeezes the life out of it. He tells the assassins to get lost, and the short guy tries to attack Sohan with a kunai, but he easily manages to dodge it. The assassin with the sword launches a sword wave attack, but Sohan easily deflects it with his dual crescents. The short guy throws 2 kunais at Sohan, and Sohan deflects them both in one strike. Both assassins keep attacking Sohan in synchronization, but he manages to deflect their attacks. Both of them get back to wait for the poison to kick in, and Sohan tells them that he knows they were not sent by Northwind Wolfblades. The small guy gets pissed and throws a smoke ball. After smoke fills the area, he starts running towards Sohan. He tries to sneak up on Sohan from behind, but Sohan is able to kill him without much trouble. When the smoke dissipates, the sword assassin can see that Sohan got rid of his teammate. Sohan again asks him about the identity of the guys who sent them, but the sword assassin is too much shocked by the current events. The sword assassin comes to realization that they were baited by the shadowless rogue to gauge the abilities of Sohan. Sohan tells him that he was fooled by whoever sent him. The sword assassin becomes enraged and rushes towards him. Sohan easily deflects his attack and cuts off one of his arms. Sohan tells the assassin that he is well versed in medicine and he can easily save him if he spills the beans. The sword guy easily gets persuaded and tells Sohan that he was sent by shadowless assassin rogue. Sohan finishes him off right after he got the information. Sohan knows that they must be watching him right now from somewhere to gauge his abilities, but he is not bothered by them, and thinks of them as mere vermins. Shadowless Rogue was watching the whole battle from afar and thinks that Sohan is a heartless bastard because he killed the assassin right after he promised him mercy. Sohan tells Sohyuk that someone sent assassins after him, but he took care of some of them. He wants to know of a way to easily summon the leaders of the Wolfblades and the Great Dragon sect. Sohyuk informs him that in the past, there used to be a warlords meeting which was held once a year, but this meeting doesn't happen anymore. Sohyuk suggests that they should host a warlords meeting. Sohan agrees and Sohyuk starts preparation for it. Dogon comes in with food and wine. All three of them enjoy it till night and Shadowless Rogue seems to be watching them through the window. He gets pissed because he knows that Sohan has an idea about his existence, but he is still so much carefree. Rogue decides to finish off Sohan tonight. Sohan goes to the training field with Dogon. He's going to perform a sword dance for Dogon, which he promised him the first time they met in Rooster Inn. Sohan starts performing his techniques and sees an afterimage of one of his sisters who vanishes away after congratulating him. Dogon goes back in because it is chilly outside, but Sohan stays on the field. Shadowless Rogue, watching from a rooftop, thinks that Sohan is being so carefree that he is begging to be killed. Shadowless Rogue throws a kunai at Sohan, but he easily dodges them by leaping back. Rogue brings out a snake-shaped cane and uses Blade Barrage technique to throw knives at Sohan, but Sohan uses White Gale with his shot to deflect all of them, and they drop on the ground in front of the Rogue. After seeing it, Rogue is shocked and thinks that Sohan might be stronger than him. Sohan thinks of him as a mere vermin, which pisses him off and he starts attacking Sohan fiercely. Sohan is just standing in one place blocking all of his attacks, and the difference between their inner power is too great. Shadowless Rogue starts coughing up blood, but he knows he's gonna die the moment he stops attacking. He attacks with all of his inner force, but Sohan successfully blocks it. Sohan has seen enough and attacks the Shadowless Rogue with his White Shan, sending him flying back. Shadowless Rogue now has an idea that Sohan is just toying with him. Rogue offers Sohan information in exchange for his life, but Sohan says it's too late for that. Rogue gets down on his knees and begs for his life. He even agrees to be the loyal dog of Sohan for the rest of his life. Sohan replies that he is not in need of a dog like him. Rogue starts spilling the beans. He tells Sohan that he was sent by the Hasong Im of the Great Dragon sect and they hired him for 10,000 yang. He was going to receive another 5,000 yang if he had managed to injure Sohan and another additional 10,000 yang if he managed to kill him. Sohan feels mercy for the rogue and gives him a sword so he can end his own life with dignity. He stabs himself with a blade and dies on the spot. General Ji Nang reports to Warlord Ha Song that Shadowless Rogue has been killed by Sohan, and the Red Lotus female assassin returned them the commission because she saw people from House of the New Moon burying the dead body of the rogue assassin. After examining the body, she found out that his death was self-inflicted. General Ji Nang thinks Sohan can be a threat to them and asks Ha Song to hold meeting of the warlords so they can form a temporary alliance with other warlords and eliminate Sohan. Ha Song agrees and General Ji Nang goes his way. A woman named Myo-ah appears from behind Ha Song. She seems to know another woman who used to be a sword dancer, but Yeoma took her away to make her into a disciple. Ha Song remembers that Yeoma is a powerful martial artist and it will be impossible to retrieve the sword dancer girl from her. Sohan receives a letter from Ha Song Im of the Great Dragon sect about the warlords meeting, and he suggested that the meeting should take place in the House of the New Moon. 10 people can participate from each sect. Sohyuk is skeptical about it because the first leader who hosted it in the past ended up dead, and dark factions are famous for their rivalry. Sohan tells Sohyuk that this is the reason why most martial artists from dark factions hardly make up to 30 years without dying. Sohyuk reminds Sohan that he may not be an exception in this regard. Sohan tells Sohyuk to run away if he ever faces an enemy he cannot beat. Sohyuk asks what if escape is not an option. Sohan replies that he should fight with the intention to rip his enemy apart with his bare hands. Sohyuk takes Sohan's advice to heart. Sohan assembles all the guards in the room. He pours them wine and tells them that the warlord meeting is going to happen the next day. All factions will come pouring in order to take over Sohokro. He tells them that the major battle will be decided between the warlords. He wants all 6 of them to do their best to survive, and he will take care of the rest by himself. Everyone agrees in unison and drank their wine. The next morning, Great Dragon Sect, Northwind Wolfblades, Five Poison Clan, Shadow Clan, and Fleeting Dragon Clan are outside the House of the New Moon. Each of them can only bring along 10 members of their sect inside the House of the New Moon. Warlord of the Five Poison Clan takes the lead and they head inside. They are greeted by Sohyuk at the entrance. He tells them that their seats have been arranged on the second floor. However, there are only 6 seats available on the second floor, which means only leaders can attend the meeting and their followers have to wait outside. Sohyuk guides them to the meeting room, but some of the warlords feel a bit disrespectful because Sohan was not waiting for them in the meeting room. Sohyuk goes to get Sohan. Warlord of the Five Poison Clan seems to be cheerful, but he is the most pissed about it from the inside. Sohan appears in the room and introduces himself. All warlords think that Sohan is quite young and he is looking down on them. Warlord of the Five Poison Clan congrats Sohan on killing the warlord of the Ashblood Clan and taking over Sohokro. But Sohan asks him about his true intentions. It turns out Ashblood Clan was responsible for providing daily lilies to many regions and Five Poison Clan was his biggest buyer. Thanks to Sohan, the transport of daily lilies has stopped. Ashblood Clan was also the major buyer of poison drugs from the Five Poison Clan. Sohan realizes that the counter-poison warlord of Ashblood Clan and his underlings must have come from the Five Poison Clans. Sohan asks the leader of Five Poison Clan about his true intentions. Five Poison Clan leader tells him that they are all business partners and he wants to resume the production and supply of daily lilies in Sohokro. Sohan tells him that it's just an excuse and Five Poison Clan warlord just wants to take over a part of Sohokro. Shadow Clan leader tells Sohan to be respectful to every other warlord. Sohan tells them that all of this is pointless for dark factions to sit around and bicker, so they should just cut to the chase. Everyone becomes alerted, but none of them is willing to make a move, so Sohan gave them 2 options. They can either duel him one at a time, or they can come at him all together. Warlord Jin of the Northwind Wolfblade sect asks about the difference between these 2 options. Sohan replies that if they fight him one-on-one, it will be considered a duel between martial artists and according to the dark faction laws. The loser has to serve the winner for their whole life. Warlord Jin asks what will happen if they all attack him together. Sohan tells him that in that case he will kill them all and he prefers this option. All warlords became a bit afraid after hearing it. Warlord Jin challenges Sohan to a duel. Once the duel starts, Warlord Jin uses his big blade to deal a critical strike to Sohan, but he easily blocks it. Sohan also retaliates using his crescent blades, but Warlord Jin somehow barely manages to block his attacks. After a few strikes, Warlord Jin realizes that Sohan is a better fighter than him, and he is barely blocking his attacks. Warlord Jin makes an opening so he can use a powerful technique on Sohan, but Five Poison Clan Warlord and the Warlord of Shadow Clan take this opportunity to deal critical damage to Sohan. Warlord Jin used Blade of the Wind Spirit technique. Shadow Clan Warlord uses Dark Thread Swordsmanship, while Five Poison Clan uses Five Poison Shot technique. Sohan knocks back Warlord Jin with 1 strike. He cuts the Warlord of the Shadow Clan into 2 halves with 1 powerful strike. Five Poison Clan leader manages to land a hit on Sohan with his poisonous technique. Warlord of Five Poison Clan is happy now that he's poisoned Sohan, but Sohan ignores him and asks the other 2 remaining warlords to quickly make up their decision. Both warlords have good observation, so they know that Sohan is showing weakness by getting hit by poison on purpose. He is actually testing them. Fleeting Falcon Warlords gets on his knees and pledges his alliance to Sohan. Hasong also follows suit and pledges alliance to Sohan. He also admits that he was the one who sent the assassins and he is ready to receive whatever punishment Sohan suggests. Warlord Jin accepts his defeat as well and agrees to serve under him. Sohan instructs the 3 warlords under him to kill the leader of the Five Poison Clan, and they agree. Leader of the Five Poison Clan is in shock after watching this turn of events. Five Poison Warlord tries to convince them by saying that Sohan is poisoned, but Hasong knows that Sohan is not affected by the poison in any way. Hasong knows that he needs to contribute the most in the death of the Five Poison Clan Warlord, or he's going to receive a very strict punishment from Sohan. Hasong uses Parting Blade of the Great Dragon technique to cut off one of the arms of the Five Poison Clan Warlord. Other two warlords stab him and their swords, and Hasong finishes him off by cutting his head with one strike. Hasong reports that the task is completed. Sohan says that Hasong was the one who was supposed to die during this meeting of the warlords, and he knew the reason for that. Hasong gets down on his knees and begs for his transgressions. Sohan forgives him for now by saying he will keep an eye on him. He tells Jin and the leader of the Fleeting Falcon to withdraw their troops, and they are going to have a drink together. He tells Hasong to get up and join them, to which Hasong happily obliges. All three warlords get knocked out after inhaling some minor poison. Sohan is wondering whether to kill them here or let them serve under him. He decides to spare their lives for now. All three of them wake up and realize that Sohan can take their lives whenever he wants. Hasong tells Sohan that a low-level informant told him that one of the four great fiends, Yoma, took away one of the sword dancer girls to make her into her disciple. Sohan asks Hasong whether he is lying Sohan into fighting the Yoma, to which Hasong replies that he is telling the truth. Sohan asks about the location of the Yoma. Warlord Jin tells him that there is a rumor that she was seen somewhere in Jiang'an Dark Faction, and they should be able to find her in no time. Hasong says he will order his troops to find her location. Sohan remembers that the great Yoma only takes beautiful female disciples, and she brutally murders them once they lose their virginity. Yoma also has a mysterious and convoluted personality. Sometimes she kills her disciples for being too much beautiful, and sometimes she kills them for being rude. Despite all of that, her strength is indisputable. That's why she's called the Great Yoma. He instructs the warlords that his new faction, Chonyang Dark, will stop referring her as Great. Sohan becomes furious and he needs to save this member of the Sword Dancers clan as soon as possible, because Yoma does not take in disciples to train them. Rather, she takes in those disciples to cultivate their inner power for a while before absorbing them herself to maintain her youth. The next morning, Sohan gathered his guards in the training ground. Sohan asks them about their thoughts after witnessing the skills of the faction leaders. So-hyuk, along with the other guards, have no words because they know they are weak compared to the leaders. Sohan asks them if they know why they need to get stronger, and all guards reply with a yes. Sohan tells them that they don't need to worry much because those in dark factions must foster solidarity rather than martial arts to become stronger. All guards, including So-hyuk, become a bit confident. He tells them to treat the other leaders according to their respective positions, and he also tells them to not think of themselves below the other leaders, because they are all his personal guards. The guards are bustling with confidence and they become a bit happy after hearing it. Sohan informs them that he will be soon meeting the witch. All guards become shocked after hearing it, and So-hyuk asks him if he is referring to the Great Yoma, who is one of the four great fiends of the Dark Faction. Sohan asks So-hyuk why he asked this question. So-hyuk tells him that he trusts his abilities, but the great fiends are literal monsters, and they can also go head-to-head with the most powerful members of the Light Faction. Sohan gets serious and he tells them that Yoma is one of the four great fiends, but soon the fiends will be only reduced to 3 members. After some days during nighttime at Green Plum House, which is a Jiang'an Dark Faction area, Sohan is sitting at the faction house of Jiang'an Faction. A month ago, So-hyuk forwarded a message from the leader of the Great Dragon Sect, which stated that Yoma was last seen in the domain of the Jiang'an Dark Faction. It's already been a month since Sohan came here, but he has not spotted her yet. Sohan needs to rescue his sister before the Yoma can absorb her core. A female hostess arrives in the room occupied by Sohan, and she asks him why he is sitting alone. She keeps pestering him by asking if he wants her to pour a drink. Sohan is not in a good mood, so he tells her to get lost. The female hostess starts leaving and she is feeling embarrassed. A girl in white dress is sitting far away from Sohan. The girl asks her first sister, Sol, that she is curious to know why Sohan is rejecting so many girls. Sol tells her to mind her own business and focus on the drinks. The girl tells Sol that she can't ignore Sohan because he's quite handsome. Sol stays silent as she is worried about something else. The girl asks her if something is wrong because she is not looking cheerful like usual. And their master warned them to never drink, but she is drinking right now. Sol asks her junior sister if she has ever seen any of their senior sisters getting killed with their own eyes. The junior girl says that she has never seen it happen with her own eyes, and their master always told them that they were captured and killed by one of the great fiends called Sekma. Saul states that their master has been telling them the same story from a very long time. Saul has doubts that maybe their senior sisters were killed by their master, but she keeps her doubts to herself. Their second sister, Dam, who is also their master's favorite, arrives there and she informs Saul that their master is requesting her presence. Saul tells her to sit down and she will go once she finishes her drink. The three of them sit down together and they start chatting as usual. One of them says that Dam is being bratty because they rescued her from a nameless dark faction. They are being too loud, which attracts the attention of Sohan. He becomes curious to know this nameless dark faction they are talking about. Sohan moves closer to them and he asks them if he can join their conversation. Saul tells Sohan that his approach is very stereotypical and she has never heard anyone start such a boring line. The junior sister informs Sohan that their master forbade them from mingling with men. This just confirmed the suspicion of Sohan, as the great Yoma is also famous for forbidding her disciples from talking to men. Sohan looks at Dam and he thinks that maybe she was an orphan who was taken in by the sword dancers after he was kidnapped, and he needs to save her. Saul tells him that he can sit down with them, and she thinks Sohan is interested in their second sister Dam. Sohan sits down, and because he is a smooth guy, he tells them that drinks are on him. Saul asks Sohan why he approached them. Sohan tells her that he is searching for a woman who was hiding in the Great Dragon sect dressed as a man. The expression of Dam completely changes after hearing it. This further confirms that Dam is the girl he was searching for. Sohan informs her that he came from the New Sword Dancers clan and his nickname is Dopey, and if she ever heard of this nickname before. Dam becomes more shocked and she clearly remembers a boy by the name of Dopey who went missing before she was taken in by sword dancers. Dam becomes happy and she tells Sohan that her real name is Damwal. She joined the Sword Dancer clan after Sohan disappeared, and she further informs him that their older brother Siwal mentioned him a lot. Sohan tells her that he is like her brother Siwal, and from now on he will take care of her. Damwal becomes happy and she is thinking that Dopey is just like everyone said he was. Damwal thanks Sohan for being considerate of her. Saul and junior sister become amazed after witnessing this sudden change of events. Damwal is happy that she met her long-lost senior brother, but she tells him to leave, because Sohan will be in danger if their master hears that he is with them. Damwal further pleads to Saul to not tell their master about Sohan. Saul signs, and she tells her to not worry about such a small thing. Sohan interrupts them by saying that their master must be the great Yoma. This shocks the three of them, and Sohan asks them if they practice the divine jade style. He further informs them that they must be told by their master that only maidens who haven't laid with men can quickly accumulate inner power through the divine jade style. The junior sister asks him how he knows about all of this. Son replies by saying that Yoma must not have told them that she will take their inner power. This further shocks the sisters, as they already had some doubts about their master. Sohan further elaborates that Yoma is quite famous for absorbing the inner power and vital force of her disciples, and the original name of the divine jade style is demonic jade style. Damwal and Saul stay silent, as what Sohan just said matches the events that happened in the past. Damwal tells her sister that she always thought that it was quite strange that their master didn't age after all these years. The three of them are quite confused, as they don't know what they can do after knowing the truth. All of a sudden, they get surrounded by a sound transmission which asks them where they are right now. The three of them become alerted, as this voice belongs to their master, Yoma. Damwal informs Sohan that their master must be close by, and he should run away. Sohan stays silent without replying to her. Saul also advises him to run away or he will die if their master finds him here. Sohan silently pours wine into his cup. He then starts drinking the wine without having any worry about the incoming danger. The great Yoma makes her appearance near them. Sohan already knew that running away was of no use because Yoma was already lurking close by. The three sisters get down on their knees as a sign of respect for their master. Yoma inquires about Sohan from her disciples. Saul tells her that he is just a passerby who came to join them for the wine, and they were about to turn him away. Yoma gives off a grin smile, and she tells them that if that is the case, then they should kill Sohan. The three sisters are a bit taken aback by this order, so Saul makes up an excuse that Sohan is from Jangan Dark faction, and it will be troublesome if they kill someone from that faction. Yoma tells Saul that her heart is acting weird for the last few days, and it's a common occurrence when learning the divine style. Saul is thinking that maybe their master Yoma just misunderstood Sohan for her lover. Yoma says that it is better if Sohan is from Jang and Dark faction because he can be a capable fighter. Yoma orders Sol to kill Sohan and free her heart from his shackles. Sohan says that a master who orders her disciples to kill an innocent person must be a high-ranked nut job. This shocks Yoma a little bit because Sohan seems to be too calm in this situation. Yoma moves right behind Sohan and she asks him if he knows about her. Sohan warns her to keep her distance because the smell of her makeup is ruining his appetite. This shocks Yoma as well as her disciples. Yoma asks Sohan if he has a death wish as she removes her veil. Yoma further asks Sohan how he wants to meet his end. Yoma is thinking to herself that men like Sohan are just same trashes who react the same before they die after seeing her face. Sohan has no effect from the beauty of Yoma, and he warns her for the second time to get her ugly mug away from him. This angers Yoma and she grits her teeth. Yoma gets ready to attack Sohan with a fist technique. Sohan was waiting for this moment and he prepares a counter fist as well. Both of their hands cancel out each other's attack, which results in a big explosion. And Sohan jumps back to keep his distance. Yoma swirls her whip towards Sohan and he dodges it by leaping back a bit. Sohan lands on a rooftop of a building. Yoma applauds Sohan for having good martial prowess and she asks him who he is and if he approached her disciples on purpose. Sohan finally gets his dual crescents out. Yoma knows that these dual crescents belong to another fiend called Dokma, and she asks Sohan if he is a disciple of Dokma. Sohan gives off a grin smile without replying back to her. The three sisters become shocked as they also know that Dokma is one of the 4 fiends, just like their master. Yoma says that now she knows why Dokma was keeping such a low profile and he was fostering a disciple all this time. Yoma is thinking that Dokma is here, so she calls Dokma to come out instead of sending his disciple. Sohan tells her to shut her damn mouth because his master is not here. Yoma asks Sohan if he wants her to believe that he is challenging her alone without his master. Sohan tells her that it's none of his concerns whether or not she believes him, and he further mocks her by saying that he don't need the help of his master to take care of trash like her. This further enrages the Yoma, and she prepares her white dragon whip for the next attack. She swirls her whip towards Sohan, but he easily dodges it. She keeps on attacking him, but Sohan dodges all of her attacks. The whole building starts crumbling from the recent attacks. Sohan jumps down as the rooftops are no longer safe. Yoma uses another white dragon whip attack on Sohan, and instead of leaping back, Sohan lunges toward her. Sohan blocks the white dragon whip attack with his crescent blades, but the last attack still left a scratch on his face. Yoma tries to hit Sohan with a powerful dragon whip attack. Sohan blocks the attack, but the force of the dragon whip pushes him back. Sohan lands a bit back in the distance. He then plunges toward the Yoma at full speed. Yoma is thinking that even though Sohan is a disciple of Yoma, he is still just a rookie who is rushing toward her like a fool. After dodging the whip, Sohan dashes toward Yoma. Yoma pulls the white dragon whip towards Sohan. The tip of the white dragon whip starts moving towards Sohan at full speed, but Sohan manages to barely dodge it in time. He thought he managed to dodge the whip, but he still got a cut on his arm. Yoma keeps on pushing Sohan back with a barrage of whip attacks. Sohan suffered a lot of cuts from these last attacks, but he still keeps on rushing toward Yoma. Yoma is thinking that maybe Sohan is trying to get close to her to use his poison techniques. Yoma imbues her white dragon whip with a lot of inner ki. She then attacks Sohan with a powerful whip attack bursting with energy, which forms a big cloud of smoke. After the smoke disappears, Yoma becomes shocked after witnessing Sohan still standing in front of her. Yoma applauds Sohan for his spirit. Sohan is thinking that one of the 4 Great Fiends title is no joke. She is shutting down all of his efforts to get closer to her so he cannot use any poisonous techniques. All of a sudden, Sohan starts laughing because fighting a tough opponent is even more fun for him. Yoma is pissed because Sohan is up against a fiend, but he's still laughing like a lunatic. Yoma prepares to go all out against Sohan. Yoma imbues her white dragon whip with her inner energy and she swings it towards Sohan. Sohan starts deflecting them with the crescent blades. He keeps on deflecting the endless barrage of attacks from Yoma. Some of the deflected whip attacks land on the buildings around them, destroying them in the process. The attacks are getting more fierce, but Sohan is not giving up and the buildings around them are getting shredded to pieces. Yoma grabs the last pillar of the building standing above Sohan and she pulls it toward her. The destruction of the pillar results in the falling of the building towards Sohan. The whole building smashes on the place Sohan was standing. Damwon and her sisters become worried after witnessing it. The smoke from the rubble covers the whole ground. Yoma says that his master taught him well, but fortunately it all ends here. All of a sudden, 2 slashes move toward Yoma from the rubble. Yoma is shocked to see these flying slashes. She manages to block the slashes, but the force behind them was too fierce, and the impact pushed her a bit back. Yoma is still shocked as she has no idea how Sohan can still use such powerful slashes. After some time, she spots Sohan standing inside the smoke and a poisonous energy is emitting from his body. Sohan plunges toward Yoma again, but this time he is covered in poisonous energy. This time Sohan is much faster than before, so he manages to close the distance by a lot in a short span of time. Sohan uses slash attack from a close distance. Yoma prepares a whirling vortex technique to counter the slashes. The slash attack clash with the whirling vortex and they manage to rip apart the whirling vortex. One more slash pushes through the bursted vortex and it manages to slash the jewelry of Yoma. The slash attack lands on the building behind her and it shreds the whole building into rubble. Yoma becomes more pissed and she asks Sohan if he was hiding his strength from the start. Sohan gives off a grin smile without replying back to her. Without wasting any further time, he plunges toward Yoma once again. Sohan keeps on pushing toward her while dodging her attacks. Yoma becomes alerted as she thinks Sohan is getting more faster. Yoma puts all of her force into her next attack. She performs a powerful white dragon whip attack and she leaps back to avoid any further close-range confrontation with Sohan. After the smoke subsides, Sohan is still standing on his ground and blood is pouring out of his body. Sohan warns Yoma that he is going to offer her corrupt body to his master as a test subject for his experiments. Yoma is confused as to where his confidence is coming from. She thinks that maybe he's poisoned, but she's not sure about it. She swings her white dragon whip towards Sohan once again, and this time, she gets a hold of one of the crescent blades. She tries to pull the crescent blade toward her along with Sohan. Yoma says that she will rip Sohan apart as she prepares a powerful palm attack. Sohan gives off a grin smile and he lets go of his crescent blade. The crescent blade starts moving toward Yoma at full speed. Yoma dodges the blade but she's having trouble in pulling her white dragon whip back. Sohan leaps toward her without wasting any time. Sohan attacks her with a slash attack from close range. Yoma blocks the attack with her scarf. Sohan uses the last attack as a distraction to get close to Yoma. He successfully grabs Yoma with all of his strength. Sohan pulls Yoma high up with his hand. Sohan gives her a sad news that from now on there will be only 3 great fiends. Yoma begs Sohan for her dear life, but Sohan keeps squeezing her neck while pouring poison inside her body. After some time, he snaps her neck with a crackling sound like a twig. Sohan tosses her body away from him. The body of Yoma still keeps twitching from the poisons poured inside her. Sohan glares at her for the last time as he stands victorious in front of the moonlight. After some time, someone reports to the leader of the Jangan Dark faction, So-guk, that Yoma was defeated by the great fiend Sekma. His underling Deadeye confirms it by saying that he heard that the Yoma was defeated by the great Sekma last night at the House of the Green Plum. So-guk asks Deadeye if he found the reason why Sekma killed Yoma all of a sudden. Deadeye reports that the witness said that Sekma approached the disciples of Yoma for a drink, but he was caught by Yoma who was searching for disciples at that time. So-guk asks Deadeye if he is sure that the one who killed Yoma was Sekma. Deadeye tells him that he is sure about it because the female disciples were not hurt after the death of Yoma, and they followed him willingly, which further confirms that it was the work of Sekma the rapist. He further informs So-guk that Sekma is an expert of disguise, and there are not that many young men around here who can kill a great fiend by themselves. So-guk bursts with anger because the fiends are just running amok as if Jangan Dark faction is their playground. The next night, Sohan is having a chat with the 3 former disciples of Yoma. Damwal asks him how he became the disciple of Dokma. He tells her that he was kidnapped by Dokma the Fiend. The third sister says that she heard from her master that Dokma is a frightful person. Sohan says that she is correct, because Dokma is obsessed with the study of poisons, and he even tests poison on living humans. The 3 sisters become shocked after hearing it, because Sohan would have gone through the torturous training of Dokma. Sohan thinks to himself that his master had changed in the recent 10 years, and there were no kidnappings because Sohan didn't die from his master's experiments. Sohan advises them to never tell anyone that they are disciples of the great fiends because no souls in the martial world likes them. They all agree to it, and Sol inquires about the white dragon whip of their master. Sohan tells her to forget about it because he took care of that cursed weapon along with the corpse of Yoma. Sol in shock tells him that dragon whip was an extremely valuable weapon. Sohan informs her that White Dragon Whip had taken the lives of many Dark and Light faction experts, and as long as someone uses it, they will be hunted by countless experts from both Light and Dark faction. Sohan excuses himself by getting up first, and he tells them to enjoy their meal. Sohan goes to a pool to recuperate himself. Most of his wounds from the fight with Yoma have already been healed, but he's still worried how his masters will react once they find out that he killed Yoma. All of a sudden, some Jangan Dark Faction martial artists step into the pool area. They come to a halt in front of Sohan. Deadeye makes his appearance and he pays his respect to the great fiend Sekma. Sohan is a bit taken aback after being misunderstood as a fiend. Deadeye is thinking to himself that Sekma is a master of disguise and he will be impressed by his ability to discern his true identity. Sohan becomes a bit agitated and he tells Deadeye that he must have lost his mind. Deadeye becomes shocked as he is now thinking that maybe the young man in front of him is not Sekma. Sohan gets up so they can have a proper look of his body. All martial artists become shocked as most of his body is covered in scars, plus there's a poisonous reflection staring at them. Deadeye thinks to himself that there are too many scars on his body, and he must have received those during countless battles. Deadeye again mistakes him for another fiend, Guangma. Sohan steps closer to him and he tells Deadeye that he is making a fool of himself. Deadeye stares at the martial wooden stick of Sohan, and he again says that he knew it, that he is the great rapist Sekma. This makes Sohan really angry and he starts smacking all of them. Deadeye reports everything that transpired at the pool to Soguk. Soguk tells him that he should have just died right there without bothering to report back. Deadeye starts trembling and he says that he is really sorry. Soguk just sent him to gather some information and he came back in such a miserable state. Deadeye informs his lord that he approached him with utmost courtesy, but he started beating them and his skills were extraordinary. Soguk asks him if he told them about his real identity. Deadeye replies by saying that there were terrible scars all over his body and his temper was quite fiery. He says that he is sure that young man must be Guangma. Soguk becomes angry and he gets up. He tells them to gather all the men because the great fiends are just thinking of his dark faction as fools. But one of his advisors suggests him to think again, because either they are dealing with a great fiend or a martial expert who can deal with one. Soguk angrily says that his dignity is on the line, and how can a mere expert deal with his faction of Jangan Dark? His advisor shuts his mouth as further talking reason with their lord can be dangerous for his life. Soguk further orders his advisor to get Deadeye to work as a hall boy from now on. Deadeye barely contains his tears as he has been demoted to a hall boy. The next morning, Sohan is having a drink by himself when he gets approached by the three sisters. Damwal asks him if he had a good sleep last night, and Sol mocks him by calling him Sekma. Sohan pauses for a second and he tells her to not call him Sekma ever again. Sol tells him that she will not call him Sekma, and as she is about to say something, Sohan interrupts her by saying that neither is he a disciple of Sekma. Sol gets impressed by the ability of Sohan to read minds, as he already predicted what she was about to say. Before they can continue their conversation, they get alerted after hearing a loud voice coming from outside. The whole Jangan Dark Faction is gathered right outside the inn. Their leader, Soguk, is present there as well and he orders his men to fetch Sohan for him. Two members of Jangan Faction head inside and the door closes behind them. After some time, both of them are kicked out of the inn. Sohan heads outside and he inquires about the bastards who are trying to ruin his morning. Soguk asks him if he is Guangma the Fiend. Sohan says that idiots keep misunderstanding his name and a day before, some fools were calling him Sekma. Sohan tells him for the last time that he is not one of the fiends. Soguk becomes happy after hearing it. Soguk introduces himself as the patriarch of Jangan Faction and he asks for his name. Sohan tells him his name and he further informs him that he is from Chonyang Dark Faction. Soguk is a bit confused about this Chonyang Dark Faction, so he asks Sohan if it is the same Chonyang that is the home to the Great Dragon Sect and the Ash Blood Clan. Sohan informs him that he is correct. Soguk asks him what is he doing here and if his faction knows that he is here. Sohan informs him that there is no need for them to know, because he has taken command over the whole Chonyang Dark Faction. Soguk is thinking that if Sohan has really taken command over Chonyang Faction, then attacking him would be quite troublesome. Soguk asks Sohan why he came here and why he killed the Great Yoma. Sohan shuts him up by saying that it is none of his business. Soguk becomes angry after hearing it. He demands Sohan to hand over the disciples of Yoma because he has a debt to settle with Yoma and her disciples. Sol comes up with her sisters and she says that Soguk kept his mouth shut when their master was alive, and now after her death, he got the courage to ask for such demands. All martial artists of Jangan Dark Faction become captivated after witnessing their beauty. Soguk inquires about the relationship between Sohan and the disciples of Yoma. Sohan says that they simply know each other and this reason is enough. Soguk becomes more furious because Sohan is not taking him serious. Soguk says that Sohan should hand over the disciples of Yoma to him, and this way, there won't be any cause for trouble between the Chonyang Dark and the Jang'an Dark faction. Sol and his sisters are a bit afraid that maybe Sohan will hand them over due to the fear of an all-out war between the two factions. Sohan says that he has no intention of handing over anyone to Soguk. The three sisters become relieved after hearing it. Soguk flares up and he says that in the Jang'an Dark faction, his word is the law, and that's how it's always going to be. But Sohan corrects him by saying that in the Dark faction, the strongest dictates the law and the strong ones can make or break any law at their whim. Sohan asks the three sisters if they are capable fighters or if he needs to keep an eye on them during the fight. Sol informs him that they are not that weak and they are also disciples of a great fiend. The mood of Sohan lightens up and he says that the wind is rising. Soguk asks him what type of nonsense he is spewing now. All of a sudden, Sohan leaps up in the sky. The martial artists of Jang'an Dark faction are confused about what Sohan is about to do. Sohan opens up his White Shan and he uses Divine Gale skill with the help of White Shan. Divine Gale starts moving toward the group of Jang'an faction martial artists. Soguk uses a slash attack with his sword. The slash attack manages to cut through the Divine Gale, but the martial artists on his both sides get swept away from its impact. The three sisters start moving toward the battlefield. They easily slash martial artists with their swirling whips. Soguk had no idea that the disciples of Yoma were this much powerful. All of a sudden, Sohan appears next to him. Sohan compliments him for splitting the Divine Gale. Soguk grits his teeth and he angrily performs a sword slash attack on Sohan. But his slash attack gets easily blocked by the White Shan of Sohan. He keeps on attacking Sohan, but Sohan blocks all of his attacks without fighting back. Sohan tells him that he is quite disappointed to find out that all this time, Jang'an faction was ruled by a weakling. Sohan attacks him with his White Shan. Soguk manages to deflect the attack of Sohan with his sword, but he gets pushed back. Even though Soguk deflected his attack, but his arm has gone numb. He is still confused as to how a young man can have such a great amount of inner power. The martial artists behind him are dying like flies, which is also quite worrisome for him. Sohan flaps open the White Shan and Soguk starts grinding his teeth with anger. Sohan glances at the ongoing battle between the martial artists from the Jang'an Dark sect and the three disciples of Yoma. The brutes fighting against them have fairly good teamwork, and they look like the top brass of Jang'an faction. Sohan is glad that none of the disciples of Yoma are struggling against such formidable foes. Soguk becomes more pissed as Sohan is ignoring his opponent like he is looking down on him. Soguk fiercely grips his sword and he rushes towards Sohan at full speed. Sohan blocks his sword attack with his White Shan. Soguk keeps on pressing his sword towards Sohan, but he cannot move him. Sohan pours some of his energy in the White Shan and he starts throwing jabs at Soguk, which he barely manages to block. Soguk bursts with anger and he performs a sword slash attack with his sword. Sohan moves his White Shan toward his sword. Upon impact, the sword breaks and the front part flies up in the sky. Soguk is still persistent, so he tried to attack Sohan with his broken sword, but Sohan puts his White Shan near his head and he tells him to order his men to stand down. Soguk is a bit hesitant to comply with Sohan because of his pride, but after seeing rage in one of the eyes of Sohan, he finally orders his men to stop. His lackeys are a bit confused because their leader is a stubborn fellow who will never stop until he achieved what he wanted. Soguk shouts at his men to withdraw their weapons. All of his men drop their weapons and the fighting stops. Sohan says that he will respect his claim to be the strongest man in Jang'an faction, but he warns Soguk to always remember that he is beneath him. He further informs him that from now on, the whole of Jang'an Dark faction will be under the command of Chonyang Dark faction. Sohan tells him either he can accept this offer or die right here. Soguk has no other choice because Sohan is way above his league, so he drops his weapon and agrees to serve Sohan. Sohan orders him to send all of his men back and wait for him at the Pine Grove Inn with his best men. Soguk is a bit relieved because he got away with his life after causing such a ruckus. Sohan asks the three sisters if they got hurt, and they tell him that they are alright. With that said, they start heading inside the inn. Soguk is waiting for Sohan in the Pine Grove Inn with his top brass. One of his men informs him that he sent his men to scout around the area, and they found no signs of Chonyang Dark faction forces. Another man tells him that if Sohan comes in alone, that's going to be their last chance to get back at him, and whatever Soguk decides, they will follow it. Soguk informs them that Sohan didn't show the true extent of his power during their fight, and they cannot best him even if they attack at once. His men become surprised after hearing it. Sohan had 2 blades under his robe, but he easily dealt with him by only using a white metal shan. He shows them his wrist, which almost broke after deflecting the attacks of Sohan. Plus, his men couldn't even defeat the disciples of Yoma. His men apologized to him for their incompetence. Soguk says that he is not blaming them, and he was just stating the facts. All of a sudden, Sohan steps inside the room and he asks them if they are done with their strategic meeting. Sohan sits down in the main seat and he asks Soguk if he has made a decision yet. Soguk says that he is not sure what Sohan means by this question, because he already agreed to serve under Chonyang Dark Faction. Sohan says that he knows that he agreed to serve under him, but his heart was not in this decision. That's why he gave him time to think it through with his top brass. Soguk starts clenching his fist as Sohan was again looking down at them by giving them a chance to attack him here once again. Sohan says that he knows they are feeling wronged, so he gives them another chance to attack him. Sohan will stay here and wait for them to fetch their weapons. But he warns them by saying that the only reason they are sitting here is because he chooses to let them live, and he will not grant this mercy twice. Soguk already knows that there is no chance for him to win against Sohan, so he gets up and pledges his alliance to their new clan lord. His men follow their leader's footsteps and they pledge their alliance to Sohan as well. Sohan accepts them under his banner. Meanwhile, the very same night, some people are discussing whether Chang'an Dark Faction was really taken over by a single person. They are quite amazed because the rumors say that he's the same person who killed Yoma, and he looks quite handsome. Deadeye, who is now working at an inn as a hallboy, tells them that it is all true because he saw that guy with his own eye. A person asks him if he is telling the truth. He replies by saying that he is telling the truth, plus he also got beaten up by their new clan lord Sohan Jin. He further tells them that there are cuts all over his body and he already knew that Sohan was someone above the league of Chang'an Dark Faction. He says that after getting beaten by Sohan, he warned their faction leader to not mess with him. The person says that it is quite impressive of Deadeye. Deadeye takes that as a compliment, but he informs them that faction lord Soguk is a geezer who refused to listen to his advice and he took all of his men to attack Sohan, and now he ended up serving Sohan instead. In the dead of the night, two martial artists find the dead body of the great Yoma. Her body is covered in poison, and one of the martial artists says that he cannot believe that he met Yoma in such a state. The second martial artist says that the end of Yoma is quite gruesome. The first martial artist says that their master will be the only one who will be overjoyed after hearing it. The second martial artist says that he heard the disciples of Yoma are beautiful virgin women. The second martial artist informs him that her disciples are people who are converted by all young men. The second martial artist tells him that he heard there are 3 disciples of Yoma, and if they can get a chance with them. The first martial artist warns him to make sure their master doesn't catch him saying such things. The first martial artist apologizes and he says that he was just joking with him. All of a sudden, they hear a voice which asks them if they have found her yet. Both martial artists get on their knees and they tell him that they have found it. Someone starts moving toward them at max speed. A strong breeze blows through the whole field. Out of nowhere, their master appears right next to the dead body of Yoma. This guy is the great Fiend Sekma, and he is quite happy. He tells Yoma that it is quite a shame that they met in such a state. He starts examining the body of Yoma, and he finds out that her neck was broken by the left hand of the killer, and he asks his disciples about the weapons of the killer. The first martial artist reports that he heard that the killer used dual blades while fighting with Yoma, and he used a metallic fan while fighting against Soguk, who is the leader of Chang'an Dark Faction. Sekma is thinking that these type of weapons are quite rare in the Dark Faction, but she was finally killed with the bare hands of the killer. He smiles happily and he inquires about the name of the man who killed Yoma. The first martial artist informs him that the man is called Sohan Jin. Sekma says that he must be a magnificent man, because it seems like he was trained by the twin brothers Dokma and Wison. He further informs his disciples that both Wison and Dokma are lunatics, but Wison is the one who truly deserves his fanatical reputation. The first martial artist asks him if Wison is more powerful than Dokma the Fiend. He says that it is true, at least by his standard. There was a time when Dokma had fallen for a trap set by the leader of the Northern Lakes. Both Dokma and the leader of Northern Lakes had sustained serious injuries. Suddenly, a man dressed in white appeared there. He used his miraculous power to save the leader of the Northern Lakes from the brink of death. Dokma screamed at his brother for healing the enemy, but Wison couldn't be budged. Without a single change of expression, he healed anyone who could still be saved to the best of his ability. Then he left carrying Dokma in his arms. That is the moment when Sekma realized that the lunacy of the 4 great fiends, including himself, was unmatched by Wison. And if Sohan is really the disciple of those two, then he cannot be underestimated, because these kind of brutes are unfathomable. Both his disciples say that they will keep his words in mind. Sekma inquires about the current location of Sohan and the disciples of Yoma. The second martial artist informs him that they are staying at the Pine Grove Inn. He further asks his master if he's going to be attacking them today. Their master says that he will be only keeping an eye on them for now, and he wants to get his hands on the three disciples of Yoma, so he must be extra careful. He further orders his disciples to scout the whole area for the twin brothers, because it can be a trap set up by them. As for Yoma, he orders them to bury her. His second disciple inquires about the White Dragon Whip, and Sekma orders him to bury it with her, and it will serve as a gift for raising such disciples. The very same night, Sohan is having food with the three sisters. Damwal informs Sohan that their junior sister had a dream recently. Their master was in her dream, and she said that they worked with the great Sekma to kill her. Sohan says that maybe she misunderstood him as Sekma. He tells them that it must have appeared in a dream because the idiot Deadeye asked him the same question. Damwal says that it can be the case. From what Sohan heard, Deadeye is working somewhere in an inn. The following day, Soguk is having a talk with Sohan. He informs Sohan that the rumors of Sohan being the new Lord of Chunyang Dark have already spread quite far. Soguk suggests that they should both take a walk at Green Plum Lake today. Sohan can also tell him more about how he defeated Yoma on their way. Sohan agrees to his offer without any resistance. Soguk is glad that Sohan is a guy who is easier to talk to, and he treats Soguk with a certain level of respect. All of a sudden, a martial artist arrives in the room. He informs them that Deadeye is requesting an audience with Sohan. Soguk apologizes to Sohan for the impudence of his clan member, but Sohan tells him to let him in. Soguk says that there is no need for that, but Sohan is curious to know what Deadeye wants to say. Deadeye arrives in the room and sweat is dripping from his face. Sohan asks him if he's the one who took a beating from him in the pool area. Deadeye says that he is that guy and he apologizes for his recent behavior. Sohan tells him to forget about that previous incident and he asks him why he wanted to meet him. Deadeye informs him that there is a certain individual going around asking about Sohan. Soguk signs and he informs Deadeye that it is quite normal because a lot of powerful forces will be inquiring about him after the recent turn of events. Deadeye says that it is not that simple, and this mysterious young man is asking about the clan lord in great detail, and he is gathering information about the disciples of Yoma as well. Recently, a suspicious man came to his inn, and he started saying some strange things to the other customers. He claimed that Sohan took in the disciples of Yoma because they are virgins, and Sohan is a lustrous person. This information piqued the interest of Sohan, so Deadeye tells him that he tried to tail that guy to find out who he is, but his light step technique was too fast for him. There is complete silence in the room, and Deadeye starts thinking that maybe he wasted their time for nothing. Sohan breaks the silence and tells Deadeye that the information he just provided is of great help to him. Sohan compliments Deadeye for his hard work, and he asks him to leave the room. Deadeye becomes happy after hearing the compliment, and he happily leaves the room. Soguk says that it is really suspicious, because that mysterious person was also asking around for the disciples of Yoma as well. Sohan says that they should make a plan. They need to work on the perfect trap of the Dark Faction. Soguk says that maybe there's no need to go that far, but Sohan says that there are two reasons why this person appeared in Jang'an. The first is just as Deadeye pointed out, that he is after the disciples of Yoma, because they are virgins. The second reason is because he is confident he can escape even when the whole region is after him, and this person has never been caught before. Soguk asks Sohan if he knows who this person might be, and Sohan replies with a yes. Sohan tells him that he is Sekma, one of the 4 great fiends. Soguk becomes alerted after hearing it. Sohan says that they can get outplayed if they are not prepared well. The martial arts of Sekma are impressive, and he has some extraordinary light step technique so he can run away at any given moment. Soguk asks him how can a great fiend run away from a fight. Sohan informs him that Sekma does not uphold a martial artist's sense of dignity. He is a scary opponent because he can also bait them by running away and coming back at the same night. Soguk is wondering whether they can really beat Sekma. Sohan informs him that he has never been caught before. Many strong families from the Justice faction as well as other martial clans tried to catch him, and there have been many strong individuals who have been called Sekma. But none of them were as great as the real one they are facing right now. Sohan says that he wants to catch him and he will make sure the great Sekma will draw his last breath in here. Soguk becomes happy after hearing it because the reputation of his sect will rise up among the dark sects after this. Meanwhile, Deadeye is going back after reporting everything to Sohan, and the compliment he received made him quite happy. He runs through the streets while giving a creepy smile, and the passerbys think of him as a madman. During nighttime, Sohan is moving through the streets along with Soguk, and he is being greeted by everyone. A woman says that she heard Clan Lord Sohan will be having a farewell party, and Sohan says she is correct. The woman says that it is a shame that Lord Sohan is leaving so soon. Sohan tells her that he will soon come back. Sohan starts leaving, and the woman tells him to come back soon. As Sohan is moving through the streets, a window of a building opens up. There are two red glowing eyes looking at Sohan. It turns out to be Sekma, who is giving off an evil smile. The next morning, Sohan visits the Pine Grove Inn. Saul says she was worried because Sohan was not present in his room. Sohan tells her that he was taking a stroll outside. Tamwal asks him what type of stroll he was having, which took him a whole night. Sohan sits down next to them and he tells them he was expecting Sekma to make a move, but he didn't show up. The three sisters know that Sekma is actually after them, and Sohan is trying his best to protect them. The very same day, a crowd is watching a performance by a martial artist. Sohan hears the sound of the crowd and he tells them that the event prepared by Soguk has begun. The sisters open the window and they ask Sohan why there are so many people gathered outside. The third sister says that she wants to go outside to watch the event up close, and Sohan allows them to do so. Sohan moves through the crowd along with the three sisters, and the people around him greet them. Sohan goes to the stage and the performer greets him. The performer informs Sohan that they are going to start a performance called Villain Saga. Sohan tells him that this Villain Saga name sounds fun, and he should start the performance. The performer starts by calling out Sohan Jin of the Chonyan Dark faction. A guy cosplaying as Sohan steps on the stage. The cosplayer tells the Jangan Dark faction to kneel before his might. He removes the fan from his face and he looks like a man pretending to be a woman. The whole crowd starts laughing after watching his face. The performer mocks the cosplayer by saying his face is like an ugly duck. The cosplayer says that he should not judge people by their face, and he asks the performer who he is. The performer says he is Guangma, one of the four great fiends. The cosplayer asks him if he came here to take revenge for the Yoma. He further tells cosplayer that he will rip him apart so the spirit of Yoma can rest in peace. All of a sudden, another performer leaps toward the stage. The new performer lands next to the cosplayer. This new cosplayer introduces himself as Sekma, the rapist, and he is here to avenge Yoma as well. The crowd becomes angry and they start cursing Sekma. Sekma performer gets angry and he tells the crowd if they dare to belittle him, he will rape them as well. The crowd becomes more agitated after hearing it. Saul asks Sohan if it is okay to belittle Sekma like this in the public. Sohan gives off a grin smile and he tells them to just wait and watch. Meanwhile, on the stage, Sekma asks the cosplayer and the Gwangma performer who wants to be punished first. He leaps toward them after saying that he will take both of them and he can do it with both of them because he is faster than a rabbit. The crowd becomes entertained and they start calling Sekma a rabbit dick guy. Out of nowhere, a real kunai starts moving towards Sohan. Sohan deflects it in time using his white shan. Sohan leaps toward the place where the kunai came from. A martial artist is leaping through different rooftops. He then leaps inside an open window. This guy was the second disciple of Sekma, and he's angry at the performers for mocking his master. That is why he tried to attack Sohan. All of a sudden, something crashes through the window behind him. It turns out to be Sohan, who chased him all the way to this inn. Sohan mocks his master by saying whatever he saw in the performance about his master seems to be true. This even makes the second disciple more angry, and he quietly unsheathes his sword. He swings his sword towards Sohan, and Sohan uses his crescent dual blade. The attack of the second disciple gets deflected, and Sohan cuts him into two pieces using his crescent blades. Both pieces of the disciple drop on the ground, and the whole room becomes messy with blood. Out of nowhere, a slash attack moves towards Sohan, and he manages to dodge it without much effort. The slash attack lands on the window behind Sohan, blasting it off in the process. Someone swiftly moves towards Sohan. It turns out to be the first disciple of Sekma, who was also present in the room. Sohan easily deflects his attack and he tells the first disciple that sneak attacks have no effect on him. The first disciple realized that Sohan is way above his league because he deflected his attack so easily, and the difference in their speed is massive as well. He looks at the body of his junior who was cut in a single attack. The first disciple thinks to himself that he needs to return to their master Sekma for now. He pulls out some needles hidden under his arm cover. He then throws them towards Sohan. While Sohan is busy deflecting the needles, the first disciple escapes from the room. He leaps out of the window and lands on a rooftop below. Some martial artists from the Jang'an Dark faction spot him and they start swarming toward him. He starts running away from them at max speed. Sohan bursts out of a rooftop behind him and he becomes alerted. Sohan leaps toward him at a tremendous speed. Sohan is too fast for him and he's about to get caught, but out of nowhere, two slash attacks move towards Sohan. He tries to block them, but the force behind slash attacks was too heavy and Sohan crashes in another rooftop. The first disciple becomes a bit relaxed because he thinks those slash attacks were performed by his master to aid his escape. He starts happily leaping away from Sohan, but out of nowhere, his neck gets caught by a whip. He gets dragged from the rooftop onto the ground. It turns out to be Sol who was using the whip, and she inquires about the location of Sekhma from him. The first disciple stays silent and Sol keeps on tightening the whip to strangle him. Suddenly, they hear a sound wave from Sekhma, who asks them if they really think they can catch him with these petty tricks. Everyone present in the area can hear his voice, but his location is untraceable. Sekhma announces that he's going to play a game in this town. For 100 days, he will soak the ground of Jang'an with the blood of the Jang'an Dark faction's women. Their wives, daughters, and lovers are going to get slaughtered. He tells them to think of it as his response to their delightful performance called the Villain Saga. His disciple gets cocky and he tells the three sisters to be extra careful because their master is drooling for the taste of virgins for a long time. Sol tells him to keep on spouting nonsense, and she starts strangling him with her full force. She pours some of her energy into the whip and the neck of the first disciple snaps with a loud noise. Sekhma, who was observing everything, thinks that it is a shame that he lost his disciples in this place. But he is quite relaxed because he can find new disciples and he is entertained by the ongoing events. He is quite excited as he is sure he can escape from Jang'an at any given time, and Sohan nor the Jang'an faction can find his location. His happy expression fades off as Sohan makes his entrance in his room. Sekhma is a bit confused as he has no idea how Sohan found his location. Sohan sits right next to a table without worrying about Sekhma. He starts gulping up the wine bottle from the table. Sekhma silently observes him as he is still confused about the ongoing event. Sohan puts the wine bottle down, and he asks Sekhma why he thought Sohan couldn't trace his location. Sekhma asks him a question as to why Sohan is living like this, and he should live like his master Dokma. Sohan asks him what he means by that. He tells Sohan that his master always lived a life of freedom, while Sohan is rolling around with lowlives like the Jang'an Dark faction. And he asks Sohan why he is trying to act like a heroic figure by protecting the disciples of Yoma. Sohan tells him that he's a piece of shit, and he should stop with his talkative ruse. Sekhma asks Sohan if he really thinks he can catch him. All of a sudden, he hears a voice from outside stating that he has been surrounded by the forces of Jang'an Dark faction. Sekhma tells them that he can easily take care of low-tier factions like Jang'an by himself. This voice belongs to the Sekhma cosplayer, and he informs the real Sekhma that he will let him go if he surrenders after removing his pants. He further tells the Sekhma that he will live if he does that, and he will only lose his dignity and ass in the process. This enrages Sekhma to the max as he starts emitting his inner force. Sekhma pulls up his sword toward him. Both Sohan and Sekhma do a standoff for a second. Without wasting any time, Sekhma unsheathes his sword and he swings it towards Sohan. Sohan pulls out his white shan and he deflects the attack of Sekhma. Sekhma performs a lot of slash attacks on Sohan, and Sohan keeps on deflecting them with his white shan. Sohan tries to directly attack Sekhma, but he uses his full speed to dodge the attack of Sohan. Sekhma sheathes his sword as he thinks Sohan is quite powerful, and it was no coincidence that he managed to beat Yoma. Sekhma hangs on the window and he tells Sohan that he's going to give him a tour of Jang'an. He tells Sohan to follow him as he leaps outside. The three performers are watching him as he is jumping away from the inn. Sekhma spots the three of them and performs a double slash attack toward them to take his revenge on them for dragging his name through the mud. The performers get scared as they are about to get hit by the cross slash attack, but Sohan manages to block the cross slash attack on time. Without wasting any time, Sohan leaps towards Sekhma. Sohan starts chasing Sekhma, but his light step technique is too fast for him. Sekhma mocks Sohan for his slow speed. Sekhma starts running more faster after pouring some inner energy on his feet, and he warns Sohan that Jang'an will be painted red because of his pointless charade of a hero. Sohan is not worried at all because Sekhma is playing right in his hands. Some martial artists are gathered ahead with the slingshot mechanisms mounted on them. As soon as they spot Sekhma, they start shooting him.
Sekma is too fast and he manages to dodge them by leaping upward. As he is moving right next to a rooftop, the window of that house opens up and different weapons are shot at him. Sekma dodges the weapons by ducking down and landing on the ground. He keeps getting attacked by long-range attacks and he keeps deflecting them. This whole ruse gave enough time to Sohan to catch up to Sekma. Sohan attacks Sekma and he barely manages to dodge the attack. Sekma starts running away from the town as the streets and the houses are filled with traps and even the people roaming on the streets are not normal civilians. Sekma is furious to take his revenge right now, but he needs to get out of here first. Sohan calmly keeps on watching him from a rooftop while Sekma makes his escape from the city. After leaving the town, he lands in a forest to catch his breath. As he is thinking about what he's going to do in the future, he hears a voice. A horse rider is moving toward him and he tells Sekma to get ready for his death. The horse rider is pretending to be someone by the name of Guanu. Sekma becomes more enraged as the cosplays of these Jang and Dark faction lunatics are becoming more bizarre. Guanu attacks Sekma with his long spear. Sekma tries to block his attack, but the spear of Guanu shatters in the process. Guanu gives out a loud roar and he tells Sekma that he will get his revenge. Sekma gets ready for a serious fight, but Guanu runs away from him. Guanu tells him that he will fight him again after he finishes a round of wine. Sekma gets more enraged as things are getting more stupid. All of a sudden, an arrow is shot towards Sekma. He manages to dodge the arrow, but the force behind it was so great that it pierced through many trees. Sekma spots the attacker, who is pretending to be someone known as Huang Chun. He shoots another arrow towards Sekma and Sekma performs a slash attack to counter it. The cross slash slashes through the arrows and it is about to hit Huang Chun. Sohan saves him in the nick of time with his white shan. Both Sohan and Sekma do a standoff and Huang Chun pulls out another special arrow. He thanks Sohan for helping him and he aims the arrow towards Sekma. Huang Chun shoots the arrow towards Sohan and Sohan pushes it towards Sekma with his white shan. The arrow had a poison bottle on it and it bursts on the way. Sekma manages to deflect the arrow, but he is about to get surrounded by the poison. Sekma quickly tries to disperse the poison with his fist. He disperses the poison, but it left quite an impact on him because of high acidity. A paralyzing agent was mixed in it and he starts feeling weaker. Without wasting any time, he leaps away from Sohan, and Sohan starts chasing after him. There are a bunch of traps along the way which get triggered while Sekma moves through that area. Inside the Green Plum Lake, Deadeye is lying in ambush with his martial artist friends. He was ordered to throw spears at Sekma when he shows up. Deadeye spots Sekma in the distance and he gets happy as this is his time to shine. They start throwing spears at Sekma when he's within their range. Sekma dodges the first volley of spears. Deadeye throws another spear at him with full force and he calls the name of a granny who lives next door for luck. Sekma dodged the attack, but he stops and he starts glaring at Deadeye. Deadeye himself is confused as to why Sekma is looking at him. For some reason, Sekma became more pissed after hearing the talk of some old granny. Sekma leaps toward him after saying that he will rip him apart. Deadeye starts running away for his dear life. Sekma uses cross-slash skill on him. Deadeye barely manages to dodge the attack. This distraction gave enough time to Sohan to catch up to them. Deadeye fainted out of shock. This whole situation makes Sohan think that Sekma is on edge. That is why he got bothered by such a little thing. Both Sohan and Sekma start exchanging blows. On the surface, they look like they are both on par with each other. They keep on fighting until they reach a rooftop on the other side of the river. All of the martial artists who were chasing Sekma are present on the other side of the river. Sohan informs Sekma the hunt will begin again once he turns his back to him, and it will stop once he stands and faces him like a man. Sekma is on edge, so he makes his last stand there. Sekma leaps towards Sohan as he tells him that he's going to kill the people on the other side once he's done with him. Even though Sohan dodged his attack, but he still got a cut on his shoulder. Sekma tries to attack him again, but Sohan blocks his attack with his crescent dual blades. They both keep on attacking and defending at the same time. Cracks start appearing on the building as their fight intensifies. The building cannot hold up the impacts and it starts crumbling down. Everyone spectating their fight becomes amazed. Once the smoke subsides, they can clearly see each other. Sohan informs Sekma that Yoma died right here. Sekma asks him, so what if she died here? Sohan tells him that she also laughed just like him, but her laughter turned into a confused screaming before she died. Sekma praises him for slaying a fiend after getting trained by one, and he further asks him if he has convinced himself to kill his masters after this. Sohan is not fazed by this question and he smiles at Sekma. Sekma attacks him while laughing like a madman. Sohan blocks his attack with one of his crescent blades. Sohan smiles and he just utters a single word: poison. Sekma jumps back as he is not sure if Sohan already used poison or if he is about to use it. Sohan combines both of his crescent blades into one. He then utters a single word, full moon. Sohan then leaps high up in the sky. He then leaps towards Sekma at max speed. Sekma performs a lot of sword slash attacks to break the speed of Sohan, but Sohan is unstoppable as he pierces through all of his attacks, and in the end, he slices Sekma into 2 pieces. Sohan then crashes into the ground, leaving a massive blast. Sohan moves out of the rubble and he detaches both crescent blades into their normal form. The people from Jangan faction are wondering what would have happened to them if they didn't surrender to Sohan at that time. Sohan puts his crescent blades back in their sheaths and he looks at Sekma, who is now a bloody mess. Sohan remembers how his masters told him to make his opponents believe that they have the upper hand until the very end, and it is a key element in a psychological warfare. Sekma is dying from the blood loss and he has become quite afraid. Sohan is satisfied beyond belief and he asks Sekma about the location of his older brother Guangma, the Fiend. Sekma is about to tell him something, but he dies from blood loss. Sohan has no use for Sekma's body as he blasts it off. Sohan made a big mistake by showing his true power in front of so many people, but he's not worried because they are all his people. The martial artists sign off as the chase has finally ended.
The very same night, Deadeye is telling people that Sohan is the one who killed Sekma, but he is the one who made him turn around and shatter his will to escape. The people around him say that maybe Sekma was already on edge due to the villain saga, and the words of Deadeye only served as a trigger. Deadeye becomes angry and the customers keep mocking him. All of a sudden, they hear a loud sound calling Deadeye out. Deadeye heads outside and this guy turns out to be Ga-hyo from the Jangan faction. Ga-hyo informs him that there is a special reward for him from the clan lord Sohan. The customers also head outside to hear what is going on. Ga-hyo starts reading the message of Sohan, which states that the trap which was set for Sekma all began with a report given by Deadeye. If Deadeye had not made that report, the trap would not have been set in motion. Deadeye displayed remarkable sharpness in judging the significance of said events, and he exhibited bravery in the face of fear by speaking up to Sohan himself. A reward of 5,000 yang shall be given to Deadeye. Everyone becomes amazed after hearing it because 5,000 yang is a big amount. Deadeye gets down on his knees and he thanks Sohan for everything. Ga-hyo hands over a monetary statement for his reward. Deadeye is crying with happiness while receiving the reward. Deadeye tells everyone that the drinks are on him and the whole atmosphere lightens up. Meanwhile, Sohan arrived at Sohokro along with the 3 sisters. Damwal says that the surroundings have changed a lot, and Sohan replies by saying that he also had a hard time recognizing this place when he returned. He further asks her if she remembers Dogon, and she replies with a yes, and she asks Sohan if Dogon is still here. Sohan tells her that Dogon is probably in the kitchen on the 2nd floor, and he gained a lot of weight. Sol and the younger sister say that they feel more at ease in here rather than in Jangan. Finally, they come to a stop in front of a house of the new moon. Damwal becomes a bit sad because she had many memories of this place. So-hyuk comes out and he greets Sohan. He further informs everyone inside the House of Moonlight. A lot of movement noises start coming out of the building. Sohan is a bit confused as to why there are so many voices while there were only few people when he left the Moonlight Pavilion. So-hyuk comes down with a lot of new faces. Sohan cannot recognize any of the kids and a woman comes out to greet him. The woman calls him by his nickname Dopey, and Sohan recognizes her face as one of his older sister. The woman dashes towards Sohan and she hugs him. While crying, she tells him that she's glad her little brother is alive. Sohan hugs her and he is feeling very good after meeting his long-lost sister. Damwal also recognizes the woman and everyone present lets out some tears of happiness. The woman hugs Damwal after recognizing her as well. Sohan pays his respect to the man who came out with the kids. The man greets Sohan as clan lord and he introduces himself as Taesan-jeon, who used to be known as Chumyeon. Sohan remembers that Chumyeon was the only man who stepped forward to help the Sword Dancers clan back then. Sohan always wondered where he went, and it turns out he was with his sister Eunhye. Sohan tells him since he's the husband of his sister, he will treat him with respect. So-hyuk is in shock because he has never seen this soft side of Sohan. So-hyuk is not the only one as Sol is in shock as well. So-hyuk tells them all to head inside as the wind there is quite chilly. All of them head inside while Sohan is watching them from back. Dogon arrives there and he tells Sohan he was quite worried about him. Dogon hands over a daily smoke to Sohan and he tells him he brought it for him.
Sohan starts smoking and Dogon informs him about the events that happened in his absence. He further tells Sohan that he is quite sad, because out of all members of the Sword Dancers clan, they could only find Eunhye. Dogon gets up as he needs to cook something for them. Sohan silently gazes into the sky as he wishes for everyone to come back safely, because he is here now to protect them. After some time, Sohan is having a meeting inside the pavilion and he informs So-guk about the events that transpired in Jang'an. So-hyuk is amazed after hearing that Sohan took care of 2 fiends in one place. So-hyuk asks him why he let So-guk live. Sohan tells him that he let So-guk live because he took over the Jang'an Dark faction. Sohan further instructs So-hyuk to inform the leaders of different factions in advance that he will be soon summoning them either in Jang'an or in Cheonyang Dark. A female sound comes from outside as someone inquires about Dopey. Someone tells her to come in and So-hyuk leaves the room. Sohan tells Eunhye that he was waiting for her, and Eunhye warns him to get ready as she is about to begin her nag. She is quite worried about him because he's a good guy and the dark factions are filled with backstabbers. Sohan remembers that Eunhye was like this from the start and she would always nag them to be careful in the future. Sohan gives off a smile after remembering her younger self. Eunhye asks him why is he laughing and if everything she just said is a joke to him. Sohan becomes a bit serious and informs her that he is already a fiend. He further informs her about everything that happened recently and how he killed the leaders of different factions and the fiends. He further informs her that on their way back to Sohokro, he fought with 2 dens of thieves, and when he went to their base, he found out that there were many people they kidnapped as slaves, and most of them were children. He set them all free after killing the thieves, and as one of them was about to die, he told him that the Green Alliance will come after him for revenge. His blades have already started to accumulate grudges since he already killed 2 of the great fiends. Gwangma will come after him one way or another. An ordinary man cannot face all of these threats by himself. That's why he must face them as a fiend. Eunhye starts crying and she tells him that she wanted him to live a happy life away from the dark faction. Eunhye asks him how he escaped from the great fiend Dokma, and he informs her that he made sure that Dokma will never be able to kill him by winning over his affection. He informs her that Dokma has a twin brother called Ri-sun, who saved him every time Dokma poisoned him. One of the brother makes lethal poisons while the other one is obsessed with saving the people. At first, Sohan was just a tool for them as they would take turns to improve their abilities using his body. At one point, Sohan made an oath to himself that he will win over the favor of both of his masters. He started taking care of Ri-sun like his kid, and he started cooperating willingly to the experiments of Dokma. He also entertained them from time to time using the performances he learned at the Sword Dancers clan. One day he got shocked after hearing his master say that he made a new lethal poison which can kill Sohan, but Dokma was worried as well. At that day, Sohan became happy as he managed to soften the heart of a fiend. Sohan tells her that from day onwards both brothers worked on ways to strengthen his body so he would not die from their experiments. Eunhye signs after hearing all of this. Sohan tells her that she don't need to stay here and he will arrange an abode for her family. But Eunhye says that she will wait right here for others to arrive. Sohan informs her that if they stay here, they will be targeted by other powers and he couldn't keep his focus on suppressing his enemies as he will always be worried about them. He promises her that he will visit her once in a while and he also needs a place to rest from time to time. There is a reason why he told Eunhye about his master, as if a fight between his masters and the light factions breaks out, he will be forced to fight along with his masters. They keep on talking for the whole night and the next morning 2 people come to visit him. So-hyuk informs Sohan that 2 people from the Jegal clan came to meet him, and Sohan tells him to let them in. Both of them head inside and they pay their respects to the clan Lord Sohan. One of them introduces himself as Hyun Jegal, and the other one is called Tan Jegal. Sohan says that they both came from afar and they should sit down first. Sohan asks them about what they wanted to talk to him about. Hyun Jegal informs Sohan that they are the ones who published the Jegal newspaper, and it is the main business of their family. In the north of Jang'an alone, their customers include Mount Hua sect, Wudang sect, Chonsung sect, the Dang family, and many other sects. They also have ties with the majority of the light factions. Sohan stays silent after hearing it, so Hyun Jegal asks him if it is true that he killed 2 great fiends, Yoma and Sekma. Sohan confirms that it is true. Hyun Jegal informs him that everyone is talking about a great warrior who has appeared in Shanxi. Sohan inquires about what they mean by a great warrior. Hyun Jegal informs him that they have something called the martial rank records. They normally keep track of news regarding the top 100 individuals of the martial world. And since Sohan killed 2 of the 4 great fiends, so now he will join that list as well. He takes out a notebook which is full of recent feats of Sohan, and they are planning to publish them pretty soon. Sohan tells him that he did a good job in doing all of his research. There is a question in Hyun Jae-gal's mind, and he asks Sohan if he's planning to be a new fiend. Sohan stays silent, and Hyun changes his question and he asks Sohan if he has any idea about who will be filling the spots of 2 deceased fiends. Hyun Jae-gal further informs Sohan that they don't take sides between the light or dark faction. They are simply honest people who meet and listen to noteworthy individuals and spread their stories across the martial world. This grabs the attention of Sohan, and he tells them to send a newspaper daily to him. Both Jae-gal brothers are in shock as Sohan is treating them like mere peddlers. Sohan asks them if there is anything else on their mind. Hyun Jae-gal gets serious and he tells Sohan that he stays in Cheonyang. That's why he don't know that Jae-gal newspaper is quite influential. He asks Sohan if he really wants to stay in the dark faction, and he further informs him that his position in the martial world may change significantly depending on how they portray him. Sohan is not sure whether Hyun Jae-gal is praising or insulting him, but he goes along with it and he tells Hyun that he is in the dark faction for now, at least. Hyun Jae-gal asks him that if being in the dark faction seems like a praise to him. This pisses off Sohan and he tells Hyun to stop his acting and get straight to the point. Hyun Jae-gal informs Sohan that the head of Jae-gal clan would like to make an offer to him. The Jae-gal clan can help Sohan in joining the light faction. Sohan asks him how they can turn a dark faction into a light one. Hyun Jae-gal smiles and he tells Sohan that it's not beyond their powers. And that's not all. They can even make Sohan into a hero of light faction because he has already killed 2 great fiends. Soon, for the sake of stability, an alliance will be formed between Jianghu, Manhwa, Wudang, and the Jae-gal clan. All of these forces happen to be groups that are situated near Shanxi. If they look at the western border, most of the area is already taken by Sohan. Expect Hanjung Dark Faction. Sohan says that he has been busy lately, that's why he didn't look over Hanjung. Hyun Jae-gal further informs him that their alliance will soon be formed in the east along with Henan and Hubei. And one of the reasons they are gathering is to either chase out the dark factions from the western front or slaughter them to extinction. The head of the Jae-gal clan further sent a message for Sohan stating that despite being from the dark faction, he still has potential to become a hero because he slayed 2 great fiends by himself. There is going to be some opposition from some light factions, but if Jae-gal News manages to find out his intentions, and they can spread them far and wide, which will result in the birth of a new warrior. Sohan asks them what they want in return for their services. Hyun Jae-gal says that they have heard rumors that Sohan is quite wealthy. Sohan says that he indeed has a lot of money. Hyun Jae-gal gets up and he tells Sohan that they need an investment of 30 million yang, and they will help him join the light faction in return. Not only that, they will make him known as the greatest warrior of Shanxi, and he can also join the Murim alliance that will be formed in the north of Jiang'an. Sohan asks him what will happen if he refuses their offer. Hyun Jae-gal says that a lot of things can happen. For instance, a word might spread out that Sohan is the disciple of Dogma. Sohan asks him if he gives them money, he will become a hero. And Hyun replies with a yes. And if he refused their offer, he will be marked as a fiend. And once he became a fiend, he will be targeted by the Murim alliance. Hyun Jae-gal becomes a bit agitated and he tells Sohan that 30 million yang are not a big amount as compared to the benefits he will be getting in return, and he can also become the most famous individual in the martial world. Sohan agrees with his offer, and Hyun Jae-gal becomes happy after hearing it. But Sohan informs him that he don't have 30 million yang on hand, so he has to gather funds from Jiang'an Dark and Cheonyang Dark factions. Hyun Jae-gal informs him that they can wait for the money, and he congratulates Sohan for making the right decision. He further informs Sohan that no matter how much they investigated, they could not find the specific details as to how Sohan killed Yoma and Sekma. Hyun asks him to tell them about how he killed them both, and they will carefully record his words and spread news of his heroic feats. Sohan tells them that he killed Yoma by snapping her neck like a twig. As for Sekma, he was sliced by him. An arm of Sekma fell off and a deep cut was made into his body. Both Jae-gal brothers become a little bit afraid after hearing it. Sohan asks why his expression changed and if he's feeling warm. Hyun Jae-gal starts spinning his fan and he tells Sohan that the atmosphere has suddenly become too hot. Sweat starts dripping from his body and he asks Sohan to continue his story. Sohan continues the story and he tells them that Sekma was still breathing after his body was cut into 2 pieces and he had a fear of death visible in his eyes. All of a sudden, the vision of both Jae-gal brothers start fading out. Sohan gives off a grin smile, and both Jegal brothers fall unconscious on the table. Sohan puts his white shan back into his clothes, which indicates he was using some type of paralyzing poison while talking to them. Sohan calls for So-hyuk and he orders him to air out the room, because it's becoming a bit stuffy in there. During nighttime, Hyun Jae-gal is being tied to a chair with a rope. After waking up, he's confused as to what happened to them, and where he is right now. He starts speculating that maybe he was poisoned. So-hyuk comes into the room and he congrats Hyun for waking up. Hyun Jae-gal warns him that they will not get away with this. He starts screaming something about Manhwa sect, but he gets slapped in the face. He is then again about to threaten So-hyuk with another sect name, but this time he gets slapped the crap out of him. So-hyuk tells him that he forgot to threaten him with some other major sect name. Hyun Jae-gal starts laughing and he tells him that they can never face the big sects of the Light faction. This time So-hyuk smashes his head with a punch. So-hyuk gives off an evil smile and he tells him that his clan lord will take care of all of them. Hyun Jae-gal yells at him that even if his clan lord killed 2 fiends, it does not mean that he's invincible. This time So-hyuk didn't slap Hyun, but Hyun is on alert because he can get smacked anytime. So-hyuk turns around and he tells Sohan that Hyun just asked if he's invincible. Sohan asks So-hyuk if he has roughened up Hyun well enough. So-hyuk, with a happy expression, says that he went easy on him for now. Hyun Jae-gal asks him what is the meaning of this, and if Sohan is angry about 30 million yang price, then he can go back and ask their clan leader to lower it a bit. He further tells Sohan that they are not here to fight, and they can talk things out like civilized people. Without paying much heed to his words, Sohan removes a cloth from a box. There are some torture tools present inside the box. Hyun becomes afraid after seeing those tools. Sohan pulls up a knife, and its sharp tip is shining in the darkness. Hyun Jae-gal prepares himself as things are about to hit the next level. Sohan checks the sharpness of the blade. This puts Hyun on edge, and he tells Sohan that he is prepared to discuss everything with him, and he asks him why he is doing this. Sohan tells him that he is already very busy, and Hyun wasted a lot of his time with his nonsense. Hyun informs Sohan that it was not nonsense because once the Murim alliance forms, the factions around the Shang-Chi area will be attacked first, and it will not be limited to only Shang-Chi as other dark factions will be attacked too. That's why the head of Jae-gal clan came up with this grand plan. Sohan sits down and he starts acting like he's worried. Sohan says that he barely managed to kill Yoma and Sekma. Everyone already knows he's the disciple of Dogma. He is already on edge and now the Light factions are also gonna attack him. Hyun thinks that Sohan is in total despair and this is his chance to get out of this situation. Hyun tells Sohan that they should join hands and if he becomes a hero of the Light faction, all of his problems will be solved. Sohan asks him if he's telling the truth and Hyun replies with a yes. Hyun informs him that Jae-gal clan is the only one from the Light faction side that knows Sohan is a disciple of Dogma and they have enough influence to change the image of Sohan. Sohan gives off a grin smile as he knows that he is not totally exposed yet and he gets up. Hyun realized that the mood of Sohan just changed. Sohan calls Hyun a military advisor and he tells him to listen carefully. Hyun is a bit confused as to what Sohan means by calling him a military advisor. Sohan asks him that if he's going to start a war, there should be at least one military advisor by his side. Hyun thinks to himself as to how Sohan can talk about war so casually. Hyun asks him if he wants to start a war. Sohan replies to him by saying that he'll decide on whether he will start a war or not. He tells Hyun to only focus on the brainstorming section. Sohan orders him to write down the martial prowess, ranks, and the amount of martial masters that belong to the Light factions. He further instructs him to write down every single detail about the relationship between the different sects of the Light faction. He keeps on ordering him to write down the weaknesses of different sects as well. Hyun is about to say something but Sohan slaps him quite hard. The slap pushes Hyun quite back along with his chair. Sohan steps up near the knocked Hyun, and he pulls his chair back up. Sohan asks military advisor Hyun again if he listened to everything Sohan just said, and Hyun replies with a yes. Sohan tells him to speak up right now if he's going to waste any more of his time so he can kill him right now. Military advisor is afraid and he tells Sohan that he will listen to all of his commands. Sohan further instructs Hyun to put him in his place and come up with a plan with his knowledge as to how they can destroy this Murim alliance. Sohan tells him that he should also think about outside forces as well and if there are any other factions which can become his potential allies in the future. Hyun says that he understood everything and Sohan starts leaving. Sohan instructs So-hyuk to only free the hands of Hyun so he can write, and So-hyuk should also provide food to him on regular intervals. Hyun cannot hold himself anymore, so he inquires about Tan Jae-gal from So-han. So-han goes away after saying that he has no idea. Meanwhile, on the outside, Tan Jae-gal just defeated another martial artist from So-han's faction. He is feeling very tired because he is facing one martial artist after another. His hands can barely keep up and they are bleeding. Tan Jae-gal angrily looks at So-han, who is using him to train his men. So-han orders the next martial artist to step up. The next martial artist leaps toward Tan Jae-gal. He attacks Tan Jae-gal with his wooden sword, and Tan dodges it by ducking down. Tan Jae-gal feints a sword attack. The martial artist pulls up his wooden sword to block the attack, but instead of attacking with a sword, Tan Jae-gal spins around and then he kicks the martial artist, sending him flying back. Tan Jae-gal leaps toward the fallen martial artist. He is thinking that he cannot kill him because he have his brother, so he is about to break the leg of that martial artist. So-han knows well what he is up to, so he throws a stone toward him. The stone shatters the wooden sword of Tan Jae-gal. Tan is a bit shocked because he could have been hit by the stone if he was a bit faster. So-han tells the patriarch of Great Dragon Sect that 3 of his men have already fallen from that same faint attack. Ha-sung is feeling a bit shameful about this. So-han orders him to stay behind and give his men some teachings. So-han orders his men that it's enough for today and they will resume their training with Tan Jae-gal the next day. So-han heads inside and he orders Tan Jae-gal to follow him. Tan Jae-gal is quite pissed at him, but he has no other choice. So-han and Tan Jae-gal sit inside the building. Tan Jae-gal is confused as to why So-han didn't take away his sword, but he knows that he has no chance of winning against So-han either way. So-han is far more skilled than the information given to them. So-han asks him how old is he, and Tan Jae-gal tells him that he is 25 years old. Tan Jae-gal then inquires about his brother if he is alive. So-han tells him he is alive and he locked him away. So-han asks him that if he starts a war without listening to their requests, which side the Great Justice will be on. Tan Jae-gal with a serious face informs him that Great Justice doesn't even exist in the Dark Faction. He even swears upon his life. So-han then says from what he observed, both Hyun Jae-gal and the Jae-gal clan are trash. Tan Jae-gal barely holds himself back and he says they are not trash. So-han tells him that with the 30 million yang they requested, he can feed the orphans of all regions under him for their whole life. Tan Jae-gal then mockingly asks him that if the 10 yang he is in charge of has no hungry orphans or beggars. So-han tells him that there will always be orphans, but they took in orphans, gave them names, and a place to stay. So-han tells him that he was an orphan himself until he was taken in by the Sword Dancers clan. He further ordered the clan patriarchs to report to him about unfair wrongdoings that happened in their areas. Tan Jae-gal tells him all of these things are good, but if they really work. So-han says that nothing works 100%, but if it doesn't work, he can just kill the patriarchs for insubordination. He can do whatever he wants because he is a fiend. Plus, his subordinates know better than the Jae-gal clan how he bested the 2 great fiends. The Chang'an Dark faction is quite wealthy. So-guk and his sect seem to be living a pretty decent lifestyle due to it. And if he asks So-guk to prepare half the money Jae-gal clan requested, So-guk will ask the people under him, and just like a chain reaction, they will ask the people under them. Inevitably, there would be those who will be robbed of all they had, and then as a result, more beggars and orphans will appear on the streets. Tan Jae-gal is a bit taken aback by this as he thought So-han was just a merciless fiend. So-han tells him that if he pays them that money, he will become a great warrior of the Light faction, but many innocents will suffer for him. So-han asks Tan Jae-gal to look him in the eye and tell him who is the trash in here. Tan Jae-gal is feeling shameful, so he looks away. So-han then asks him again that if a war breaks out, whose side the Great Justice will be on. Tan Jae-gal stays silent as he is gathering his thoughts. So-han pours a glass of wine for him and asks him to drink it. Tan Jae-gal drinks the wine and he requests to ask a question. So-han tells him to go ahead, and he asks So-han why he learned martial arts. So-han says that he learned martial arts to just survive. So-hyuk comes inside and So-han orders him to lock Tan Jae-gal below and treat him as a warrior. Tan Jae-gal starts heading to the basement with So-hyuk. All of a sudden, he stops and he tells So-han he has one more question for him. This time, he asks So-han why he didn't take his sword away. So-han tells him not to worry because he don't drink with trash. Tan Jae-gal becomes happy and he thanks So-han for the drink. The next morning, So-han reads the report Hyun Jae-gal just wrote. So-han thinks that Hyun did a pretty good job in this short span of time. Hyun hesitantly asks So-han if Tan Jae-gal is alright. He begs So-han to free him because the only thing Tan Jae-gal did was to follow him. So-han tells him not to worry because Tan Jae-gal is doing better than him. So-han asks him about this ultimate martial master he wrote about. Hyun tells him that it is a phrase they use to describe someone who is in the top 10 ranking. Sohan tells him that he is glad there is only one ultimate martial master in the alliance. Hyun Jae-gal is worried that maybe Sohan is a lunatic and he will start a war with the alliance. Sohan asks him about the information regarding the ultimate martial master, and Hyun Jae-gal says that he will soon take care of that part too. Sohan tells him to work hard from now on because if he dies, Hyun will be dead too, because the place he is kept at is a hidden place and there will be no one to feed him. Hyun becomes afraid as he thinks Sohan is really going for a war. Sohan tells him that he is his military advisor until the war ends. All of a sudden, Sol comes inside the prison and she asks Sohan about what he is doing. Sohan asks her a counter question about what she is doing there. Sol says that it's been a few days since Sohan showed his face at the Moonlight Pavilion. Hyun Jae-gal is wondering who this woman is who is talking rudely to the clan leader. Sol further informs him that it was too peaceful and she was feeling suffocated. That's why she came here. Sohan allows her to rest in this place for a few days. Sol becomes happy and she thanks Sohan. He further asks Sohan about Hyun Jae-gal. Sohan tells her that he's a journalist from Jae-gal News and he asked Sohan for 30 million yang. Sol becomes furious after hearing such a big amount. Sohan further tells her that Hyun told him if he gave them the money, they will make him a great warrior of the Light faction, and if he refuses to do so, they will paint him as a fiend. Sol steps closer to Hyun Jae-gal and she slaps him, which sends him flying back with his chair. Sol asks Sohan why he is keeping him alive and he should just finish him off. Sohan tells her that he will do it if he proves to be useless. Hyun flares up and he tells them he has a lot of work to do as he just came up with a strategy to deal with the Light factions. Sol says that he must be a traitor because he's providing information about the Light factions, including his own Jae-gal sect. Hyun Jae-gal just realized that he already became a traitor after providing all of this information, and no one from his clan will believe him because he is from the collateral line. Hyun Jae-gal faints from all of the stress. Sol starts heading back up, but then she stops and she informs Hyun to not escape, because she already deployed the very same formation outside that they used to corner Sekma. Hyun was come to a conclusion that he is doomed either way. Sohan pulls up the chair of Hyun and he asks him about the Wudang Sword Immortal. Hyun tells him that if that person joins the war, Sohan will lose it. Sohan tells him to write everything about Sword Immortal and he further instructs him to write a justification for going to war. Hyun is just a bit confused about what he means by justification of war. Sohan gives him a cold stare and Hyun Jae-gal says that he will start working on it. Hyun Jae-gal is a bit furious because he has to write justifications for attacking his own clan. Sohan enters a room where the patriarchs of 3 sects are waiting for him. The patriarchs greet Sohan as the clan leader. Sohan sits down and he asks them to sit as well. Sohan asks them about their forces. The patriarch of North Wind Wolfblades informs him that they came here with their best men, just as he instructed, and he inquires about the reason why they were summoned. Sohan tells them that Jae-gal clan asked for 30 million yang to make them into a Light faction. The leaders become furious after hearing such a big amount. They ask Sohan what he intends to do. Sohan tells them that there is no way he cannot do what Jae-gal clan can do, so he will make them into a Light faction in his own way. The patriarchs become shocked after hearing it. Sohan further tells them that they will lead their elite troops to cut off the rotten parts of the Light factions and they will start with the Jae-gal clan first. The patriarch of the Great Dragon sect says that a war will break out in that case. Sohan tells them that they are mistaken because the patriarch of Jae-gal clan has already declared war against him. Sohan informs them that they will be fighting just like how Light factions do with both literacy and martial arts. He will create an alliance for this war which will be named Mystic Lunar Alliance. Sohan further informs them to get rid of their clan's old names because they will now all belong to the Mystic Lunar Alliance. Ha Song says that since ancient times recognition is needed to form an alliance and how they will receive recognition for their alliance. Sohan tells them that he will get recognition from the general public and the powerless people. For that reason, they need to crush the Wild Green Alliance, which are famous for their cruel methods and the kidnapping of innocent people. Sohan says that they will wipe them out in the name of justice. The patriarch of the Fleeting Raven clan thinks it is quite funny, because justice is a word which was never associated with the dark factions before. All of them look at him for being a dumbwit. The patriarch of Fleeting Raven clan apologizes to them. Sohan tells them to make sure to spread the news that they saved the orphans in their area. If the Light faction still want to wage war with him, he will use his kind attacks as propaganda to make it look like the Light factions are fighting against each other. Sohan further tells them that they will be embracing justice from now on, and they will do a better job at protecting the weak than the other Light factions. The patriarchs have no other choice, so they agree with whatever Sohan just said. Sohan informs them that they will first capture the patriarch of Jaegal clan and they will expose his lies to the Murim world. They will further torture him to confess all the blackmailing he did using the Jaegal news. If they accomplish this task, it will be easier for them to make a good public image among the light factions. Ha-sung says that it is a good idea, but Sohan tells them that another situation can arise where they have to massacre the whole Jaegal clan, and it will leave a bad impression among the light factions. Sohan tells the patriarchs to order the military advisors under them to send a letter to everyone who was affected by the Jaegal clan. In this way, they will have a lot of support from the outside as well. All patriarchs agree to it and they leave to do the tasks assigned to them. During nighttime, Sohan is going through the information Hyun Jae-gal just wrote. Yu Gi-il is the only martial master in the Light Factions Alliance and he's from Wudang sect. He has the highest seniority within the Wudang sect and there are rumors he couldn't become the sect leader because he loves alcohol, singing, and dancing. He is the toughest person for the sect leader of Wudang sect to get along with as well as the most shunned. He even chased the second Yin Yang elder who was the world's most wicked fiend into the desert in order to finish him off. Sohan starts laughing after hearing it as he already expected the Light Faction's strong people to be this much great. Sohan is dying to meet him and find out who among them is the strongest. At the same time, Sol comes in and she informs Sohan that she knows about this Wudang Sword Immortal. Sohan asks her what type of person is the Sword Immortal. Sol says that he was someone his master avoided. Plus, he's also one of the reasons why Yoma and the other fiends didn't go near the Wudang sect. Sohan becomes even more excited after knowing that Wudang Sword Immortal is a person who even the fiends avoid. Sol is a bit confused to hear that. Sohan tells her that they will be attacking the Jaegal clan very soon and she can also join in. Sol says that she was dying from boredom and she will be happy to go on a war. Sohan happily looks at her and he says that wearing veil is a good idea, but it reminds him of Yoma. Sol thinks of it as a compliment, and she thinks Sohan wants to say that she is pretty. Sohan tells her to get lost, and she obliges. Sohan changes his expression, which means he really said it to compliment her. Sohan looks through the window where the camps of his troops are at. Sohan can die or lose many subordinates during this war, but he is also excited because there will be a big fight. During nighttime, many arrows with messages attached to them are shot at the headquarters of different sects from the Light faction. The messages state that the Jaegal clan blackmailed Sohan to hand over 30 million yang and they will make him into a part of the Light factions in return. The letters further state that he killed the two fiends without thinking about getting any fame or any other profit from it. The letter further elaborates that Sohan has solid proof against the Jaegal clan and he calls forward all sects who were wronged by either Jaegal clan or Jaegal news in any way. They can stay on the side and just spread the word if they don't want to get involved in this fight. The letter ends with the letters that Sohan cannot tolerate such unfairness and he will settle the score with the Jaegal clan. During nighttime, Sohan is standing right above the Jaegal clan and he asks his men if they have sent the war declaration letters to all sects. His patriarchs tell him that they have sent the letters, but by the time they receive the letters, the result of the war between them and the Jaegal clan will be out. Sohan tells his men that he will deal with the patriarch and all leaders agree with him. With that said, Sohan orders them to get going. Sohan and his men start heading toward the Jaegal clan. Sohan speeds up, leaving his troops behind. Sohan jumps over the wall and two guards are stationed on the other side. Sohan jumps over them and his leaders cut both guards with their swords. Two more guards start shouting after seeing Sohan. Sohan pulls out his crescent blade and he performs a cross slash toward them which throws them flying away into the distance. One of the guards stationed on a watchtower spots the destruction caused by the cross slash of Sohan and he uses a tool to alarm the whole clan. The Jaegal clan members respond quickly and they start gathering outside. They are surrounded from all sides but they keep on going forward. Two of his patriarchs get ready to perform their skills and they blast away the Jaegal clan members approaching them from the sides. Sohan jumps up high above the sky and he gets prepared for a strong attack. Sohan uses his palm key attack which blasts off a huge number of Jaegal clan members. Sohan then lands on the ground and his elite members join him as they have taken care of most men outside. As he is about to approach the main hall of the patriarch, a sound wave comes inside, which asks them about who dared to trespass the Jaegal clan, but Sohan keeps on heading inside. Inside the hall, the patriarch of Jaegal clan, Jaegal Pyo, is waiting for him with his men. Sohan pulls out his crescent dual blades and he calls out Jaegal Pyo. Jaegal Pyo orders his men to subdue Sohan, and they start swarming him like flies. Sohan easily cuts through them with his light step technique. His men rush inside the main hall and they start massacring the men of Pyo Jaegal. Most of his men have been already cut into half. This makes Pyo Jae-gal more angry and he flares up. He launches a sword slash attack towards Sohan. Sohan gets up both of his sword to block the attack. He can easily deflect it, but he needs to hide his real strength to the very end. Sohan gets pushed back a lot after blocking the cross slash attack. His men look at him and they are confused as to why Sohan is not using his true power. Jae-gal-pyo starts laughing and he tells everyone to stop after thinking that Sohan is not that much powerful. All of his men stop and they start backing away from the elites belonging to Sohan. Jae-gal-pyo sits back on his seat and he tells everyone to empty the center of the hall. He further instructs them to lock the gates of the hall and deploy the fog turtle formation. Only the first-rate warriors will stay inside while the rest of them will wait outside the hall. His men oblige to his orders and they start moving. Jae-gal-pyo asks his left guardian about what is wrong with the defense of his clan and how they easily managed to break through this far. His left guardian apologizes to him for the lack of defense. Sohan is thinking that maybe Jae-gal-pyo is looking down on him. That's why he is acting so carefree in this situation. Jae-gal-pyo says that Sohan is being pretty bold and how he charged into his estate with this little amount of soldiers. Pyo Jae-gal says that he wants to know about his name before he kills him. Sohan starts laughing without replying back to him. This pisses off Pyo Jae-gal and he orders his left guardian to move forward. The left guardian moves forward to face Sohan. The left guardian introduces himself as Jae-gal Chug-young. Sohan tells him to start the fight without introducing himself. Chug-young becomes angry and he says that Sohan has no honor, so he must be from the dark faction. Sohan gives off a smile, and he tries to attack Chug-young without any warning. Chug-young blocks his attack with his sword, and Sohan keeps on pressing him with one attack after another. Sohan tries to slash Chug-young from above, but he dodges it by ducking down. Chug-young takes this chance to attack Sohan. Sohan tries to block his attack with his sword, but Chug-young turns around in midway, and he tries to kick Sohan just like how Tan Jae-gal kicked his men during their training. Sohan performs a lot of slash attacks and the leg of Chug-young gets cut down. Sohan spins around and he kicks Chug-young the same way he tried to kick Sohan. Chug-young flew toward the ceiling of the main hall. Pyo Jae-gal is thinking that Sohan has quite strange twin blades and he is strong enough to subdue his left guardian in an instant. Pyo Jae-gal now knows he is Sohan and he came here because 30 million was too much for him. Sohan says that it was a big amount and he is here to deliver it to Pyo Jae-gal along with some interest. He instantly guesses the identity of all masked men along with him. He congratulates Sohan for gathering all famous people from Chonyang and Jiang'an to the same place. Pyo Jae-gal lands an offer to the patriarchs that he will assign 50 men to each of them and they can easily defeat Sohan together. And if they manage to defeat him, each one of them will receive 100,000 yang from him. The patriarchs become shocked because they know 100,000 yang is nothing compared to their lives. Pyo Jae-gal takes their reaction as they are being persuaded by money, and he tells Sohan that money is the most powerful thing within the dark factions. Sohan starts laughing and he can confirm how loyal his subordinates are to him, and he also knows what Pyo Jae-gal is thinking right now. Sohan orders his subordinates to sheathe their swords, and all of them oblige without thinking for a second. Pyo Jae-gal is thinking that his men sheathed their swords in the middle of an enemy base on his order, and his command over them must be perfect. Sohan tells him that he will make him an offer. Sohan tells him to step forward and do a one-on-one with him. This way they can minimize their losses. Pyo Jae-gal asks him what will Sohan do if he refuses this offer. Sohan tells him then he will kill every single one of his men. Pyo Jae-gal answers him by saying that he can go ahead and kill them all. Sohan throws a cross slash in one direction. The cross slash cuts some of his men in a few seconds. The pieces of his men start dropping on the ground. All of his remaining subordinates become afraid after witnessing it. Sohan stays still and he says what a waste of lives. Sohan then leaps toward his men, cutting them left and right. Pyo Jae-gal, who is watching the ruthlessness of Sohan, is quite afraid. Sohan says that all these pitiful subordinates are dying because their patriarch doesn't wish to step up. The remaining men of Pyo Jae-gal are wishing for their patriarch to step up and save their lives. Pyo Jae-gal has no other choice left, so he powers up. He then leaps towards Sohan to attack him. He further powers up and Sohan gets ready. Their clash results in a big explosion. Both of them keep on attacking and blocking each other's attacks at the same time. Pyo Jae-gal uses his lightning cloud surge technique to get even with Sohan. Sohan rotates his blade in a circle to stop the lightning surge from reaching him. While he is busy blocking the lightning surge, Pyo Jae-gal appears in front of him. He attacks Sohan with all of his force. The main gate of the hall gets destroyed as Sohan falls out of the gate. Sohan lands on the front yard of the main hall. Pyo Jae-gal is quite confident as he is making his way out of the hall. On his way, he stops near the patriarchs. Pyeongjae-gal tells them they are pathetic fools and they should have taken advantage of the opportunity he had given them. All patriarchs know they are not the ones who will be regretting their decision, but they keep their thoughts to themselves. As Pyeongjae-gal is moving toward the main door, a cross-slash moves toward him. He gets ready to block the slash attack, but instead of blocking it, he deflects it, and the cross-slash lands on the upper walls of the main hall. Pyeongjae-gal gets angry as he had ordered his men to form frog-turtle formation outside of the main hall. But once he gets outside, he sees the dead bodies of his countless martial artists. Sol is standing on a rooftop behind Sohan, and it looks like she killed all those men to break the frog-turtle formation from outside. Sol says that Pyeongjae-gal is quite a manly man to fight Sohan in a one-on-one fight. Pyeongjae-gal suffered a lot of losses as he was not expecting more people helping Sohan. Seeing all of this enrages Pyeongjae-gal and he powers up to the max. Both of them again start clashing swords with each other. Their fighting is so fierce that the surroundings are getting destroyed with each clash. Both of them get pushed back after cancelling out each other's attack. This time Pyeongjae-gal prepares an attack to finish Sohan in one go. Pyeongjae-gal fills his sword with all of his inner energy and he uses hidden dragon energy charge technique on Sohan. Sohan easily slashes the head of the dragon in one swing, but it was a trap and the dragon heads morph into two from the place it has been sliced into. Both heads start rushing towards Sohan at max speed, and their impact leaves a large blast in its wake. After the smoke subsides, Sohan is lying unconscious on the ground. Pyeongjae-gal leaps towards Sohan to finish him off, but it was all a ruse as Sohan opens up his eyes on time. Pyeongjae-gal lands his attack on the wall, but Sohan dodged it, and he appears behind him. Sohan has suffered a little bit from the last attack as he is bleeding. Pyeongjae-gal confidentially tells Sohan that he has underestimated the martial arts of Jaegal clan, which in turn resulted in his current pathetic state. He leaps towards Sohan to finish him once again, but all of a sudden, he gets a cut mark on his arm. Sohan is standing still while pointing his crescent blade at him. Pyeongjae-gal is a bit confused as his arm got cut, but Sohan is standing still in his place. Sohan starts laughing as he is enjoying this fight. This pisses off Pyeongjae-gal and he throws a barrage of cross lashes towards Sohan. Sohan easily manages to dodge all of them. This time, Sohan performs a cross slash, which pushes Pyeongjae-gal back. Pyeongjae-gal is thinking that Sohan has gotten faster all of a sudden. Sohan calls out his name and he asks him why he thinks so much during a fight. At the same time, Pyeongjae-gal came to the realization that Sohan was hiding his power from the start. This pisses off Pyeongjae-gal and he again uses Hidden Dragon Energy Charge skill on Sohan. This time Sohan again tries to block it and he's laughing for some reason. Sohan again crashes into a wall with a huge impact. Sol signs as she thinks Sohan is repeating the same thing for the second time. After the smoke dissipates, Sohan appears out of it and he tells Pyeongjae-gal that his last attack got weaker than before. Pyeongjae-gal rushes towards Sohan after pouring all of his energy into his light step technique. Pyeongjae-gal slashes the place where Sohan was standing, but Sohan already dodged the attack by jumping above him. Pyeongjae-gal throws cross-slash skills towards Sohan, and Sohan counters them with his own cross-clash skills. Sohan finally makes his landing on the ground. Pyeongjae-gal is feeling exhausted and he thinks he got infected with a paralyzing poison. Sohan tells him that this is the reason why he should have done his homework on Sohan before sending someone to ask for 30 million yang. Sohan attacks Pyeongjae-gal with a barrage of slash attacks. Some of the attacks get through and they manage to put cuts on Pyeongjae-gal's body. Sohan gets ready for a decisive blow and he tells Pyeongjae-gal that he must have never forgotten that Sohan was a disciple of Dogma. Sohan performs a slash attack on the arm of Pyeongjae-gal and it flies off after getting chopped. Sohan then stabs his crescent blades through his body. Sohan bids him farewell after telling him that he managed to entertain him for a while. Pyeongjae-gal begs Sohan to let him live as he has already won the fight, but Sohan finishes him by pulling his blades. Finally, Pyeongjae-gal drops dead on the ground. All of the remaining Jaegal clan members are shocked to see the dead body of their patriarch. Sohan orders all survivors to take care of the corpse of their leader and report to him in the main hall, and those who want to die can stay outside on the main grounds. Sohan orders Seo-guk to leave the bulky items behind and collect all the assets of the Jaegal clan. He further orders others to move to the inn they already prepared, and Seo-guk will move the assets back to Chang'an. He don't even need to send all the assets back by himself, he can just assign some men for this job. Seo-guk obliges to his order. He tells the remaining people to stand by in the inn, and if Sohan is not back by 2 days, they should depart for Chang'an. Sohan tells them that he cannot move with them because the clans in alliance with the Jegal clan will be marking their moves, and he needs to deal with them as well before going back. All of his subordinates advise their clan lord against it, but Sohan corrects them by saying that he is no longer their clan lord as his name is Jegal Sohan from now on. After a few days at the Jegal clan estate, Sohan moves out with Sohyuk to take a walk. The Jegal clan members are working on the repairs. Sohan passes through them and they have mixed expressions about the ongoing events. Sohan comes to a stop after witnessing a quarrel between two members of the Jegal clan. Sohyuk informs Sohan that there have been all sorts of commotion happening in the Jegal estate over the last few days. Sohan says that it was to be expected as he made sure that people know that there is a great difference between the people with the family name Jegal and the normal martial artists from the collateral families. Sohyuk says that the normal martial artists are enraged, but those under the Jegal name don't understand what the problem is. Sohan orders Sohyuk to gather both the Jegal and the normal martial artists in front of the main hall. After some time, everyone gathers around the main hall. There is a table in the center with both Jegal martial artists and normal martial artists section, but the things on the normal martial artists side have both low quality and quantity. One of the normal martial artists screams that it is not fair they are given less than the Jegal clan martial artists. On the other side, the Jegal martial artists are quite satisfied with the treatment and they mock the normal martial artists. Sohan gets up and he holds a sword in his hand. This stops the bickering of both sides and there is a complete silence in the hall. Sohan asks them how do they feel after experiencing it themselves. Both sides are completely silent as they don't know what to say in this situation. Sohan tells them that a few days ago he didn't even knew who was a part of the Jegal clan and who was not when they died by his sword. He simply killed them because they were his enemies. Sohan tells them that what's certain is that when an enemy arrives, it does not matter whether they are a part of the Jegal clan or not. Sohan asks them why there is a difference between both sides while both sides are equally risking their lives. He further says that different treatment must be based on their rank and experience. The Jegal martial artists become red with anger, but they don't say anything. Sohan says that he is curious to know which side is more stronger as compared to the treatment they are getting. He further tells them that he wants to see a match between both sides, and he asks anyone to step forward. A man by the name of Kang Gi-chan comes forward. Sohyuk informs Sohan that among the normal martial artists, he has openly expressed his dissatisfaction about the difference in treatments. From the Jegal side, Woo Myung comes forward. Sohan asks them if they will be fighting with wooden swords, but both sides say that they will be duking it out with real swords. Both martial artists unsheath their swords and Sohan tells them to get started. Kang Gi-chan leaps forward to attack Woo Myung, but he manages to block his slash attack. Woo Myung is pissed because he thinks Kang is treating this match as a fight to the death instead of a sparring match. Both of them keep on attacking and blocking each other's attacks. All of a sudden, Kang performs a kick attack, which successfully lands on Woo Myung, throwing him down as a result. Woo Myung becomes a bit shocked as he is already defenseless on the ground and Kang is trying to finish him off with his sword. But Sohan tells him to stop and he comes to a halt. Woo Myung is pissed because Kang tried to kill him in a sparring match. Sohan announces that the winner of this match is Kang Gi-chan. The Jegal martial artist's side is quite dissatisfied with the results. Sohan tells them that he was very amazed by the sword formations of the Jegal clan when he first arrived here, and he would have a hard time if the Jegal clan had already prepared those formations before he ambushed them. Sohan asks them how many people are required for the sword formation, and he would like to see them fight using those formations. One martial artist from the crowd tells him that a minimum of 28 martial artists are required for such formation. Sohan tells both sides to spar with sword formation. Both sides get ready in an arrow formation and Sohan tells them to start the battle. Both sides start duking it out using real swords. The martial artists from both sides are giving their best for the spar. Even Sohan thinks this sword formation is quite incredible. After some days at the Okso Inn in the Hebei clan area, Sohan is sitting inside the inn and he's remembering the time he watched that battle of sword formations of Jegal and the normal martial artists. At that time, Sohan went back inside the building because both sides were fighting with all their heart and he didn't want it to disturb them. At the same time, a waiter arrives at the table of Sohan with the food he ordered. Sohan starts munching on the food while in the distance, some martial artists are discussing about how a dark faction declared war on Jegal clan. A martial artist asks them when will the alliance of the light factions be formed, and another martial artist says that he don't know when, but once it happens, they will be at the core of it. Sohan knows they are not from Wudang sect and he's wondering if they are from the Hebei sect. A martial artist notices Sohan by his dress and he addresses him as a member of Jegal clan. Sohan, while eating, pays his respect back to him. The martial artist thinks that this Jegal clan member is being rude because he paid his respect while having food in his mouth. Another martial artist asks him what he's doing here and if he's heading to their clan as a messenger. Sohan quickly starts gurgling the food in his mouth, which makes the other martial artists feel a bit awkward. After gulping down the food, Sohan tells him that he is not a messenger and he's on a mission assigned by their patriarch, so he cannot tell them the details. The martial artist says it is a pity because he wanted to ask him to join them for a drink, since Jegal and Hebe clan might become one family in the future. Sohan gets up and he sits on their table. Sohan says that since Hebe and Jegal might become a family soon, so he cannot reject them for drinks. Sohan shouts at the waiter to get more wine for their table. The martial artists introduce themselves as Oh Jae-hyun, Jang So-duk, and Kwon Sol. Sohan introduces himself as Jegal Han from the Jegal clan. The Hebe clan martial artists think Sohan is being disrespectful because he keeps on talking in a formal manner to them. After some time, all of them start drinking the wine in unison. Sohan complains that he has never drank such a bad-tasting wine before. Sohan asks the waiter if they have other types of wine and the waiter replies with a no. Waiter says that if he wants expensive liquor, then they have only Dukang liquor. The martial artists become shocked after hearing Sohan order something so expensive. Jae-hyun tells Sohan that they are not rich enough to afford such an expensive liquor. Sohan tells them that this liquor is on him because they already offered him the best wine they could. The Dukang liquor arrives at their table and Jang So-duk thanks Sohan for treating them to such an expensive luxury. Sohan asks them to not worry about it, and he asks them about how the alliance is progressing. Jang So-duk informs him that they are making good progress as the patriarchs are gathered at Wudang Mountain and one of the great elders is there as well. Sohan asks him by great elder is he referring to the sword immortal. Kwon Sol tells him that he is right, and all the patriarchs will probably recommend him to be the alliance leader, and he will reject as usual. Then they will hold a sparring match to decide the leader and he will be appointed as the judge. Sohan is thinking to himself that he missed an important competition. It was an opportunity for him to see the Wudang Sword Immortal and the abilities of other patriarchs as well. Sohan asks them who do they think will become the alliance leader. Jae-hyun tells him that they are hoping for their patriarch to become the alliance leader, but Mount Hua and Jeongnan clans are also powerful, so they can't say for sure who will win. He further says that Jegal clan and Wudang clan are sworn brothers, so they have never fought before. But he thinks Wudang clan will win if they face off against each other. Jang So-duk says that Jae-hyun is spotting nonsense because from what he knows, the Jegal clan patriarch will become the alliance leader. Sohan asks him why he thinks like that. Jang So-duk says Jegal clan patriarch is the most richest and resourceful. They even made the previous patriarch of Wudang sect to retire by exposing a scandal related to him using their Jegal news. The other martial artists become shocked as well because they never heard about this before. Jang So-duk further elaborates that it is the reason why the new patriarch of the Wudang clan became a sworn brother of the patriarch of Jegal clan, and the person who suggested the idea of an alliance in the first place was the patriarch of Jegal clan. Sohan gives off a serious look as he came upon some solid information just now. By looking at the expression of Sohan, Jang So-duk thinks he's looking upset, so he mocks Sohan a little bit. Sohan becomes serious and he tells Jang So-duk to relax his expression a little, and he asks him if he is looking down at him after mistaking him as a scholar from the Jegal clan. Kwon Sol requests them both to not quarrel with each other as they are from the same alliance, and he tells Sohan that he will apologize on behalf of Jang So-duk. Jang So-duk keeps belittling Sohan by calling him a scholar. Jae-hyun begs them both to stop this pointless quarrel. Sohan says that he went overboard with his words, so he will stop. But after drinking his liquor, he says that maybe the waiter diluted the Dukang liquor with water as it tastes like shit. Jang So-duk starts laughing like a madman and he smacks his hand on the table. He asks Sohan if everyone at the Jegal clan is as distasteful as him. Sohan tells him that he can bear it if someone insults his patriarch, but he cannot bear it if someone insults the Jegal clan. Jang becomes red with anger and Sohan says that people keep bad-mouthing their patriarch all the time. Jang asks him about the words which people use to insult their patriarch. Sohan acts like his tongue slipped while he was intoxicated. Jang becomes more cocky as he is thinking Sohan is a pushover. Sohan shouts at the waiter to come quickly as he will pay for all the drinks on this table as his clan is quite rich. This makes Jang even more enraged as Sohan is trying to belittle them with his words. Jang leaps towards Sohan and he punches him in the face. The punch sends Sohan flying back along with the furniture. Everyone present there becomes alerted after watching this sudden turn of events. So-han gets up and he says that these Hebei clan maggots need to be put in their place. Jang So-duk leaps towards So-han with a kick. So-han dodges his kick and it lands on a table beside him. So-han picks up a plate filled with noodles and he then smacks it on the face of Jang So-duk. Jang So-duk gets back and his face is bleeding a little bit. All of the people present around there start laughing at the current condition of Jang. Jaehyun and Kwol take a hold of Jang So-duk as his manners are getting out of hand. So-han mocks him by saying that manners need to be drilled inside Jang as he is lacking in that department. Jaehyun asks So-han to stop or this situation can escalate beyond their control. So-han corrects him by saying that Jang is the one who struck him first and there are a lot of other witnesses present in this room who saw it, and he further asks him if he is trying to put all the blame on him. Jaehyun says that he is sorry and he is not blaming him for anything. Jang pushes Jaehyun back and he tells So-han that he will die by his hands right here. So-han and Jang glare at each other for a second and then So-han starts running away from there. So-han runs out of the inn and Jang So-duk is chasing after him. Jaehyun and Kwol run after them. The waiter asks them to pay up first, but another man present there tells him that he can get his money by reporting about the Hebei clan members to their disciplinary hall master, and they are the one who started this fight without any reason. During afternoon, the three martial artists are present in front of the disciplinary hall, and their hall master is in a pickle. He asks another martial artist if they have not found the Jegal clan warrior yet. The martial artist says that they will update him as soon as they find him. He angrily asks the three martial artists why they started the fight with a member of the Jegal clan. Jang tells him that it is not what happened, and as he is about to explain himself, the hallmaster shuns him because everyone at the inn saw what he did. He further tells them that he will be reporting it to their clan leader. The expression of three of them changes and they ask what he means by reporting it to the clan leader. Hallmaster tells them that they messed up with a member of Jegal clan and now the clan leader will have to personally apologize to the Jegal clan patriarch whom he already hates. Hallmaster orders other martial artists to lock all of them up. Jang So-duk apologizes to him and he tells him that they already received orders to depart for Shanxi tomorrow. Hallmaster gets even more angry and he kicks him with all of his force, which sends him flying into the gate. Jang So-duk becomes unconscious after the impact. The very same day, So-han is moving through a jungle. He comes to a stop near a dilapidated building. He tells someone to stop hiding and come out. 5 shadowy figures come out of the forest and they make their landing near him. One of the assassins thinks that So-han easily found out that they were following him, and his behavior is different from when he was at the inn. All of them leap towards So-han to finish him off, but So-han easily dodges their attacks without breaking a sweat. So-han then unsheathes his sword and he starts blocking their attacks with it. After clashing swords, So-han came to a realization that they are not from the Hebei clan, and their sword formation is also different from the Jegal clan. They start moving towards So-han again with their slash attacks. So-han throws them all off after blocking their attacks. One of the assassins tells his leader that So-han is not from the Jegal clan as his sword techniques and personality are totally different from Jegal clan. Their leader informs them that it does not matter, because they can just make him look like a member of the Jegal clan after killing him. So-han gives off a grin smile after hearing it, and he asks them what gave them the confidence that they can kill him. So-han throws a cross slash toward the assassin and it cuts off his head in a few seconds. So-han then leaps toward them in full speed. He then cuts off 2 assassins in one go. There are only 3 more assassins remaining. Their leader is in shock as he already lost most of his men to a So-han who seems like a hidden master. So-han leaps toward them and they spread out in different directions. So-han catches up to one of them in a few seconds and he slashes him in half with a single blow from his sword. The other assassin seizes this chance to attack So-han. As soon as he attacks So-han, a lot of blood spurts out and it turns out that So-han appeared behind him and he mistakenly attacked his own ally. So-han smacks his head with a fist and a bit of blood spurts out of his head. He falls on the ground and slowly his consciousness starts fading away. He wakes up during nighttime and he still can't believe it, that he is still alive. He knows well that only torture and interrogation awaits him. His weapon was not taken by So-han, so he gets a hold of his sword as he gets up. But So-han already knew he woke up. He knows he can't win against So-han in a one-on-one fight, so he drops his weapon on the ground. He asks So-han what he can do to stay alive. So-han stays silent without answering back to him. He asks So-han why he is not asking him any question like who he is and who sent him here to kill him. Instead of these questions, So-han asks him how long have he been learning swordsmanship for. Assassin replies by saying that it has been 15 years. So-han says that he is pretty weak considering he has been learning for so long. The assassin asks So-han why did he run away after messing with Hebei clan, and from what he saw, So-han is not from the Jegal clan. Sohan asks the assassin what gave him the right to ask him anything. The assassin says that he is going to die regardless of whether he asks it or not. Sohan asks him if he's not afraid of death. The assassin tells him that his life has always been filled with danger, so he's not much qualms about it. The assassin further says that it seems like they have same goals. The expression of Sohan relaxes a bit and he asks the assassin about what he means by same goals. Assassin says that from what he observed, both of them want to drive a wedge between the Hebei and the Jegal clan, and he suggests that they should both tell each other about which group they belong to. Sohan says that he is not interested in that and he asks the assassin to tell him something interesting. Sohan says that if he tells him something interesting, he will spare his life, but if he finds it boring, he will kill him. The assassin tells him that he is a believer and he has a religion, but Sohan says it's boring. The assassin further informs him that the person they worship was originally someone who rules the light factions, and their religion is not an organization which does bad things. The assassin thinks to himself that he told the most important thing to Sohan because he panicked. Sohan says that this information seems interesting, so he tells him to keep going. The assassin tells him that this story starts a long time ago where that person helped them. That person was their hero as well as their god. Sohan tells him that stories about fanatics are not interesting. The assassin begs Sohan to spare his life. Sohan asks him why should he spare the life of a trash from the White Heaven demonic cult. The assassin asks him how did he knew that, and Sohan starts laughing like a madman. Sohan then orders him to get some firewood if he don't want to get used as one. The assassin is pissed, but he obliges to the request of Sohan. After some time, he returns with the firewood. He then again begs Sohan to spare his life. Sohan again says that he will spare him if he tells him something interesting. The assassin is becoming more pissed at Sohan for asking for same interesting stories again and again. The assassin says that instead of that, Sohan can ask him anything and he will reply honestly. But Sohan replies that he only wants to hear some interesting stories. The assassin makes a guess and he asks Sohan if he is the disciple of Guangma the Fiend. The expression of Sohan completely changes after hearing it, and the assassin says that he can kill him if he's really his disciple because he has been rude to him all this time. Sohan, without replying to his question, orders him to go back and bring more wood or he will kill him. The assassin starts leaving to get more firewood, and he is thinking that someone with a screw loose in his mind must be the disciple of Guangma the Fiend. After some time, the assassin returns with the firewood. He says that he has thought about something really interesting. He removes his mask and he tells Sohan his name is Li Haryu and the name of his dead older brother is Sangryu. He joined the White Heaven demonic cult on the recommendation of his brother. The White Heaven demonic cult is a religious group that rules over Hebei and has been around for over 100 years. They had 7 cult leaders before and it is now ruled by the 8th one. Sohan says that he already knows that and it shocks Haryu as it is confidential information. Sohan asks him if he's looking down on the Jegal clan, and Haryu knows that Sohan is not from Jegal clan but he keeps it to himself. Haryu asks him if he knows that Hebei clan was formed because of them, and it was quite powerful at start because it was made by gathering powerful martial artists from all over the world. But their cult leader suffered a great defeat by the Hebei clan 14 years ago, and since then they are preparing for their comeback. And the reason for the Hebei clan to become trash, and trash over the past 10 years, is because of their interference. And their grand plan includes conquering the whole Murim after getting rid of the Hebei clan. Sohan tells him that they are filthy cockroach bastards who keep coming back no matter how many times they crush them. He further says that they bedazzle normal people with their ridiculous religious logic. Plus, they learn dark faction techniques to harm others. Haryu says that they don't mess with powerless people and they simply want to purify the whole Murim. Sohan asks him what kind of nonsense it is and how they can purify the Murim. Haryu says that God can do it. He further suggests that Sohan should meet their cult leader and with his martial prowess, he will be given a high-ranking position. Sohan says that he will only meet him as an enemy once the time is right. Haryu thinks he is screwed because what he just told Sohan doesn't look interesting at all. He once again begs Sohan to spare his life. Sohan takes a hold of his sword and he tells him that his cult is a demonic one, and their leader is not a god but a crazy human being, and the Murim world cannot be purified. Sohan gets up and he tells him that they have foolish ideals and he dislikes fools. Sohan unsheathes his sword and he tells Haryu that he don't deserve to be spared and he even don't deserves to be treated as a human being. Haryu gets on his knees and he starts begging Sohan, but Sohan says that he will give him a painless death because he helped him pass some time. Haryu is thinking that he is going to die now, but then he remembers that a few moments ago he was not even afraid of death, so what made him change his mind? All of a sudden, his eyes become red as he has been poisoned by Sohan. He comes to a realization that he is not afraid of death, but he is afraid of this man in front of him. He starts sweating and he asks Sohan if he can try telling him something interesting for the last time. Sohan allows him to go ahead. He screams out that he now understood that everything is meaningless when his life is on the line. He further says that the White Heaven cult is a demonic cult and their leader is just a human. He was just another foolish human up to this point who was thinking that the Murim can be purified. His expression is not looking well and he says that he don't deserve to be treated as a human being. He begs Sohan to give him an opportunity to become his servant. Sohan asks him if he wants to become his servant in order to survive. Haryu screams that he is correct and he wants to survive. Sohan starts laughing and he says that now finally he told him something interesting. After hearing it, Haryu starts thanking Sohan non-stop. After some days, Sohan arrives at the Wudang Mountains. He is going through the market, but the shopkeepers keep pestering him by saying that they have not seen him around before. For the last few days, he has been observing how the Wudang clan rules over this place, but he is not liking it. The residents keep pestering him by asking him mundane questions. The atmosphere around this area is really mysterious and strange. He thinks it was crazy for him to try to infiltrate the Wudang sect alone and maybe he should head back. There are rumors that Shaolin is the best in the north while Wudang is the best in the south, and it really deserves its reputation. Sohan starts heading back through a flower field. All of a sudden, a grasshopper challenges him to a duel. Sohan is about to crush him with his feet, but he signs and let it go. He is thinking that maybe he got affected by this calm atmosphere of Wudang Mountain. Sohan starts playing with him and he gives him the title of the bravest mantis in the Wudang Mountain. All of a sudden, an old man appears behind him. The old man asks him about what he is looking at so intently. Sohan becomes alerted after hearing his voice and he tells the old man that he was looking at the praying mantis. The old man asks him what is on his mind because normally people don't usually talk with a mantis. Sohan says that it looked courageous to him, so he named him the bravest mantis of Wudang Mountain. The old man starts laughing and he says Sohan is quite an interesting fellow. Sohan is thinking that this old man is a bit weird because he didn't notice his presence until he was right behind him. Sohan and the old man come face to face, but no one starts a fight and Sohan realizes he is the sword immortal. The old man asks Sohan if he has no intent to fight, then they can take a walk, and Sohan easily agrees with him. Both of them start moving together. On their way, the old man feeds the fishes and everything seems too calm. The whole calm atmosphere makes Sohan a bit agitated and the old man starts laughing. Sohan asks him why he suddenly laughed. The old man tells him that it is quite rare to see someone out of place like him in the Wudang Mountains. Sohan becomes a bit calm after hearing it, and the old man says that Sohan is quite unique as if he came from outside of this world. The old man starts leading him to a place which suits him more. After some time, they arrive at a waterfall. The old man then again asks Sohan why he didn't kill the mantis. Sohan informs him that there was no reason for killing the mantis, that's why he spared it. All of a sudden, the old man says that maybe the mantis deserved to be spared more than the patriarch of Jaegal clan. Sohan tells him he is correct, as the patriarch of Jaegal clan was far worse than the mantis. The old man starts laughing after hearing it. The old man informs Sohan that Pyo Jaegal was a unique man, as he understood the power of literature more than anyone. Moreover, he was a hypocrite that acted like he wanted to uphold justice on the outside. He compliments Sohan for killing him as the hands of this old man are tied, and if he killed Pyo Jaegal, it would have led to a clash between Wudang sect and Jaegal clan. Sohan says that he can understand it because both of them are in different positions. The old man asks him if he has seen the symbol of Taiji before, and Sohan says that he knows about that white and black symbol. The old man tells him that when a praying mantis would eat other insects, this act of killing others to survive would be seen as the black side, while when it stops killing once it's full is called the white side. If Sohan killing the Pyo Jaegal is seen as the black side, then the act of Sohan sparing the lives of the rest of the Jaegal clan would be considered the white side, and both of these acts work as a balance similar to Taiji. If killing was the only option available, then the Taiji would be completely black and it is known as the demonic path. The old man further informs him that getting rid of those who go against the flow is also what the Wudang sect represents. Jaegal Pyo was a person who even surprised him as he showed him how much damage words can do. However, it would have been more difficult for the Wudang sect to kill him, because it would have resulted in the deaths of countless people, and in the end, the one who went against the flow wouldn't be Pyo Jaegal, but him. All of a sudden, he asks Sohan if his masters are doing well, and it shocks Sohan. He informs Old Man that he has not seen them since he left the mountain, The old man says that he heard Sohan is a special disciple to them because Dokma has not killed anyone in the last 12 years, and for someone like the Dokma to change is a rare occurrence. Sohan is amazed by the information network of Wudan sect as they know about things which are pretty rare even in the dark factions. The old man informs Sohan that he is Taiji to his masters because one of them killed people while the other saved them. Sohan may think he was just trying to survive their experiments, but he meant a lot to both of them. The old man asks him if he understands the Taiji and the flow a little more. Sohan replies with a yes. Both of them stop talking as they start cultivating. Sohan remembers all the people he killed and saved throughout his journey. He then starts gathering energy near his chest. After some time, the Taiji starts forming near his chest. The old man says that he hopes that throughout his journey, Sohan will remember the Taiji the old man just taught him, as this is the only gift he can give Sohan. Sohan thanks him for his teachings. He further tells Sohan that now he has seen him, he can consider it as having seen the Wudang sect. Sohan once again thanks the Sword Immortal for his teachings. The Sword Immortal says that it was nice meeting him, and he would like to meet him again. Sohan says that he would love to meet him again. With that said, the Sword Immortal vanishes into the air, and Sohan keeps staring at the waterfall. The very same evening, Sohan is moving through a forest. Some martial artists are also following him at the same time. These martial artists have Greenhound stronghold banners with them. Sohan thinks maybe they are trying to take revenge on him because he annihilated one of the strongholds belonging to their alliance in the past. The martial artists throw daggers at Sohan. Sohan easily manages all of them. Sohan speeds up to find a quiet place so he can get rid of them. But as Sohan is moving forward, more and more strongholds belonging to the Green Wilderness Alliance start swarming him. Sohan comes to a stop in front of them. The martial artists throw spears at him and he dodges all of them by moving in a zigzag formation. Sohan then keeps on running away from them and they keep chasing after him. After some time, Sohan comes to a stop near a cliff. The martial artists corner him and he prepares to make his stand there. They once again throw their spears at Sohan and Sohan deflects them using the sheath of his sword. After the barrage of spears ended, Sohan is standing still in his position. This shocks all of the martial artists. Sohan gives out a loud sound transmission as he tells the leader of the Green Wilderness Alliance to come out. The sound transmission was too loud and it put a strain on some martial artists. All of them unsheath their swords and they start rushing towards Sohan. Sohan says that their leader is a coward who just sent his men to get slaughtered in his place. Sohan rushes toward the martial artists and he kills everyone on his way. The martial artists start dropping like flies. As Sohan is massacring them, he is thinking that if killing all of them can be the black side of Taiji, then him surviving and going back to Chang'an can be the white side of Taiji. And if the Green Alliance destroying things around him is the black side, then making it such that they can't come after him again would be the white side. Sohan is thinking that the weight of killing every single member of the Green Alliance is lighter than the weight of a single innocent life. At the same time, the leader of the Wild Green Alliance is witnessing Sohan in action. He thinks the skills of Sohan are extraordinary, but he must be getting tired by now, so he sends the next wave of his men towards Sohan. This time, Sohan kills them with cross-slash skill while standing still on his place. While he's busy getting rid of the martial artists, a net starts moving toward him. Sohan throws 2 cross-slashes toward the net and upon impact, it gets shattered into pieces. The martial artists don't give him a rest and they leap toward him, but Sohan easily gets rid of them with a cross-slash. The martial artists are swarming him like ants, but he reduces their numbers by throwing sword slashes in different directions. A lot of men died while trying to get close to Sohan, but he's not looking tired at all. The martial artists start doubting their skills and they request their alliance leader to face him. The martial artists start backing away from him and instead of leaping toward them, Sohan simply sits on a rock. Out of nowhere, the projection of the Sword Immortal appears in front of him and he requests him to run away because he has already killed a lot of people and dealing with the consequences will be quite hard for him. At the same time, the chiefs of different factions from the Green Alliance step forward. They are looking quite pissed at Sohan because he dyed the whole cliff with the blood of their subordinates. Sohan gets up and he tells the Sword Immortal that a single path can be taken from here, and that path is of annihilation. The Sword Immortal tells him that he is quite stubborn. Sohan throws 2 cross-slashes toward them with his crescent blades. The chiefs throw their cross-slashes at him to cancel out their impact. The cross-slashes from both sides collide with each other, which results in a big smoke explosion. Sohan moves through the smoke and he chops off the limbs of the chiefs without killing them. Sohan moves forward as all of them lie screaming in pain behind him. Sohan comes to a stop near the low-ranked martial artists of the Green Alliance. Instead of leaping toward them, he moves back to the rock while executing every single one of the chiefs. Sohan sits back on the rock while there is complete silence around him. The projection of Sword Immortal appears in front of him again. Sohan has finally made up his mind, and he tells the Sword Immortal that a person walking on the path filled with flowers can never really know about the pains and sufferings of this world. So Sohan has finally decided that he will move on the black path. The projection of Sword Immortal starts fading out, and he tells Sohan that he has great thinking. Sohan starts laughing with joy as he can be himself on this battlefield. Sohan moves up to the low-ranked martial artists, and he tells them to open up a path. The martial artists move to a side while opening a path leading straight to their alliance leader. Sohan puts both crescent blades in their sheaths, and he starts walking toward their alliance leader. Sohan then jumps up and he lands in front of the Green Alliance leader. Sohan asks him what the hell he does. The Green Alliance leader stays silent so he can ask him the same question once again. The Alliance leader is confused as to what Sohan is trying to get at. Sohan tells him that no matter how he looks at him, he doesn't seem strong enough to take him on, so he asks him again why he is doing something like throwing away the lives of his subordinates at him. The Alliance leader gets pissed and he attacks Sohan with his spear. Sohan easily catches the spear without breaking a sweat. Sohan then imbues his internal energy into the spear. The internal energy of Sohan is too much for the Alliance leader to handle, so he leaps back to avoid the backlash. Sohan then catches him by his collar and he smacks his face with a palm attack. Sohan smacks him once again to put him in his place. The face of Green Alliance leader is not looking well, but the cockiness on his face is not fading away. Sohan then punches through his head, popping it open like a watermelon. The leader of the Green Alliance dies just like that, and Sohan throws away his body. The body of the Alliance leader lands on the ground and everyone can see the insides of his head. The low-ranked martial artists are very afraid as they don't know what Sohan will do to them. Sohan sits down on the Green Alliance leader chair and he orders all of them to start moving towards Shanyang. With that said, they start moving towards Shanyang without wasting any time. After some time, when everyone has gone a bit far, someone steps toward the dead Green Alliance leader. After examining the body, he comes to a conclusion that Sohan is really a treasure. He thinks that Dokma and Wison created something unique. This person is the great Fiend Guangma, and he laughs as things are getting interesting for him. With that said, he starts moving along with the rest of Green Alliance martial artists. During nighttime, everyone around Sohan is under a cloud of paralyzing poison. Sohan sheathes his white shan which he was using to spread the poison. Most of the bandits are dead, but almost 30 bandits are still paralyzed. Sohan unsheathes his sword, and he is thinking that this method of killing them with poison was better than fighting them head-on. Sohan goes to a bandit who is the furthest away. He is thinking that maybe this bandit somehow managed to survive with his internal energy. Based on his outfit, he looks to be about a middle-rank executive. On further inspection, Sohan finds a letter on him. Without wasting any time, Sohan starts reading it. The letter is written by the Green Alliance leader, and it states that the gathering point will be the main traveling route between Gale Demon League and Shanyang Demon League. In the case they lose Sohan, they need to gather at Shanyang and wait their next orders. Sohan is thinking that there is a possibility that there is an encirclement awaiting for him at Shanyang too. With that being said, Sohan stabs the bandit with his sword. Sohan is thinking that this battle of encirclement definitely has a different objective. Sohan starts killing off the other unconscious bandits. He is making sure that no one gets out of here alive to tell the tale. Guangma, the Fiend, is pretending to be unconscious, but his turn will arrive soon. He is thinking that Sohan is a crazy bastard. He is still thinking why Sohan used sleeping powder and made them unconscious instead of killing them all using his poison. All of a sudden, Sohan looks at Guangma, but Guangma is quite fast, so he starts acting like he's still unconscious. Guangma is thinking that this game of waiting for his turn is boring. He has no idea if Sohan is going to kill everyone, or he's just thinning their numbers. Someone right next to Guangma dies, and his blood gets splattered on his face. Guangma is thinking that this villain has no shred of humanity left, and he's a cowardly bastard who can't fight fair. Sohan tries to slash Guangma, but Guangma wakes up and catches his sword on time. Sohan gives him a serious look, as if he already knew about him. Sohan tries to strike him again, but Guangma leaps back in order to dodge his attack. Guangma gathers some inner energy in one of his hand and he leaps towards Sohan. Sohan does the same and he gathers some energy on his palm. The clash of their attacks end up in a huge dirt cloud. Once, his master told him that he shared a drink with Guangma in the past, and Guangma told him that his martial arts are based on esoteric Buddhism, and his martial arts is called Unshakable Buddha. Guangma considered the four fiends as his friends, and he was someone whose thoughts could not be deciphered. He was an enigmatic man who chose not to kill Yoma and Sekma despite having the opportunity to do so. Now, in the present, the fists of both Guangma and Sohan clash once again. Their clash results in a huge blast. Sohan gets blasted off in the distance. At last, Sohan crashes into the carriage. Guangma gets serious as he moves closer to Sohan. Sohan is pretending to be unconscious, but Guangma sees through his farce and informs Sohan that he cannot fool him with such petty tricks. Sohan signs as he wakes up from his brief slumber. Guangma becomes amazed after watching the immense range of scars on the body of Sohan. Guangma is quite impressed by what Sohan accomplished at such a young age. Sohan says that he must be Guangma the Fiend. Guangma says that Sohan is correct and he should be more polite to his seniors. All of a sudden his eyes flare up and he goes for another palm attack. Sohan got pushed back pretty hard even though he managed to block that attack. Guangma says that Sohan needs to work on his manners, and he further asks Sohan about how long he's planning to hide his true power. He is 100% sure that the one who killed the fiend Sekma and Yoma must be quite powerful. Sohan powers up and he uses a cross-slash skill. Guangma uses both of his hands to put up a shield made up of inner energy. Both skills collide, resulting in a huge explosion. As soon as the smoke dissipates, Sohan seizes this chance to pull another attack on Guangma. Both of them keep on attacking back and forth. Close combat seems to be useless, so Sohan uses his Deep Jade Moonlight skill to throw countless cross slashes. Guangma uses his Aura Breath technique to blow away all cross slashes. Sohan comes down to have a face-to-face confrontation with Guangma, and Guangma asks Sohan if that's all he got. Out of nowhere, Sohan sheathes his crimson blades. Guangma asks about what he's up to. Meanwhile, Sohan is thinking that his inner power is strong, but he's not as fast as Sekma, and he just needs to exhaust him using his speed. But all of a sudden, Guangma calls him by his nickname Dopey, which alerts him. Sohan gets serious and he asks him how he knows about his nickname. Guangma informs him that his masters had a breakthrough through him. Sohan asks him about this breakthrough, and Guangma informs him that Dokma did all of those experiments on him in the past in order to obtain his dream of immortality. Sohan already knew his masters were trying to obtain immortality. Guangma says that immortality is impossible, and he laughed so much back then when he heard about it. Guangma pours some power into his arm, and he says that he will confirm it by dissecting him, whether his master succeeded or not. With that being said, Guangma starts attacking Sohan. But Sohan easily manages to dodge all of his attacks without fighting back. After the barrage of attack ends, Sohan mocks him by saying that he will not be able to check his immortality if he is so slow, or maybe he's not using his full strength. Guangma powers up once again. He leaps towards Sohan, and this time his speed has increased. But it is still not fast enough, and Sohan dodges it by jumping to the side. Without wasting any time, Guangma tries to do a follow-up attack, but Sohan counters it using one of his crescent blade. Their clash again ends up in a big bang. The intensity of their last attack was too fierce, and both of them get pushed back. Guangma is not sure about how Sohan is keeping up with his attacks, but he's not gonna give up. Both fiends keep going back and forth, but no one shows any signs of exhaustion. Their fight is so fierce that the explosions can be seen from miles away. Guangma does a fury of palm attacks, and Sohan easily dodges them. Sohan seizes this chance to hit Guangma with a palm attack. Guangma knows well that he cannot dodge this attack in time. He tries to block the attack with his other hand. This attack was not that much fatal, but he got pushed back quite hard. Sohan compliments him by saying that he is pretty strong. Guangma gets pissed and he powers up to the max. He then leaps towards Sohan in order to hit him with his palm attacks. Sohan is thinking that Guangma is much stronger than any other fiend he fought till this point. While dodging the attacks, Sohan mocks Guangma by saying that his face is so ordinary and he's not sure how can someone gain fame in the Murim with that kind of face. Guangma is enraged and he tells Sohan to shut up. Sohan dodges his attack and he asks Guangma why he was hiding in the ranks of the Wild Green Alliance. Sohan then pulls up his other crescent blade. He performs a cross-slash skill on Guangma, but Guangma barely manages to dodge it in time by doing a backflip. But before he can land, Sohan starts throwing more cross slashes toward him. Guangma manages to dodge all of them, but it seems like he is getting slow. Sohan performs another barrage of cross slashes. This time, instead of dodging, Guangma uses his fists to deflect them. Sohan mocks him by saying that maybe he became a fiend after jumping around like a maniac and he's learning a lot from him. Gwangma releases a lot of ki and he tells Sohan that he will let him live today if he don't crosses the line. Sohan again mocks him by saying that his threats carry no weight as long as he uses this ordinary face. Gwangma rips off his own fake face. Gwangma was again about to threaten Sohan, but Sohan interrupts him by saying that his face is totally fucked. Gwangma says that Sohan has now crossed the line, and he's going to rip him apart. Sohan gets ready to counter his palm attack with his sword. Their clash ends up in a big explosion, as usual. Both of them get pushed back pretty hard. This time, Gwangma says that he likes passionate, aggressive fights. That's why he don't even fight with people who aren't even on his level. But before he can complete his sentence, Sohan turns around and he starts pissing. After doing his business, Sohan says that he's going to be serious from now on. He says that if Gwangma was a proper martial artist, he would have challenged him to a one-on-one duel instead of pretending to be a part of this stupid Wild Green Alliance. He further mocks him by saying that maybe he was pretending to be a part of the Green Alliance in order to provoke fights between some small sects. But he's not doing anything against Manhwa or Wudang sect because he knows well that they are strong. Sohan knows well that Gwangma has a powerful inner force, but Sohan is not a pushover, and he can take care of him if he gets serious. Gwangma powers up, and he tells him that he can kill his subordinates in his place. Sohan again mocks him by saying that Gwangma the Fiend is famous for only fighting people that are at his level, and now he's going to kill his subordinates that are below his level. Sohan tells him that he already killed Yoma and Sekma in Chang'an, and once Gwangma makes it there, he will kill him as well. And then Chang'an will be known as the graveyard of great fiends. Plus, Sohan is faster, so he will reach Chang'an before him. Gwangma signs as he knows well what Sohan said is true, and he sits down. Gwangma tells Sohan that he can go back and he will not stop him. Sohan starts leaving without saying much, which makes Gwangma even more anxious. Sohan gets a hold of a horse and he starts heading toward the closest city of Shanyang. After arriving at Shanyang, Sohan recuperates inside a hot water pool. The next day, Sohan is moving through a market, and he is expecting Gwangma to arrive there as well. After some time, he finds him in an inn. Sohan is going to make him pay for underestimating him last time. Meanwhile, Gwangma is busy minding his own business and eating noodles. Sohan comes inside, and he yells out his name in public. Sohan sits down in front of him while the whole hall is speculating whether the person he mentioned is real Gwangma or not. Sohan asks Gwangma about why he's eating alone. Gwangma asks him about what he's trying to do right now. Sohan says that he just wants to eat with him. He then orders the waiter to bring in some noodles and the most expensive drink. Gwangma tells him that if he's trying to use poison, then it will not work on him. Sohan says that he has standards and he would not play around with shit like that. He then shouts out loud saying, "How can you be so petty as the head of the 4 great fiends?" The citizens take this as a cue and leave the establishment in an orderly manner. In a few minutes, the whole hall becomes empty. Gwangma ignores him and starts eating his noodles. Sohan turns around and he shouts at the waiter to hurry up while he strikes the table with his palm. This in turn shakes the table and some curry of noodles gets splattered on the face of Gwangma. Sohan says that he is sorry and his hands just slipped. Gwangma tells him to eat up and they will have a fight after finishing the food. Sohan punches the table while saying, "Let's have a duel like men after eating, and maybe they should fight at Shanyang Demon League because it has a spacious ground." This time, the bowl of noodles got completely splattered on Gwangma the Fiend. Sohan says that he's sorry, and he will order another bowl for him. At the same time, the waiter arrives with the bowl of noodles along with the expensive wine. Sohan starts gulping up the noodles. Gwangma is thinking that he just arrived at Shang'an while Sohan had a bath and he even slept. He is thinking whether he can beat him or not, as he has not even recovered from the previous fight yet. Sohan tells him to stop staring at him, as his gay-like gaze is making him lose his appetite. This pisses off Gwangma and he tries to get Sohan with a sudden attack. Their clash once again ends up in a big bang. After the smoke subsides, it turns out Sohan put 2 holes inside the hand of Gwangma using the chopsticks. Sohan shuns him by saying that he needs to work on his manners because even dogs don't attack others during mealtime. Gwangma tells Sohan to follow him, and Sohan happily tells him to lead the way. Gwangma starts leaving the building and Sohan is following him. Sohan is thinking that he made enough commotion and soon the news about the arrival of Gwangma and Sohan will spread throughout Shanyang. He just needs to buy some time until his subordinates or nearby forces arrive. Guangma starts running away as soon as he leaves the building. So-han starts closely following him. Guangma knows well what So-han is up to and he will not let the things go his way. After some time, he looks back, but he cannot find So-han. He thinks that maybe So-han got left behind, so he starts finding a place to rest. Guangma finds an empty building inside the city. He lies on the bed in order to get some sleep. He has not slept or rested for 2 whole days because of So-han. All of a sudden, he feels a presence outside his door, and he asks about the identity of that person. The person tells him that he wants to have a drink with him. Guangma is thinking that this voice is different from So-han, so he asks for the identity of the person. The voice calls him senior, and recently So-han is the only one who calls him by that title. Guangma asks him about what he's trying to pull and if he's changing his voice in order to provoke him. So-han compliments Guangma for being quick-witted. He further says that his subordinates who respect him a lot came all the way from Chang'an. There are 100 of them gathered here and they are making a fuss to have a drink with him. Guangma takes a look outside of his window to find out if there are really 100 people there. But there is no one outside the building. So-han tells him that there is no one outside the building because they are all waiting for him on the first floor. He further informs him that there's a man called So-guk who's quite good at making the inescapable net formation, which they used in order to capture Sekma the Fiend. Guangma asks So-han if he's really thinking that he can capture him using some net formation from unorthodox faction. So-han mockingly says that they don't know until they try it, and they even caught Sekma with it who was faster than him. Guangma bursts through his window and he lands on the ground. He looks inside the building to kill off the subordinates of So-han, but there is no one present in there. He then looks around to find out that there are only civilians present around the area, and maybe So-han lied to him. So-han comes up to the broken window and he feels pity for the great Guangma who fell so low that he broke the window of an inn, and now he's maybe trying to run away without paying for the damages. Guangma is thinking that So-han is again pulling pranks on him and he tells So-han to fight him. So-han says that he's not interested in a fight and maybe they should have a drink. Guangma gets pissed and he shoots a key blast. The key blast was quite powerful and it severely damages the building. The civilians become quite afraid and they start running away. So-han comes out of the rubble and he asks Guangma about why he's so hot-tempered. So-han just asked him for a drink and he destroyed the building in return. So-han says that they happen to be in the same place and keep running into each other, so he thought that maybe they should grab a drink together. Guangma is on edge but he agrees to grab a drink with So-han. So-han happily says that his senior is the best as he finally understood his sincerity. After some time, So-han pours a drink for Guangma, and Guangma says that poison won't even work on him, so he asks So-han not to do anything stupid. So-han says that he's making the wine taste bad by saying the same stuff again. Guangma asks So-han to stop torturing him. So-han says that he should not be hearing these words from him as he's the one who was manipulating smaller sects to attack So-han and his underlings. Guangma signs as what So-han just said is true. Before they can continue their discussion, 2 martial artists arrive at the inn. These 2 martial artists turn out to be Ha-sung and So-guk who are bickering about some mundane matters. Both Ha-sung and So-guk pay their respects to their alliance leader and they say they are sorry for being late. So-han says that they did great and he orders them to take a seat. Both martial artists agree without any questions. They sit a bit far away from their leader, but they are still bickering about who arrived at Shanyang first. After a few minutes more, martial artists arrive at the inn along with North Wind Wolfblade. All of them greet the alliance leader and apologize for being late. So-han tells them that it's okay and they should take a seat. More and more martial artists keep on arriving after an interval of few minutes. In just a few hours, the whole hall gets filled to the brim with martial masters belonging to the unorthodox faction. Sol arrives at the hall and she compliments So-han for looking so good and healthy. So-han orders her to take a seat as well. Guangma is thinking that all of these unorthodox faction martial masters who cannot even stay in the same room before shedding each other's blood are now coming to this inn for So-han. So-han pours wine in a cup, and he asks Guangma about how he dared to mess with him. Guangma looks back and all martial masters are giving off some intense bloodlust. Guangma says that maybe he fell for his trick again and he should have gotten rid of him instead of accepting his offer for a drink. Guangma gets serious and he says that they should start the fight since everyone's gathered here, but he warns So-han that half of his subordinates will be dying here. So-han tells him to wait a moment and he pours some wine into his cup. So-han says that they should have a drink because it can be the last cup of wine for one of them. Guangma takes up the cup and informs all martial artists to have a cup because it can be their last as well. The martial masters are not budging an inch, and they are ready to fight Guangma to their last breath. So-han gets up and he orders his men to fill up their cups. Without wasting any time, all of them start filling their cups. All of them raise their cups as they wait for the next command of their leader. Guangma is sure that half of the people present in this hall will die by his hands, but their eyes tell that all of these martial masters follow So-han with the bottom of their hearts. In the past, So-han asked him about what did he accomplished in his life. Guangma is thinking that maybe So-han is correct, as he has not accomplished anything till this day. He is now getting a bit jealous from So-han, who has accomplished so many things at such a young age. Guangma starts laughing out loud and he compliments everyone present in that room for being true men. He then praises them all for their bravado. So-han tells his men that they will keep on going until they will die as a part of the unorthodox faction. With that being said, everyone starts drinking their wine. After having their drinks, they break their cups. Guangma and So-han come face to face for the last time. Guangma heads outside the building, but there are a lot of low-ranked martial artists present there. Guangma warns all small fries to step back, but his warning falls on deaf ears as no one moves their place. So-han orders his men from inside the building to stand down as this fight is only for the leaders. All of his underlings oblige to his order and they start leaving the area. So-han informs his men that he not only informed his own men about the presence of Guangma, but he also sent messengers to the clans which have hatred for Guangma, and this fight is going to drag out a little longer than usual. The one who survives is going to be the greatest fiend in unorthodox faction, and he tells his men to use all underhanded methods at their disposal in order to win this fight. All of his martial masters tell him that they will accomplish this task no matter what. With that being said, all of them head outside the building. Guangma and So-han do a standoff for a second. Both of them cover themselves in inner force and they rush toward each other. Both fiends use their palm attacks, which as usual ends up in a big dust wall. Instead of fleeing like usual, So-han takes the initiative to use the palm attack. Guangma dodges the attack, but he's a bit worried as So-han used to dodge his attacks, and now he wants to fight it out with palm strikes. Guangma accepts his change of tactic, and both of them go back and forth with their palm attacks. With the passage of time, the intensity of their attacks increases. Their fight is so intense that everything in their surroundings is getting destroyed. So-han retreats back to the place where his men were standing. All of them get ready to strike as they got their cue. They throw cross slashes toward Guangma. Guangma releases a lot of inner force and turns that inner force into a ki blast which blocks the cross slashes. So-han comes up with a follow-up attack without giving any time to Guangma to relax. Guangma gets a hold of both crescent blades, but the whip of Sol catches his neck. Sol then tries to drag him back using her inner force on the whip. The pressure starts building up on Guangma and he uses a lot of his strength to jump up in the air. Both Sol and So-han are hanging onto him. Guangma kicks So-han in the stomach, throwing him into the distance. He then pulls Sol toward him using her whip. As Guangma is about to get a grip of Sol, he says that she must be the disciple of Yoma. But before Guangma can finish her off, a cross slash moves toward him. Guangma pulls his hand back in order to dodge it. So-han turns out to be the one who is levitating in the air and using those smaller cross slashes on him. Guangma deflects the cross slashes with his palm strikes. All of a sudden, So-han uses his most powerful ki-filled cross slash. This cross slash is too fast and Guangma cannot dodge it in time. He tries to block it in order to minimize the damage, but he gets blasted off into a building. So-han lands down on the ground while the building Guangma got blasted through is in shambles. All of his men come to So-han and inquire about his health. So-han says that he's alright, but Guangma only took some damage before running away and it will be a while before he completely goes down. He further informs them to not spread out too much and stick close to each other, and all of his men oblige to his order. He orders others with high mobility to follow him, and they start chasing Guangma. Guangma is running away from the battle. His hand is severely bleeding from the cross slash he previously blocked. Even he is not sure why he's running away because he was just enjoying the fight. All of a sudden, he sees something launched into the air. That unknown thing then blasts off right in front of him. There are many blasts around him indicating that maybe they are a type of signal. All of a sudden, 3 elders from the infamous Zhongnan clan appear in front of him. But just then, the Hubei alliance comes after him as well. Guangma stops as he is surrounded from both sides. He looks back to find out that So-han is not following him. Guangma calls the Zhongnan 3 elders trashes. He already poked one eye of their brother, and now he says that he will gouge out the eyes of the other 2 brothers as well. The Zhongnan elder tells him that it won't be that easy this time. Guangma gives off a grim smile and he calls out Iron Cavalry Squad leader. The squad leader informs Guangma that he will not be getting out of this situation unscathed. He came here after he received a letter, but he was not expecting to find Guangma in here. Guangma is thinking that Sohan must be the one who would send a letter to him. Guangma laughs out loud as he envelops himself in inner force, and he tells everyone present there to come after him. The three Zhongnan elders and the squad leader gets ready to take him on. Sohan is watching all of this unfold from a safe distance. Soguk asks him if they should join the battle as well. Sohan tells them to wait, as this is the moment he was aiming for. With that being said, Guangma and the other parties start clashing with each other. Ha-Song says that Guangma is fighting them instead of running away, and he must know well that they're watching him as well. Sohan says that Guangma already knows about their location, that's why he's probably trying to show them what he is truly capable of. After some time, the whole area around Guangma is in ruins. Guangma won against the three elders and the cavalry squad leader, but his condition is not looking well because his enemies messed him pretty bad before dying down. The three elders are totally annihilated, but the cavalry squad leader is still hanging on to his dear life. Guangma goes to the cavalry squad leader and he says that squad leader is making a face that tells him that the squad leader was not expecting this outcome. The squad leader says that he never imagined that they will lose to a single person, but he knows well that Murim is such a brutal place filled with endless outcomes. Guangma laughs out loud and he says that squad leader is correct. Murim is really a brutal place. The squad leader requests Guangma to kill him. Guangma says that he's the one who will choose whether squad leader dies or not. Squad leader is not sure what Guangma means by this. With that being said, Guangma starts leaving the battlefield. The squad leader shouts at him to kill him once again. Guangma tells him to return to his clan if he survives today. His clan is soon going to fight the white demonic cult, so he must get prepared for that. The squad leader musters up his strength to get up, and he informs Guangma to kill him right here, or he will kill Guangma. But Guangma says that he don't want to kill him because he's too sleepy. The squad leader keeps shouting at him, but Guangma quietly leaves the scene. During nighttime, Guangma is cleaning his wounds near a small river. His blood is running through the river, making its color light red. All of a sudden, he realizes that there is poisonous mist around him. Guangma says that never have I ever met someone as terrible as Sohan. With that being said, Guangma becomes unconscious and he falls down to the ground. Sohan comes up to him and informs Guangma that he is weary, so he should take a good rest. After a few hours, Guangma wakes up from his slumber. He is shocked to find out that he is still alive. Later to his surprise, Sohan is sitting near him as well. Guangma asks Sohan why did he not kill him. Sohan says that he will decide whether to kill him or not. Guangma remembers that this is the same answer he gave to the cavalry squad leader. Guangma sighs and then says that Sohan must be eavesdropping at that time. Sohan laughs to himself without replying back. Guangma is thinking that Sohan is laughing, which means he had plenty of chances to kill him in the past. Guangma asks him why he didn't join the Orthodox factions when he had the chance, and Sohan tells him that the Orthodox alliance is hostile toward him. Hubei alliance is in a bad state. Zhongnan just lost 3 of their elders, and the Zhuge clan's patriarch died. The subsidiary families of Zhuge clan will soon fight over the position of the next successor. Guangma says that it means that Wudang sect and Mount Hua sects are the only 2 factions left. Sohan informs Guangma that the Wudang sect will not clash with them. Guangma asks him the reason for that. Sohan informs him that he already met the Sword Immortal. Guangma is curious to know how Sohan survived after meeting the Sword Immortal because he's really powerful. Sohan says that he's not an evil person like the 4 fiends, so why would the Sword Immortal kill him? And Guangma replies by saying that Sohan is worse than the 4 fiends. Sohan replies by saying that he is wrong, and he only killed Yoma and Sekma because they came after him. Plus, he only killed those who deserved to die, and the Wudang sect has done the same thing for as long as you can remember. While the whole Wudang sect thinks of the unorthodox factions as the demonic cult as their enemies, but the Sword Immortal is different. He doesn't differentiate between the orthodox faction, unorthodox factions, and even the demonic cult. He only differentiates between those that should be killed and those who should not be killed. Sohan also spared Guangma for now because he's not that much evil, and he never killed women or children. Guangma asks him what he's going to do with the Mount Hua sect, and Sohan replies by saying that he will know what to do once he meets them. Guangma asks Sohan once again why did he spare his life. Sohan tells him to shut up and make sure to answer his questions properly. Guangma says that he's not afraid of death, and he further elaborates by saying that he is confident in his ability to fight, and he can at least chop off one arm of Sohan before dying. Sohan tells him to go ahead and try his best, which shocks Gwangma a little bit. Gwangma tries to gather his inner force, but for some reason he cannot gather it. Sohan gets up and he tells Gwangma what would have happened if he really wanted to kill him. First, he would strip him naked and throw him in front of the doorsteps of a smaller or unknown orthodox sect. Then, they would become pretty popular for slaying the berserk fiend Gwangma, and everyone will say that Gwangma must be a loser because he got killed by these nobodies. This pisses off Gwangma, but he keeps his feelings to himself. Sohan says that if he don't want that to happen, then he should take his own life right here. After that, Sohan will spread the rumors that Gwangma took his own life because he was scared of Sohan. Gwangma is not afraid of dying, but getting his reputation ruined by this vicious bastard Sohan. Gwangma asks Sohan what he wants from him, and Sohan replies by saying that he wants information about the White Heaven demonic cult. Gwangma says that the White Heaven demonic cult was formed by the followers of the Absolute Ruler. The real Absolute Ruler is dead for a long time, and the current cult leader is probably the 8th generation. If they chose to reappear in the Murim, then it means that they have learned their lessons from the past. Sohan asks him if the white demonic cult bastards are strong, and Gwangma says that he has no idea. Sohan tells Gwangma that he wants him to stand in the vanguard if a war between White Heaven demonic cult, the South Yangtze River forces, or the Murim's top 10 strongest warriors breaks out. Sohan further says that he wants Gwangma to be the vanguard leader. Gwangma asks why would he do that. Sohan says that he is simply finding a place for him to die, but Gwangma says that he will find his own grave. Sohan threatens him by asking if he's in a position to choose where he dies. Gwangma stays silent because he's out of options. Sohan tells Gwangma to throw away his identity as Gwangma the Fiend right here, and Sohan will help him with it. Gwangma asks him what he means by that. Sohan says that he will use his subordinates to spread the rumor that Gwangma is dead. Sohan further explains that Gwangma can change his appearance using face masks, which is pretty useful. No one will be able to guess that someone on the level of Gwangma is hidden within his forces. Sohan is someone who makes enemies everywhere in the world. Most people hate him because he commands most of the forces of unorthodox faction, and if Gwangma stays by his side, then he will be able to meet all sorts of martial masters in the Murim world, and he will be able to fight them to his heart's content. Gwangma is thinking that this Sohan bastard is a real psychopath. Gwangma finally agrees with him, and he asks for an antidote. Sohan says that he will give him the antidote once the time is right. Sohan further informs him that his new name will be Il Seng. Gwangma says, what kind of lousy name is that? Sohan warns him once again to not let this new life go to waste. The next night, a new recruit arrives at the inn Deadeye works at, but he's not listening to any of Deadeye's commands. Deadeye throws his cloth on the table and he orders the new rookie to clean up the place. But the new rookie is not listening to his orders, and he tells Deadeye to clean the inn on his own. Deadeye gets furious, and he tries to scare the newbie, but the newbie seems to be unfazed by his empty threats. Deadeye gets back, and he asks the newbie for his name. Newbie informs him that his name is Il Seng. Deadeye says that he looks so fucking normal, but he's acting so high and mighty. Gwangma asks Deadeye for his name. Deadeye says that he can't share his name with nobodies like him. Gwangma uses some of his inner force to scare Deadeye. This trick works on Deadeye as he has some good intuition, and he introduces himself to Gwangma. He further says that Il Seng must be pretty strong since he is sent here by Sohan himself. Without wasting any time, Deadeye starts cleaning the tables while Gwangma is thinking that this bastard is so weak, but Sohan must have put them together for some purpose. Gwangma asks Deadeye for some liquor. Without wasting any time, Deadeye runs toward the kitchen to get alcohol. After some time, Deadeye explains how he helped Sohan by stopping Sekma the Fiend in the past. Gwangma starts laughing out loud after hearing that stupid story. Gwangma is thinking that Sekma must have gone real nuts because a lowlife like Deadeye managed to stop him. Gwangma laughs out so loud that he drops to the ground, and Deadeye is thinking that there is definitely something wrong with this guy's head, but he's really strong as well. A martial master arrives at the inn carrying a message from Sohan. In the message, Sohan stated, "Come if you enjoy hot springs." Deadeye becomes happy as he just got invited by their alliance leader himself. The martial artist shuns him by saying that this message was not for a weakling like him. After a few hours, Sohan is relaxing at the hot springs. Gwangma arrives there and Sohan inquires about his injuries. Gwangma says that his wounds healed a while back. Gwangma further says that Sohan has some real balls because he lied to him about the poison. It turns out Gwangma was not poisoned and his internal energy is recovering quickly. Sohan compliments him by saying that he is straightforward and he could have hidden this fact. Gwangma gets serious and he asks Sohan if he's truly not afraid of him. Sohan says that this is the same question he wants to ask him. Gwangma says that their conversation is becoming pointless. Sohan says that he is correct because neither of them fears the other, and that's the kind of man they were both born as. Sohan starts explaining why he really summoned him here. It turns out another unorthodox alliance leader wants to meet Sohan. Gwangma inquires about these guys. Sohan informs him that he belongs to the Hanzhong unorthodox faction, which is south of his faction. They are probably trying to show that they are the strongest in the Shaanxi unorthodox factions. The meeting they asked for is just for formalities. It's quite obvious that they want to use this meeting as an excuse to get rid of Sohan. Plus, they have limited the number of people who can attend this meeting to 10. Il-seng says that he wouldn't be surprised if the whole Hanzhong unorthodox faction appears at the meeting location. He further explains that most of the unorthodox factions are like this, and they are totally unpredictable. He is sure that they will be planning a few things like traps, poison, or hidden weapons at the meeting location. Sohan informs Gwangma that they already know Sohan has caught up to their plans. They think that Sohan will appear at the meeting place thinking that the meeting is a trap. Gwangma says then this is going to be quite interesting. Sohan says that it is indeed interesting, so they will be bringing more than 10 people. Gwangma asks Sohan what is he planning to do next. Sohan says that they should both head over to the Hanzhong meeting place by themselves. Gwangma stops replying for a second, and Sohan wonders about what this lunatic may be thinking about. Gwangma don't want to go there alone with Sohan, so he makes up an excuse that he will protect his faction in his absence. But Sohan is not buying any of his bullcrap, so he tells him that it is now final that he will be going together with Sohan. This makes Gwangma quite angry, but he keeps it to himself. He then calms himself down and asks Sohan about what he intends to do to Hanzhong unorthodox faction after the meeting. Sohan says that if they are all trash like the Wild Green Alliance, then they will all die by his hands. However, if they are familiar to his image of an unorthodox faction, then he will take them in. Il-seng says that there is no need to take them in because there are only going to be 1 or 2 of them who can prove to be useful. Sohan says that he don't care about the level of his subordinates. There are always people who can improve later. And someday, he will make his unorthodox faction so strong that no one can dare to mess with them. Sohan further orders Gwangma to scout out true men among the Hanzhong unorthodox faction. If there is a scheme, he needs to destroy it. And if there is anyone who deserves to die, then he needs to kill them. And if he feels like it's no longer fun anymore to live as Il-seng, then he can leave at any time and live his life as Gwangma the Fiend. Gwangma asks Sohan if he will really allow him to leave like that. Sohan asks him, is there anyone capable of holding him here? This gives Gwangma some relief, and he compliments Sohan by saying that he is a strange person. Gwangma starts leaving, and he tells Sohan that he can call him once he is ready to leave for the meeting. The very next day, both of them start moving toward the meeting place. Gwangma asks Alliance leader Sohan Jin to pick up the pace because they are almost at the meeting place. Sohan seems to be busy looking at the river, and he asks Gwangma if he knows how to swim. Gwangma starts bragging about how he won hundreds of battles on mountains and more than 50 battles on water, so swimming is going to be a piece of cake. Sohan tells him to stop bragging about his fights, as he only asked him if he knows how to swim. Gwangma is pissed at him, but he keeps his feeling to himself, and after a while, they arrive at the meeting place. There seems to be some people already present at the spot. Gwangma says that there are barely 5 people present here instead of 10, and maybe they only came here with their best people. Both of them move up to their final destination, and the Hanzhong faction martial masters get up to greet them. Their leader introduces himself as Song Jung-hoo. Sohan politely introduces himself to Song Jung-hoo. Song Jung-hoo says that he finally met the infamous Sohan Jin, but he is wondering why he only brought 1 person instead of 10. Sohan says that this is just how he rolls. Song Jung-hoo asks Gwangma about where he's from. Gwangma sits down without replying to his question. This pisses off the martial masters of the Hanzhong faction. Sohan tells them to not care about his subordinate, and he will introduce him later to them. All of them sit down so the meeting can officially start. Gwangma keeps on sighing again and again. This pisses off Sohan, and he tells him to stop spoiling the atmosphere. Gwangma shuts up, and Sohan asks the Hanzhong faction leader if there is no wine here. Song Jung-hoo asks him why he needs wine. Sohan says that his subordinate will only stop if he stuffs himself full of wine. Gwangma asks Sohan to talk in a nicer tone to him. Song Jung-hoo is thinking that they are both not afraid and that they can poison the wine. Song Jung-hoo orders the staff of a nearby inn to bring some wine for them. So-han compliments Sung Jung-hoo for choosing this place as the view here is really great, and it's quite impossible to plan an ambush here because this is an open area. The martial masters belonging to the Hanjong faction remain silent as they don't know whether So-han is complimenting or bad-mouthing them. So-han introduces Gwangma as his escort Il-seng, and he further informs them that he got a bad temperament, but he will shut up once he will get some wine. Gwangma asks him when did he become his escort. So-han replies by saying that you should have told me earlier if you're not my escort. The whole atmosphere becomes silent, but the martial masters of the Hanjong faction become mad because So-han is taking this meeting as a joke. After a while, the errand boy arrives with the wine. There is something fishy going on as if this errand boy is waiting for a signal. So-han tells him to stop staring and pour the wine. The errand boy starts pouring the wine while Sung Jung-hoo is thinking that this is going more smoothly than expected, and So-han is a fool who didn't realize that they already poisoned the wine. So-han gets angry at the errand boy and he tells him that he's a fool, and who do he thinks he is serving the wine to first? The errand boy is not sure what So-han means by that. So-han grabs him by the collar and asks him, who do you think he is? The errand boy says that he knows that he's the alliance leader So-han. So-han smacks his face while saying that you know that I am the leader, yet you are serving wine to my escort first. So-han is about to smack him again, but Sung Jung-hoo tells him to stop, and he will apologize on his behalf. So-han asks Sung Jung-hoo why he is so riled up for a mere errand boy who works at an inn. Sung Jung-hoo says that beating an innocent civilian is not so great. So-han says that it is okay if he's a mere waiter, and then he smacks him once again. After that, So-han throws him away. The waiter starts bleeding from his mouth, and he's giving off an angry look to So-han. So-han says that his eyes look like he's dying to kill someone. He will even believe him if he tells him he's an assassin. The martial masters become alerted after hearing it because they think that maybe they got exposed. The errand boy gets afraid and he says that he's not an assassin. So-han tells him to get out of his sight and he starts leaving. Gwangma asks So-han about why did he beat him because it is understandable that Gwangma is older, maybe that's why he was serving him first. So-han tells him to shut up and enjoy his drink, and he wishes Gwangma best of luck for ingesting the poison. Gwangma says, poison my ass, and he drinks the wine. Sung Jung-hoo is thinking that everything is going smoothly, and if now So-han drinks the wine, then it will become easier for them to take care of him. So-han interrupts his thoughts by asking him about why did he call him here. Sung Jung-hoo says that he heard So-han was thinking of unifying the Hanjong Unorthodox faction, so he thought he should come for a visit. He further reminds So-han that Hanjong Unorthodox faction has never bowed to anyone before. So-han sits down while saying that he is correct, and an unorthodox faction should never bow to anyone. So-han asks him about what he should do in order to unify the Huashan Unorthodox faction. Gwangma says that he don't need to do anything as they will fight among themselves and a few of them will end up dead. So-han tells him to stay quiet and mind his own business. Gwangma stops for a few seconds and he gets back to drinking the wine. Their bickering is getting annoying and Sung Jung-hoo thinks that they're doing this on purpose. He then uses telepathy to tell his fellow martial masters to look for a chance to attack first. Gwangma catches up to their scheme. He puts down his cup on the table. Then he starts pouring some inner force into his arm. His veins start popping with poison from the wine he just drank. He then pours all of that poison back into their cup. All martial masters get stunned after watching this incredible act. Gwangma says that this poison is quite deadly, and one of them will have to drink it today. So-han asks faction leader Sung if he really poisoned his wine, and if he has anything to say in his defense. Sung Jung-hoo remains silent. So-han says that they will put the poison aside for now and resume their talk first. Sung Jung-hoo is thinking that maybe So-han is out of his mind, and he still wants to talk in this bizarre situation. So-han says that he will ask 3 questions. First, if the Huashan and Hubei factions made a union, and if this union overturned Chang'an unorthodox faction and went down toward Huazhong faction, then what will they do? Sung Jung-hoo is not sure why So-han is asking these stupid questions. So-han says that his silence means that he has not thought about this situation before, so he moves to the next one. He informs Sung that he killed the patriarch of Jegal faction in order to destabilize the union of orthodox factions. The 3 elders of Zhongyan faction and the Iron Cavalry squad of Hubei was also destroyed by Gwangma before he was killed by So-han. Therefore, the orthodox union will not be formed for a while. Meanwhile, Gwangma is thinking that this vicious bastard already planned it all out, and he killed them using him. Sohan further informs them that the White Heaven demonic cult will resume its activities soon as well. This information shocks the faction leader Song Jung-hoo. Sohan asks faction leader Sung about what will he do once the White Heaven demonic cult will come after his faction after getting rid of Sohan and his faction. Song Jung-hoo remains silent as he didn't think of this situation before as well. Sohan says that his second question is unanswered as well, so he will move on to his third question. He asks Song Jung-hoo about how will he and his faction respond if the Orthodox sects and the White Heaven demonic cult come after him before getting rid of Sohan and his faction. Faction leader Sung is thinking that it is quite possible that they will come after his faction since Han Jung has an abundance of resources. Sohan says that faction leader Sung is so dumb that he didn't think of any future threats. Sohan says that it's okay, and he asks him a fourth question. Sohan asks him about what he will do once his faction is forced to take on an opponent that they cannot defeat, and all innocent citizens of his region were to die. Then who will he call for help? Faction leader remains silent, but he is quite annoyed by this question. Sohan says that maybe he will call these three people sitting next to him. Sohan can already tell that these three must be leaders of some other region's unorthodox faction, and he won't ask them for their real identity, but he points toward the fourth martial master who is annoying him a bit. Sohan says that unlike others, he looks like he's here only for money. Sohan says that he has no right to sit here, and he should run away before Sohan rips his face apart. The martial master gets up to leave. But that was a hoax as he pulls out a kunai from his clothes. Without wasting any time, he leaps towards Sohan to finish him off. But before he can strike Sohan, Gwangma catches his hand and he puts a little bit of his inner force to his grip. The martial master is in pain and Gwangma is effortlessly keeping him in check. Gwangma then puts some inner force in his other hand. He then grabs the martial master with his hand and he starts choking him. The other four faction leaders who are watching this unfold in front of their eyes are in awe. They have no idea how a mere bodyguard overpowered a martial master with ease. Gwangma then picks up the cup filled with poison. He then thanks the martial master for stepping up as he was looking for someone to drink this. Gwangma congratulates the martial master for being the lucky one. Gwangma pours the poison inside his mouth after opening it with force. He then smashes him to the ground, telling him to swallow all of the poison. The martial master starts choking on the poison and crying for help. The other faction leaders are now fully afraid as they know that they can be next. Sohan tells them to compose themselves as the meeting has not ended yet. Gwangma gets back to his seat, while faction leader Song is thinking that he didn't knew that Gwangma was this much skilled. The elites he already picked would rush over if he sent a signal, but he's not sure if they can survive until they get here. Sohan tells faction leader Song that he is disappointing him more and more. He further says that Song Jung-hoo, don't you understand, you are lowering your value. Faction leader Song has no idea about what Sohan means by lowering his value. Sohan says that he has quite a few useful subordinates and he will have more in the future. Song Jung-hoo thinks of this as a threat, as if Sohan is saying that he can easily kill faction leader Song and appoint one of his subordinates as the leader of Hanjung unorthodox faction. Song Jung-hoo asks Sohan about what he wants them to do. Sohan gets up from his seat and he goes toward the dying martial master. Sohan says that it would have been nicer if his fame or terror was more than the money he received. The martial master begs for his forgiveness and he tells Sohan that he's from Sichuan Tang clan. Sohan gets even more angry and he asks him why he would put his clan in danger by saying that. The martial master is not sure about what he did wrong just now, but before he can say anything else, Sohan uses a kick which goes through the neck of the martial master. The martial master dies there on the spot. Sohan warns the other three martial masters to reveal their names and affiliations, and they have only one chance. The first martial master says that he is Chun Mu-jung from the Sohwa unorthodox faction. The second one introduces himself as Mak I-gyol from the Illuminator unorthodox faction, and the third one introduces himself as Ju Ja-wi from the Shikwan unorthodox faction. Sohan says that this meeting must be a great opportunity for them all since they managed to gather here, but he warns faction leader Song because he made two mistakes. The first one was using poison, and the second one was using the assassin. Sohan says that it is still fine since that's the way of the unorthodox sects, and he will now find out if faction leader Song makes a third mistake. Faction leader Song is not sure about what Sohan means by third mistake. Sohan orders him to call out the ones laying an ambush. Faction leader Song gives a signal to his men to come out. In just a few seconds, all hidden experts arrive at the meeting place. They surround the meeting place and wait for their next order. Guangma says that they gathered quite a lot. Faction leader Song informs Sohan that these all of his men. Sohan then orders them all to kneel. They are thinking that they are quite strong and kneeling in front of their subordinates is a bit too much. Mak Egil gets up from his seat. He then orders his men among the elites to sheathe their swords. All of his subordinates sheathe their weapons without any delay. He informs his subordinates that their Illuminator Unorthodox faction will be under Alliance Sohan Jin command if he loses this battle. All of his subordinates say yes sir to his order. Mak Egil tells Sohan that whether he dies or loses this battle, he will kneel to Sohan after the duel. Sohan is glad as this is how a martial master from the unorthodox faction is supposed to act. Guangma tells him to fight him first. Mak Egil says that he will have a duel with him later, but today he will be challenging the alliance leader Sohan. Guangma is thinking that this guy is quite useful. Sohan becomes happy after hearing it and he says that it was worth coming to this meeting. Both Sohan and Mak Egil go out in the open ground for their duel. After reaching a suitable spot, Sohan tells Mak Egil to get ready. Mak Egil unsheathes his sword and he tells Sohan that he is ready. Without wasting any time, he covers himself with inner force and he jumps towards Sohan. He tries to strike Sohan but Sohan steps back a bit to avoid it. Mak Egil keeps on attacking Sohan but his attacks are not fast enough. He tried to pull a sword barrage technique on Sohan, but Sohan deflects his attack instead of dodging this time. Sohan cuts off some of his hair while he is stunned. Sohan then strikes him again and again. Mak Egil uses all of his force to deflect the sword strikes of Sohan. Mak Egil now knows well that Sohan is unbelievably strong, but he thinks he can still beat him if he goes all out. Mak Egil uses all of his force to strike Sohan, but Sohan easily deflects his attacks, and it seems like his speed has gotten faster as well. Sohan puts some of his inner force to his leg, and he uses that leg to kick Mak Egil. The impact of the kick was quite strong and Mak Egil gets thrown into the distance. Before he can get up, something gets struck next to him. It turns out Sohan had thrown one of his dual crescent blades toward Mak Egil. Sohan says that his hand must have slipped, and he requests faction leader Mak to pick up that sword for him. Mak Egil picks up the sword and he gets up. He then returns the sword while thanking Sohan for sparing his life. Sohan sheathes his blade and he tells Mak Egil to move to the next step. Mak Egil is utterly lost, but a promise is a promise. Mak Egil is about to tell his subordinates that from now on, Sohan will be their leader, and he's about to kneel down as well. But Sohan interrupts him by asking him if he will be on his side from this point onwards. Mak Egil is surprised to find out that Sohan didn't ask him to be a subordinate. Mak Egil pays his respect to the alliance leader Sohan, and he tells him that he will stay alongside him from now on. Sohan asks the Illuminator Unorthodox faction elites if they think the same. All of them get down on their knees while shouting that they will be alongside Alliance leader Sohan. Sohan gives them his word saying that from today onwards, the enemy of Illuminator Unorthodox faction will be his enemy. Faction leader Sung is thinking that he made a mistake and he should have responded like Mak Egil. Sohan looks back and he says that now there are only 3 factions left whose fate will be decided right here. All faction leaders are a bit afraid as Sohan is a bit unpredictable. Sohan says that they have not done anything good for him, as they hired assassins and they tried to poison him. They couldn't even step up like Mak Egil, and he further says that he understands that they all have strong egos as faction leaders. He asks them once again if they think they can win against Sohan. Guangma starts laughing out loud like a maniac because Sohan turned out to be much more meaner than he imagined, and the expression on the faces of these 3 faction leaders is quite comical. Sohan tells Guangma to shut up because he's too old to be acting like a maniac. Sohan pulls out a wooden box from his pocket, and Guangma warns him not to lecture him. Sohan throws the wooden box containing 3 pills in front of the faction leaders. Guangma asks him about these pills. Sohan tells him that these pills are counter for the poison wine they just fed him. Sohan tells the faction leaders to eat the poison pills, but to make this fair, he will drink the poison wine. The faction leaders are not sure what this maniac is going to do to them. Sohan pulls up the poison wine cup and he says that he will continue the conversation with those who survive. Sohan says that he will go first, and with that being said, he starts drinking the poisonous wine. Without wasting any time, faction leader Song gets down on his knees. He says that he along with his Hanshong unorthodox faction will swear loyalty to him. Sohan says it is too late, and he keeps on drinking the poisonous wine. The faction leaders think that Sohan is really crazy as he drank the wine knowing well that it is poisoned. Sohan breaks the cup while telling them to take the pills if they don't want to die. Without wasting any time, all of them pick one pill. They gulp the pills down, thinking that they are dead either way. Sohan sits down and he tells them that they can collect their antidote from Chang'an, and now they will continue their meeting. First, Sohan call out Chun Mu-jung, and Chun Mu-jung asks Sohan for his orders. Sohan gives him 60 days to bring all the unorthodox faction leaders from Gansu province to Chang'an. He further says that he don't care even if he has to persuade or force them. Anyone who doesn't come will be killed later by Sohan. Chun Mu-jung bows down and he says that he will do it. Sohan then moves on to Ju Jiahui. Sohan gives him 60 days to go with faction leader Mak Yi-gyol and overpower all unorthodox factions in Sinchuan. And they need to bring all leaders of Sinchuan unorthodox factions to Chang'an. Both leaders obliged to the orders of Sohan without any further questions. Sohan then call out faction leader Song. Sohan tells him that the faction leader Jie Galpyo is dead, and soon there will be a fight to decide who will be the new patriarch. Faction leader Song has 60 days as well to manipulate the situation so that the indirect lineages point their swords at each other. Song Jung-hoo obliges to Sohan's command without any hesitation. Sohan further informs them all that he will not be lazing around while they are working, so he tells them to check what happens to the Zhongnan sect once they return from here. Guangma asks him if both of them are going to hit the Zhongnan sect on their own. Sohan says that whether he hits them, poisons them, or kills them, he will figure out on his own. What's important is making sure that no one wants to be enemies with him. With that being said, finally, the meeting is concluded. After some time, Sohan and Guangma are moving through a forest. Guangma asks him if he saw their faces earlier. Sohan tells him to not forget that his face was similar to them not too long ago. Guangma says that it is true, and he asks him again if he's really going to wage a war against the Zhongnan sect with just the two of them. Sohan asks him if he's an idiot. Zhongnan is a proper faction and they are not pushovers who will be taken over by two martial masters. Guangma asks him, then why are we heading toward Zhongnan Mountain instead of Chang'an? Sohan says that they will buy some disguise masks on the way and a few swords. They will change their names as well, and he's thinking of Wandering Warrior Mongwol as his new name. Sohan says that the name of Guangma will be Guangwol. Guangma gets excited for some action as he thinks that they are changing their identity to pretend to be some wanderers or martial artists who are going around challenging strong people. Sohan tells him that he is wrong because the Zhongnan sect is quite strong, and in the past, they have fought against the Mount Hua sect for superiority in Shanxi. They are just going there to learn from them, and he tells Guangma that he should not be so violence-driven all the time. Guangma laughs while saying, okay, let's learn a thing or two from them. Guangma is thinking that he will just reveal Sohan's identity if things get messy and run to Chang'an first. Sohan is thinking the same thing, that if things go wrong in Zhongnan Mountain, he will just reveal the identity of Guangma the Fiend and run away. After some time, they reach a town in Zhongnan territory. Sohan has already disguised himself as Wandering Warrior Mongwol. Sohan changes his voice and he asks Guangma if this new voice matches his appearance. Guangma says that this voice is quite cool and it doesn't match his real voice at all. Sohan is acting as a character who coincidentally came across a martial arts technique in the mountains and he doesn't know anything about his own background. And Guangma is supposed to be a senior who didn't even get the family secret skill passed down despite being the elder brother. They stop near a spot where a lot of Zhongnan martial halls are located. Sohan puts down his luggage and he tells his senior brother Guangwol that it is time to earn some money with the show. Guangma says that Sohan already has a lot of money. Sohan informs him that a real man earns money the dirty way. With that being said, Sohan starts doing acrobatics using swords and apples. The people present around are all enjoying his performance. Sohan throws the apples in the air. Then he chops them all up using a smaller air cross slash skill. Sohan gets a lot of appreciation from the crowd. People from the Zhongnan Martial Hall were also present there and they say Sohan is quite good with his petty tricks. Sohan introduces himself as Mongwol, the 18th victor of Unrivaled Duo. The Martial Hall members are thinking that his name is quite pretentious for a couple of performers. He further informs the audience that he learned the blade art of the Unrivaled Duo, and his senior brother here learned the Unrivaled Duo's palm and fist techniques, and also the divine indestructible Vajra arts to reinforce his body. Some people from the audience say that they are curious to know about his divine indestructible Vajra arts.
So-an tells them all that they will show them the Vajra arts, but before he starts the performance, he informs the audience that they are both trainees who are wandering everywhere under heaven. They will use the money they collect from them all to eat well, sleep well, and shit well to become great martial artists. He further says that he hopes the audience will invest in them so they can become great martial masters. The citizens are quite pleased with his recent performance, so they start showering them with money. So-an thanks all of them for their contribution. So-an goes to Gwangma while telling him that it is time to show them the divine Vajra arts. So-han then picks up a sturdy wooden stick. He then slams the wooden stick into the ground to show the audience that there is no trickery here. Without wasting any time, he gets ready to attack Gwangma with it, but Gwangma manages to dodge it in time. The audience starts laughing. So-an says that he was just joking, and for something like this, he should go for the head, not the shoulder. So-an tells his senior brother to get ready. Gwangma goes up and he gets ready to show his heavenly Vajra arts. So-an tells him to get ready and he will strike him after the count to 3. But So-an cheats and he strikes the head of Gwangma using all of his force before the count of 2. The sturdy wooden stick breaks, which leaves the audience in awe. Gwangma is quite angry at So-han, but So-han cheered the audience by chanting Vajra arts. The martial hall guys say that it looked like he really hurt him quite hard and maybe put a crack in the wood beforehand. So-han hears it all and he shouts out loud, "Who just said that?" So-han picks up another wooden stick and he starts moving toward the martial artists from the martial hall. He points the wooden stick toward their leader while asking him if he will take responsibility for what he just said. The leader mocks So-han by saying that his legs are shaking because So-han is so scary. And he further says that no one knows that he must have put a trick to the wooden stick. So-han asks him, "Then why don't you take a hit from the fake wooden stick?" The leader tells So-han to mind his manners, and if he don't know who he is. So-han says that it doesn't matter who he is, and if his claims of this wooden stick being fake are true, then it won't hurt to get hit by it. The audience is quite angry at the leader, and they tell him to take the hit. They keep on mocking him by saying that a martial artist from Jeongnan is afraid to take a hit from a wooden stick. The martial artists start leaving the scene after saying that they don't have time for these jokes. So-han mocks them by saying that they must be scared. The leader becomes agitated and he tells So-han to repeat himself. So-han again mocks them by saying that he must be hearing things, and he just wished best of luck to all Jeongnan martial artists. The leader comes up to So-han and he says how dare a mere performer say that Jeongnan faction martial artists are scared. So-han tells him to stop the act and just say that he's scared. This pisses off the martial artists and he tries to kick So-han for his impudence. So-han tries to fake his counterattack with the wooden stick. Then he gets kicked, which sends him flying into the distance. All of a sudden the leader realizes that his face is bleeding. He has no idea how he got hurt. The wooden stick of So-han has some blood on it, which indicates that he attacked the martial artist when he kicked him at the same time. So-han says that he is sorry for this mistake. This makes the martial artist even more angry, and he swears at So-han. So-han pretends by saying that he just swung his wooden stick without thinking. Gwangma saw it all happen, and he knows well that So-han did it on purpose, and he wants to smash the head of So-han. So-han acts scared, and he says that you are the one who attacked first, and now you're gonna unsheath your sword for such a trivial matter? The martial artist tells him to not be afraid, and he just needs to follow them to the martial hall. So-han asks his senior brother Gwangwol about what they should do. Gwangma has no idea about how he's going to reply, so he stays silent, and So-han takes his silence as a yes. So-han starts following them to the martial hall, and he tells his senior brother to bring the money with him. With that being said, both of them start following the martial artists. The citizens say that the Jeongnan martial artists are being too rough on that poor boy, and they will clearly remember their faces to report them. So-han thanks the citizens for their support, and he tells them to not worry about him. The citizens tell the unrivaled duo to take good care of them. So-han starts waving at the crowd, which makes Gwangma a little bit ashamed. He is thinking that there is something amazing about this guy as he managed to win the affection of so many people in such a short span of time. After some time, the unrivaled duo arrive at the Jeongnan Martial Hall training ground. The martial artist introduces himself as Shin Ji-woong, and he is a second-class disciple of the Jeongnan sect. Shin picks a training wooden sword and he tells So-han to pick one as well. So-han pulls out a knife and he tells Shin that there is no need for that. Then he starts carving up the wood, which stuns everyone present there. Shin is not a dimwit and he asks them to be honest with them. as he thinks they both came here to challenge their sect. That's why they created that drama in the market. So-an says that he should not be the one saying that because he's the one who laughed at their performance and initiated this fight. Shin says that if So-an loses, then both of them will reveal their true identities, and if So-an wins, then he will let both of them go without asking where they are from. So-an says, "What do you mean by reveal your identity? I already told you I am Mongwol of the Unrivaled Duo." Gwangma hesitates for a second, and then he says that he is Gwangwol of the Unrivaled Duo. Shin informs them that they are not fools, and they get a lot of disguised visitors who come here to challenge them. People think that the martial artists from the Zhongnan Hall are just pushovers, but most of these challengers lose to them, and he tells So-an to be grateful because dueling with real swords is forbidden. So-an then makes a straight face and asks him what is he talking about, as he already told them that they are both from the Unrivaled Duo. After some time, Shin asks him if he's done. So-an tells him that he is ready after swinging the sword a few times. All of a sudden, the captain bursts in the room, and he asks them about what is going on. Shin informs the captain that there are some visitors who came here to challenge them, and it's nothing serious since they are only going to use wooden swords. Captain says that it's going to be quite troublesome if he gets hurt, and there have been a lot of warnings from the higher-ups. Shin tells him to not worry as he will not go overboard. But before he can say anything else, his head gets bonked quite hard. So-han is the one who struck him first without any warning, and his wooden stick broke in the process. The unconscious Shin falls to the ground and his head is bleeding a little bit. Out of nowhere, So-han starts bad-mouthing Shin. The martial artists present in the hall unsheathe their swords to take revenge for their senior brother. So-han says that now all of them want to ambush him since he has won, and they're the one who said real swords are forbidden. A martial artist says that he cheated because he attacked Shin when he was not ready. So-han informs them that Shin was ready, and he's the one who asked So-han if he was ready or not. He further says that he thought the martial level of Shin is so high that he's giving an opening on purpose. After that, the whole training hall becomes silent. So-han throws away the wooden sword, and he tells the senior brother that it is time to go. But Gwangma is not sure about what he means by that. All of a sudden, So-han starts running away. Gwangma quickly gets his act together and he starts following his brother. The martial artists try to follow them, but their speed is above their pay grade. Gwangma asks him why they are running away since they could have easily killed all of them. So-han says that he will explain that later, but first, he needs to eat something. After eating to their fill, So-han and Gwangma are moving through the Zhongnan Mountain. Gwangma asks him about what was the point of this unrivaled duo performance. He asks So-han to at least give him an explanation before they are detected by the Zhongnan sect. So-han says that he is sure that someone from the Zhongnan sect first-class disciples is currently looking for them. They won't have the patriarch of the clan or the elders stepping in for the sake of their reputation just because some guys in the martial hall got hurt. So-han further informs him that they will now beat up the disciples who come after them one by one. They just need to beat them up enough so that they can't do anything for a while. Gwangma says that this plan sounds good. So-han says that he don't care if Gwangma kills them or not, but So-han will only use his wooden sword, and he will only use the real sword if it is necessary. So-han further informs him that it is not important how many they kill, and the main thing is that they need to show the world that Zhongnan sect was defeated by some random pair called the Unrivaled Duo. Gwangma is thinking that So-han knows well what the orthodox sects are afraid of, and he's using it to his advantage. Out of nowhere, Gwangma says that he now acknowledges So-han as one of the 4 great fiends. He further compliments him by saying that you are even better than Gwangma himself and other fiends. So-han asks him if he really means it, and Gwangma confirms it. So-han then belittles him by saying that he don't need his appreciation, which pisses off Gwangma. He further asks him if he knows how strong his masters are. His master, Tokma, along with his brother, Uisun, the immortal physician, are stronger than Gwangma and him. Gwangma asks So-han if he's on good terms with his masters, and if there are chances of him getting in conflict with them. So-han says even if the entire world wants to kill them, he will be still on their side. Gwangma is thinking that So-han is still loyal to Tokma and the poisoned fiend, despite the torture he suffered. Maybe it is the good fortune of Tokma, or it's just So-han's nature. After some time, they arrive at the waterfall, and So-han suggests that they should train here until Zhongnan sect finds them. After some time, both of them start meditation near the waterfall. Gwangma asks So-han how is the Zhongnan mountain compared to Wudang mountain. So-han says that this place is less relaxing. On the other hand, Wudang mountain was a wondrous place. He also felt the power of a real orthodox faction in there. Guangma then inquires about the Wudang Sword Immortal. So-han informs him that Sword Immortal is a man who truly represents the orthodox factions. So-han asks Guangma if he thinks he can win against the Wudang Sword Immortal. Guangma says that he might not know since he is young, but when Guangma was young, the most famous evil people in the Murim were the two elders of Yin and Yang. So-han asks about the details of these two elders. Guangma informs him that the Gin Cheng and Kunlung faction fell to them along with the patriarch of Ma faction. Those two brothers worked together and won against many powerful people. But once they became famous, the Wudang Sword Immortal came down from the mountain. The Wudang Sword Immortal chased them for 3 years, and in the end, they were cornered and killed by the Sword Immortal in a desert. That is why no one from the four fiends dared to mess with the Wudang sect, but So-han is the only one who went there and made it back alive. So-han says that it sounds cool knowing that he did an amazing job. Guangma says that he must have deceived the Sword Immortal into thinking that he is a good person. That's why they let him go, but in reality, So-han is worse than Guangma. So-han tells him that no one can deceive the Sword Immortal as he already knew who he was and how many people he killed. Guangma becomes amazed after hearing it, but before So-han can continue, they hear some footsteps sounds coming from a nearby forest. After a few minutes, the martial artists find the unrivaled duo, and they start heading toward them. So-han says that they will make things interesting by placing bets, and the one who laughs first loses this bet. After some time, the Zhongnan sect martial artists arrive near the waterfall where the unrivaled duo is meditating. A first-class martial artist from the Zhongnan sect introduces himself as One Day, and he asks them if they are the unrivaled duo who caused a conflict in their martial hall. The unrivaled duo remains in their meditation position without replying back. One Day asks them kindly to reply to his question. So-han raises one of his hand. Then he starts making some weird random signs. At last, he makes a yin-yang sign. Guangma is thinking that this psycho is now again up to something stupid. So-han gets up and informs his Murim seniors that he was in the middle of his meditation on the unparalleled path, and his brother is still in the middle of his key meditation. He apologizes to the martial artists of Zhongnan sect for climbing their mountain without their sect's permission. One Day is thinking that there is something wrong with So-han's body, and he is completely different from what he heard. One Day asks him about his conflict with the martial hall members. So-han says that they had a conflict, so So-han challenged a second-class martial artist from the martial hall with a wooden stick. One Day says that he heard it was not a proper spar because So-han ambushed the martial artist before the fight even started. So-han says that when the match began, Shin intentionally turned his back, and So-han thought that maybe Shin is showing his back because he is confident in his abilities. One Day looks at Shin, who is standing behind him. Shin has no words to say in his defense, so he remained silent. So-han says that if they came here for that reason, then he can apologize to them, and if they wish, he can also do an official spar with another person. One Day respectfully takes that offer, and he again politely introduces himself to So-han. So-han in return says that he will take this spar as a lesson from his senior martial artist. One Day says that they don't have any wooden swords, so he will fight with his sword in his scabbard, and So-han says that he's alright with that. After hearing about the spar, Guangma also starts using those random signs. He then finishes his meditation after making a yin-yang sign like So-han. Guangma introduces himself and he tells One Day that he will also face the martial artists from the Honorable Zhongnan sect in a row. One Day agrees with his request and he is thinking that this average-looking guy has a lot of dignity. So-han performs some acrobatic skill with his wooden stick and he informs One Day that he is ready for the spar. One Day gets in position and he says that he is ready as well. With that being said, the match starts and So-han leaps toward One Day to attack him. But it was a hoax, as So-han leaps back without attacking him. Guangma is barely holding in his laughter. Even One Day is having a hard time holding his laugh. Without wasting any time, One Day gets ready to attack So-han. Both of them keep on going back and forth for a very long time. At last, So-han does a faint wooden slash attack. He then gets One Day by doing a follow-up attack. The veins of Guangma are about to burst as he knows well that So-han can easily win this fight, but he's still using these underhanded methods. One Day got pushed back a lot after the last attack. So-han is still doing that goofy movement, but his facial expression is pretty serious, which makes it hard to see through his martial arts.
Wondae once again leaps towards Sohan for a second round. Just like last time, they keep on going back and forth, but this time, their speed is quite fast. While fighting, Sohan keeps on making weird sounds like Atu, Hiap. This is even making other martial artists to throw up from cringe. Both Guangma and the Jiangnan sect martial artists are barely holding it in because they know they cannot be the first one to laugh. Wondae knows as well that everyone is barely holding in their laughter because of him, but Sohan's skills are not laughable at all, and his each attack is quite sharp and precise. Wondae has enough of it, and he finally uses one of his skill filled with inner force. Sohan is not gonna hold back, so he uses a minor cross-slash skill to counter it. Both of their skills clash, which results in a big dust explosion. Before Wondae can prepare his next attack, Sohan leaps toward him through the smoke. He manages to kick Wondae right in his stomach. Wondae flies off until he gets crushed into a rock. The last attack of Sohan was quite powerful and Wondae got completely knocked out. Sohan then starts making different cool-looking poses. The martial artists run toward their brother to check whether he's alive or not. Guangma compliments Sohan for his improved scorpion kick. Sohan mockingly says that it is nothing compared to you, elder brother. Another first-rate martial artist was observing their fight, and he knows that this unrivaled duo is hiding their true strength. This martial artist introduces himself as Beom from the Jiangnan sect, and he compliments the unrivaled duo for their unique skills. Sohan thanks him for the compliment. Beom says that he wants to invite them both as guests to the Jiangnan sect. Guangma and Sohan agree to his offer because he's being sincere with them. After a while at the Jiangnan sect, a door to the main hall opens up, and the unrivaled duo make their way inside the building. A martial artist introduces himself as Lim Ju-hyun of the Jiangnan sect. Lim says that usually his senior brother, Jang Mun, would greet the guests, but he's not in good health, that's why he came in his place. Sohan says that it is alright. He further informs them that recently, the 3 elders of the Jiangnan sect passed away, so their senior brother, Jang Mun, is still grieving heavily for them. Guangma gets a flashback of the time where he completely wrecked the 3 elders from the Jiangnan sect along with the cavalry leader. They were quite strong, and Guangma barely managed to defeat them at that time. Lim gets straight to the point, and he says that you both claim that you go around the world for training, but that doesn't seem to be the case because he thinks both of them have not trained the same martial arts. Sohan and Guangma are both thinking that this guy is not a pushover as he came to that conclusion right after meeting them for the first time. All of a sudden, Sohan gives off a creepy smile, which makes Guangma confused. Guangma has no idea what this creepy bastard Sohan is up to now. Out of nowhere, Sohan removes the scar from his face and he ties his hair. He then brings out his cloak along with dual crescent blades. He then wears his usual attire. Sohan then gets to the point and he formally introduces himself as Sohan Jin. Everyone present there becomes stunned after hearing it, and Guangma is thinking that this psycho bastard always does something unexpected. Lim asks him if he's the same Sohan who killed 2 fiends, Yoma and Sekma, and Sohan replies with a yes. Lim then asks him about the identity of the person behind him. Guangma is thinking of going all out if Sohan reveals his true identity, but Sohan introduces Guangma as Il Seng, the best martial artist of the Mystic Lunar Alliance, and he further says that they don't need to worry about him as he's just a mere guardian of Sohan. Lim says that he has never heard about any organization by the name of Mystic Lunar Alliance. Sohan says that he will explain it if the patriarch of the Jiangnan sect comes. The patriarch does a voice transmission stating that he will be there in a moment. After some time, the patriarch of the Jiangnan sect arrives there. The patriarch introduces himself as Dam Wung-young, and Sohan politely introduces himself as well. Both of them keep on staring at each other for a few minutes. Woo-myung breaks the silence by asking Sohan why he came to visit them without proper notice. Sohan tells him that he came here to fight. Woo-myung says that if he came here to fight, then he must have a force on standby at the bottom of the mountain. Sohan corrects him by saying that only 2 of them came here to fight. Guangma is thinking that Sohan is telling them everything as it is, and he's curious to see how far this conversation goes. The martial artists are thinking that this filthy unorthodox bastard played with them this whole time. Woo-myung asks Sohan for the reason why he came here to fight with only one person. Sohan comes up to the center of the main hall. Sohan says that he cannot talk in this atmosphere of resentment, as everyone present around him is probably wondering what an unorthodox trash like Sohan is doing here. So he wants to talk after eliminating this resentment with his sword and blade first. After that, they will be able to hold a proper conversation. After hearing it, Woo-myung starts laughing out loud. He then says that Sohan sounds like a reasonable man. He then orders all of those except the higher-ups to leave the main hall. The low-ranked martial artists are a bit ashamed, but they can't do anything, so they quietly exit the main hall. Woo Myung says that it's nice to meet him since he heard a lot about Sohan. He says that he can't imagine what Sohan came here for, so he asks him for the details. As long as Sohan don't insult the Jeongnan faction, he will listen to him. Sohan says that he recovered the bodies of 3 Jeongnan elders. Woo Myung becomes a bit stunned, and he asks why would the Chang'an unorthodox faction do that. Sohan asks him if he is aware that the 3 elders fought against Gwangma the Fiend, and Woo Myung says that he is aware of that. He further asks him if he is aware that Gwangma the Fiend was already injured by Sohan before he fought against the 3 elders, but Woo Myung says that he didn't know about that. Sohan says that it was not just the 3 elders, as Hubei Alliance elite cavalry was there as well, but they were all killed by Gwangma the Fiend. Sohan further says that he was already tired with his fight with Gwangma, which lasted 2 days and 2 nights, and no one was winning, but in the end, Sohan managed to injure the hand of Gwangma, but he ran away. While Sohan was chasing Gwangma, the Hubei Alliance and the Jeongnan elders appeared there and ambushed the Berserk Demon. Woo Myung says that it sounds like Sohan was not part of that struggle. Sohan says that he's